just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, and round one is done and dusted. We're back into the full swing of things. There was highs, there was lows, there was tears, there was celebration, and everything round one. I will say the quality of the footy was absolutely fantastic. Boys, first of all, a massive thank you to everyone at the Grand Hotel at Armidale. It was an incredible night on Friday night. We really enjoyed it. Everyone was so grateful for us being there, and we were almost grateful for you guys for having us. So thank you so much for having us, Armidale, the Grand Hotel. Like, I loved it. I loved the drive up. I loved the town. I want to go back. I'm being serious. Like, I genuinely want to go back.
Mate, I loved it. I wish my family enjoyed my company as much as the people. It was unreal. Very welcoming. Great pub too. Unreal spot.
Oh, great pub. Great pub. So, yeah, thank you to everyone at the Grand Hotel. What about yourself? Did you enjoy it, Timmy?
Mate, had an absolute ball. I'm still buzzing from Friday night. I think when we first rocked up there was an older bloke, Jared, I think his name was, wearing a lime green Canberra Raiders jumper. Just knew everything there was to know about Bloke, the Raiders, and had a great yarn with him. So, you know, blokes like him make it sort of all worthwhile to make the trip out to Armidale, and just a cracker of a night.
Yeah, fantastic. So we will be in Wagga Wagga this Friday, 6 p.m. at the Riverina. So make sure to get down, guys. As we said, like, getting out to these places is extremely hard. It takes a lot of logistics, all that stuff. But we're super excited. We want to see everyone in the surrounding area in Wagga get down to Riverina and let's make it the biggest show we've ever done, because I cannot wait to get down to the south side. Drive south rather than north. See what the south side of New South Wales is. How close is Wagga to the border? Is it still substantial distance?
I'm going to go with
4 hours or so.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4 max, probably closer to 3. It's heading down Albury to Wodonga, sort of right on the border down there, and Albury play in Group 9, the same division as Wagga do.
Okay.
So big, massive footy area, really strong country footy down there.
Okay.
So probably about 3.5 hours.
Yeah, Matt. All right. Well, Wagga Wagga, Riverina, 6 p.m. Be there. Come enjoy the night. The beers will be flowing. A great live show. Yeah, we absolutely loved it last week, and we want to love it this week. So get down to Riverina and Wagga. Now, big announcement. We have a brand new partner with Bloke. I am super excited to announce that Sportsbet has now jumped on board with Bloke. We are now partners with Sportsbet. I'm absolutely stoked because they're the number one in the country. We're the number one. It's a great matchup. Their content is very similar to ours. So, yeah, it was just like a match made in heaven. And as you guys know, last year when we said we're going to start bringing on partners, we've brought on heaps of other ones like Ringers Western, who powered the country tour. We are super excited to bring on Sportsbet. And in full transparency, things like this opens up so many doors for us, guys. The content we can do with them, the access they have to the biggest superstars in the country. For example, soon I'm going to do some stuff with Volkanovski because he's with them. There's so many things that we're going to be able to do now, being partnered with the number one in Sportsbet. On top of that, it gives me opportunity, like, how much I get paid doesn't change at all. I'm still on the same or whatever, but Matty just got a raise, so he's stoked with that. He's been carrying on all week. And obviously I can pay the boys, Guru and Timmy, more as well.
Tim brought my coffee this morning, mate.
Exactly.
I didn't fucking believe it.
Exactly. And that's all. When bringing partners on board, it's not necessarily about me. It's about being able to, help the other boys get a bit more coin, all that good stuff. So super excited. But the good thing as well is the guys at Sportsbet, they were already fans of the podcast. So they were super excited to get involved purely from, they're a part of the community just like everyone listening right now. And the plans we have, guys, they're massive, they're super fun, and they're just more content for rugby league, more content for rugby league community. Let's get into the first segment brought to you by Sportsbet. And Sportsbet, they're running a new feature called Share a Bet. Basically, your mate, he puts on a multi and you want to ride it with him, you can, without having to manually put it in yourself, you can just share the bet and then tap of a button and your mate can copy it straight into their bet slip. Share the bet, copy the bet with Sportsbet. So, I mean, how good's that?
Yeah, there was a few chucked in my group chat this week. Very handy little addition there.
Mate, very handy. And we all know Sportsbet's, well, in my opinion, Sportsbet's got the best app in the game. So that's Share a Bet, guys. So let your mates know if you're on a punt and you want to ride it together, you can share a bet with Sportsbet. But it's time for accountability. Boys, the tips, we got some right, some real good ones right. We got some real good ones wrong. Let's go with the first game. Eels versus Storm. I tipped the Eels. Guru tipped the Storm, Tim tipped the Eels, Matty tipped the Eels. The Gurino comes through with the victory, with the dub, 1-for-1.
Yeah, it started on a high. Didn't finish on a high, but we started on a high, and I lapped it up on Thursday night. So we'll take that one.
Warriors Knights. I pick Warriors. Guru pick Knights. Tim Warriors. Matty Warriors. The boys, myself, Timmy, Matty, a dub there.
Back on track, boys.
Back on track. We're back here. We're back here. Panthers Broncos. We all went Panthers. How dare I? I'm a fucking dog. I'm a dog.
To be fair, when you did take the Panthers, the curse was still alive and well.
That's a good point, Guru. You saved me there. You saved me there. So we're all 1 from 3. 1 from 3, and we call ourselves footy experts. That's disgraceful. Actually, we don't call ourselves footy experts, actually. Now on to Manly versus Dogs. All picked Manly. Manly got the job done quite handedly. Cowboys Raiders. We all went Cowboys. We all went Cowboys. Even you went Cowboys. Oh, because of the heat and that.
Yeah, I tipped with the head, not the heart.
Okay, and you've done it well. So we've got it right there. Sharks versus Rabbitohs. We all went Rabbitohs. Dolphins versus Roosters. We all went Roosters. So we got that one wrong. Tigers versus Titans. We all went Titans. We got that one right.
That one was the best one in my opinion because the Titans were $2.15 outsiders.
And
so
I think, didn't we say there was value?
we said there was value, and we all went the outsider and it won. So that was probably our best of the week.
Yeah,
collectively.
I was pretty confident in that one, to be honest. I like what the Titans are doing. And they value. So we'll do our preview at the end of the show, guys. Also, got some bit of info from Sportsbet. 6 of the 8 games went under the total points line. The favourites / dogs at the line were split 4-4. Dolphins were $6.50 head-to-head. It's the biggest upset since West beat the Broncos at Suncorp last year. Oh, thanks for reminding me of that, guys. And a couple of bad beats. Para, +3.5. Harry Grant try, golden point to win by 4. Oh, fuck.
Unders in round 1, like white and rice.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And this one's the worst one. This one is like, oh, my God. So Sportsbet, they've let me know on this one. Mulatalo, first try scorer, went for Superman dive, $11. $11. Oh my God. Holy heckers. So there's your bad beats from Sportsbet. Just want to say a massive thanks to Sportsbet for coming on board. Honestly, I'm proud of it. I'm super proud that Bloke, the #1 sports podcast, is with the #1 punting agency. And it just, as I said, opens so many doors for all of us here, you know, to really do some incredible content for you guys and grow as a show. You know, we can do more nosebleed shows. We can do more live tours. There's so many more things we can do by getting partners on board to help support the vision. So, yeah, get to your Sportsbet. Use the new Share a Bet feature because it's a fantastic feature, especially in a punters club. Like, stop it. Just throw it in there.
There's got to be a Joel Kane cameo at some point.
Oh, yeah, we'll get the Joel Kane.
If we don't get Sugar Cane on, I don't know what we're doing.
Mate, we'll get whoever we want on. That's you know, it is, again, whoever we want to bring on, they said access to whoever. Yeah, the great Jolie Kane here.
One of the great storytellers.
Got a yarn in him. I saw him on Hello Sport, SEN Potty. He was incredible. Yeah. Incredible.
It was one of their better podcasts, I thought.
It was incredible, and I didn't know he actually played first grade.
Yeah, really, yeah. He had a couple of really interesting yarns in that podcast.
Oh, so go listen to that on Hello Sport because the yarns are crazy, like actually crazy. The great Jolie Kane. That's all brought to you by Sportsbet, guys. As I said, show them some love. They support us, so support them. Now let's get into... we've already spoken about, the country tour, powered by Ringers Western. Massive shout out to Ringers Western. We're wearing the kit on the weekend, and it was actually, I took it home. I actually took the kit home because I love it. Also, March 13th, that's when the collaboration, we're doing a merch collaboration with Ringers Western on March 13 at 6 p.m. We've never done work shirts before. We've got maroon work shirt. We've got blue work shirt. Plus, we've got country bloke, just T-shirts. We've got bloke trucker hats. We've never done trucker hats before. Never. So that is March 13th at 6 p.m. Set your alarms, guys. There's a limited amount. And plus, like, for the bloke community, Ringers Western is launching this, so the chances of it going quickly are extremely high because Ringers Western, they have a huge following, huge for like hundreds of thousands of people. So make sure to set your alarm. If you want the kit, set your alarm because I'll be very surprised if it's not gone quite quickly.
Shout out to Ringers Western. Stitched the big boy up with all maroon kit too. I had a look in the mirror at one point and went, oh, this isn't it.
They know the true, you know what? Because I'm pretty sure they're based in Queensland, so they got you a good one there. Yeah. They got you a good one. But big news dropping today. Sua'ali'i commits until end of 2024. Roosters also hope to lock him up longer, but at this point, he's activated his option, which is 2024. He was a target for the Wallabies, reportedly could have earned over $1 million there, whereas this seems to be $750K. South apparently threw big money at him, according to Danny Wilder. Guys, thoughts on Sua'ali'i committing till 2024?
I think it's fantastic. I am so excited to watch this kid's career play out. I personally don't think it'll always be in rugby league. I think he'll have a similar career to Sonny Bill, where he sort of jumps around a little bit just because he is so talented. But, yeah, I'm excited to see what the Roosters can do with him. Last year playing wing, his kick returns were unbelievable. He did so much work. But, mate, I am so excited to see him, you know, over an entire season be that real strike left centre the Roosters have lacked essentially since Latrell left. So I love it. And I think the Roosters, you know, they haven't started overly well, but I think they can still be super successful this year, and I think he's going to be at the front of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible get. Like, it's one of those, I guess, not a strange situation, but there wasn't really that much hype around the fact that one of the game's best superstars we've seen in a very long time could have left the Roosters in 2024.
Yeah. At the same time, I think that was because he was at the Roosters. No one handles this sort of stuff better than them realistically. So, yeah, great little story there.
I will say, though, reading that 700 to 750K mark, I go, how? Surely he's not on 750K. Like, I mean, he's worth it. I'm not saying he's not worth it, but there's no way. I don't believe it.
In terms of just the club he's at and
How?
the superstars,
It's okay. How?
Oh, I'm not allowed to say my honest thoughts.
Like, if you said to me he signed on unders to win comps, I'd be like, yep, sweet. Which I do think is the case. I don't believe he's on 700K. I don't believe it. How could he be on 700K and Joe Money be on 700K, Tedesco be on $1 million? It doesn't make that. I honestly think that he's signed on unders in hopes of winning a comp in the next year or two, which they are very likely to do. They did start quite slowly. So, and I think also the advice he's getting is like, you're so young, mate. Take the unders now, win a comp or get close to, and then the big contracts will always be there for a guy like Sua'ali'i. He doesn't need to worry about earning money. Money is going to be sorted for him for the rest of his life.
I mean, if he comes out and plays 2 years where he's shocking, potential will still get him this sort of money regardless.
Easy.
Without a doubt, in two different sports.
Easily. So, like, money, I reckon the advice he's getting is like, mate, money is never going to be an issue for you. So stop thinking about it and just think about what is the best for your career, purely footy sense. So, yeah, great get. And also, well done, like, I've got to commend South for, I guess, for chasing him that hard because, you know, they could have been really sooky and like, oh, you know, he left and we had him before, but you always want to make the decision of like what is best for the club, and that what is best for the club is a guy like Sua'ali'i signing on 800K being maybe the opposite centre to, say, Campbell Graham. Could you imagine that back line with
Imagine
Sua'ali'i?
that left side, Sua'ali'i.
Oh, my God. So I like that from Rabbitohs. I think that's really smart. I think it's really smart. And I think it shows you signs of a really well-run club that doesn't hold grudges and constantly thinks about what is best for our future.
Bunnies couldn't get him, so they switched their dominant edge to the right this week too.
Wow. I mean, tell you what, Campbell Graham, he was...
You tell he's come back from a World Cup? Or
oh, my God. He was phenomenal. And, like, you say Origin Bolter, but then you go, oh, well, he's got fucking Tom Trbojevic, Jackie White, and Latrell Mitchell in front of him. But if one of them's injured... I think I said it last year. I said he was next in line. I think he's next in line.
He could even be on a wing too, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't mind him on wing. I bet, like, fuck.
He's just still stacked there.
Yeah. I mean, New South Wales side, when you look at it on paper, you go, how?
If everyone's fit and available come Origin 1, there's almost no level of footy Campbell Graham can get to that gets him in the back line.
It's crazy. It's insane. So massive congratulations to Sua'ali'i. I think it's a smart decision. I think that there's a world where... Basically, I got a lot of shit for that last week. There's a world where I kept saying it. I didn't even realise I was saying it that much, to be honest. I don't think people appreciate how hard it is to actually host a podcast. I think they just think you just rock up and you talk. I love the
host a podcast. I host it for 4 hours.
Yeah,
you're a knock.
I like the banter though, guys. Don't worry. I'm not having a sook. I've got the best job in the world. I forgot what I was saying now. Oh, I think that I would put good money and I think the odds would be quite low on Sportsbet, he will be at the Rugby World Cup, in my opinion, 2027. Is it 2027 in Australia?
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he's not at the World Cup.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I kind of hope he is. I think it'd be entertaining just so.
Good on him.
I'd watch the World Cup all of a sudden.
You know what? You know what? Like, I feel like there was a period where we were like really scared of like losing our stars to Union, and look, maybe we're in a position of like comfortableness because we dominate the game in Australia now in regards to NRL versus Union. But I think as the years have gone on, we've all realised like there'll be another superstar. We don't have to stress out about the next superstar coming through.
It's incredible how rugby league does that. We lose these guys and you just think we're never going to see anyone like them again. Yeah. And then these teams, they don't miss them.
Well, remember the yarn around Carmichael and Israel Folau when it was like, these are superstars. We need to open the war chest to keep them. And even I was even guilty of it. Thinking like, but now as time goes on and you see year after year these guys coming through, you go, you know what, like, we're going to have a superstar.
You also see nowadays, I think probably the fear early on, particularly early to mid-2000s, you're like, oh no, we lose them to rugby union, that they've got more money to throw around, that we might lose them forever. But I think nowadays what we're seeing with lots of players, there's obviously that allure of going and playing a World Cup for, be it the All Blacks or the Wallabies, that they can go over for a season or two and come back. We're seeing that quite often. It's like, you know what, go over, play your World Cup, and hopefully we see you back in 2 years. So that's a real reality at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, you know what? I'll reach out to Sportsbet, see if we can get some markets on Sua'ali'i for Union. They'll do that. This is what I mean. This is how excited they are about the partnership. They were like, mate, if you've got something you want us to do a market on, just let us know and we'll do it. So
I hate exotics.
Yeah, so this Sua'ali'i situation, I want him to go to the World Cup. Like, I want to see it. I'd even go as far, and this one hurts me wee little heart even more. If I saw Australia, the Wallabies, running out with Cam Murray, Sua'ali'i, and even Nelson Asofa-Solomona, I wouldn't mind. Yep. I wouldn't mind. Because I know they're going to come back. We all know that. Well, most likely. And it's good for the country. Like, Wallabies with a stacked... One of the best thought exercises, I reckon, I think it was with the Hello Sport boys that we spoke about it. Someone messaged me ages ago, or maybe they brought it up, I don't know. Imagine a world where every NRL player just played Union. How would we go against the All Blacks then? So like Thurston, Lockie, like imagine a world where NRL didn't exist in the country and all of our best players played Union. Far out. Could you imagine how good that side would be?
It'd be scary.
Oh my God. Can you imagine GI? Latrell Mitchell out in the centres there? Holy shit. Anyway, let's get on to the next.
Just before we move on, so Roosters haven't actually announced Dominic Young yet. Obviously, everyone's assumed that he's going to go there, but the NRL.com have very sneakily added Dominic Young to the Roosters list for 2024 up to 2027. So I think that's confirmation that Dominic Young's going to be there for 4 years.
Oh, yeah. It's done. It's done. Dominic Young. So... Again, so that means that they'll have a backline with Dominic Young, Sua'ali'i, Joey Manu, Tupou if he stays. Holy shit.
Like, if Tupou stays and if Dom Young hits his potential, which is huge, like that's one of the best backlines ever assembled, I think.
Like, yeah.
Like, just have a look at the bodies that are in that backline alone.
We've never seen anything like it.
No.
Never seen anything like it. You've got essentially the second or third best fullback of all time in Teddy. You got Joe. Like it's insanity.
All the centres and wingers are the perfect prototype body that you want. Every single one of them.
Yeah, it's almost like even the Queensland backline didn't look like that in its dominant era. The Queensland backline didn't they had Darbs on one wing. Was it Tatey on the other wing for a bit?
I've blocked it out. Sorry, mate.
Anyway, let's get to segment 2, team of the week. So. This is a tough one. I actually changed that. Boys, did you get your chance to get your team of the weeks?
Yeah. You right if I kick off with mine?
Yeah, sure.
So fullback, I went with Tommy Turbo, which is wild because I think he was still in first gear for the vast majority of that game, but he was incredible. Ruben Garrick on one wing. I went with Jermaine Osako from the Dolphins on the other sting. Herbie Farnworth and Campbell Graham in the centres. Adam Dewey at 5'8". Lockie Elias, I went with him at halfback. Thought that was the game of his career. Up front, I went Payne Haas and Canberra Emre Gula. Thought he had a huge impact on his game. Harry Grant at 9. Felice Kafusi, the Terminator, in the back row with Fafita. Tohu Harris in 13, and then on my bench I went DCE, Josh King, Cam Murray, and my boy Jackson Ford, who I thought was tremendous for the Warriors.
Yep, Drinky at fullback, probably a bit harsh on Tommy Turbo there, but just blitzed the Raiders early on in that game, and we were sort of crawling back from that point. Garrick and Taulagi on the wings, Graham and Herbie Farmworth at the centres. I've got Adam Dewey at 6. Lockie Ellis, unlucky to miss out in the halves, but DC scored a hattie. Absolute blinder. Haas and Taniel Paseka, thought was great up front. Tohu at lock. Kufusi and Fafita in the back row. JMK, Marshall King at 9. Bench was Hopgood, Ilias, King, and the GOAT, Marky Nichols.
So I went... I had Drinky, Hamiso, or Turbo at fullback, so I don't know which... I'll go Drinky only because, like, Turbo, it's almost, like, expected. You know, like, you just go... That was a quiet game for Turbo. Yeah. That's how good he is. And I do think, like, Drinky was the difference in the first half for the Cowboys. Like, he was just so silky, man. Some of those players. I went Garrick on the wing, Farnworth, Graham in the centres. Now, you're going to like this wing. I thought he had an incredible weekend. One of the great weekends. I put the great Wayne Bennett on the other sting. The great Wayne Bennett made me sting. Look, he was amazing. Huge win. I mean, when you win like that, you deserve a spot in the team of the week. Especially when I'm the coach, bro. You're not taking the coach's spot. Jesus. I went... Now, obviously, I know this is frowned upon, but I don't care. I don't give a shit. This is my fucking team of the week, so I get to say what I want. I put Ilias at 6 because he was too good to leave out of the side. He was absolutely phenomenal. We'll get to that when we get to the game. DCE at 7, he was phenomenal. You know what was weird is like him, Lockie Croker, and Tommy Turbo with the shaved heads. I kept mixing them up. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? So, yeah, DC incredible. Haas at 8. I mean, far out. Harry Grant at 9. Ruben Cotter at 10. If you get a chance, boys, while I'm talking, go check Ruben Cotter's stats. Your pants will explode. Kofusi and Lemmy Lou. Is it Lemmy Lou? Kafusi and Lemmy Lou in the back row. Carrigan at 13. Marnie at 14. I thought he was phenomenal for the Bulldogs. Like, it's scary to think what the score would have been if Marnie wasn't playing. That's how good he was. Nichols 15. Tohu Harris 16. Fafluda at 17.
I've got to put out a public apology. I forgot Jermaine Hopgood, believe it or not. After all this,
wow.
So I might have to make a hard phone call there to someone.
Yeah, Jesus. Why do you hate Hopgood so much?
Tell me about it.
You don't even rate him. You've been riding him all off-season saying how bad he's going to be. Worst signing of the year.
I was there for the birth and I forgot him in the team of the week.
Wow, already moved on. You know, he goes away once to a live show and he fucking forgets about the little guys. Holy shit, Guru. Holy shit.
You should have seen... How was Matty the Waterboy and Guru just sitting there signing signatures to every bloke and every good-looking girl in Armidale? Guru's ego just getting bigger and bigger with every signature,
I've seen it all, mate.
Very dangerous.
Oh, my God. Like, seriously, talk about heartbreakers. They rode through Armidale. Every girl's eyes were fluttering.
Timmy signed a baby's head. They weren't even talking to him.
Okay, let's get into the reviews for the round. And don't forget, guys, Wagga Wagga, 6 p.m. this Friday, powered by Ringers Western. Then we've got Rockhampton the following week and Cairns, Gilligan the week after that. Where is just quickly. Great Western Hotel, Rockhampton, 6 p.m. next Friday. And then Gilligans the following Friday, 6 p.m. this week. The Riverina, Wagga, 6 p.m. Also, March 13th, collaboration drop with Ringers Western and Bloke. Make sure to be there because we are... Yeah, we've never done work shirts before, and it's Ringers Western. So great collab, and they're powering the country tour, the regional tour.
Kempy, me and Matty, the Waterboy, drove up together in the van, carried all the gear up to Armidale, and Matty actually decided, he was on directions, actually decided to take us via Cairns on the way to Armidale.
Oh, man, I heard this.
We hit every pothole in New South Wales on the road that we took. Like,
mate,
we were driving through cow paddocks, through everywhere.
Mate, thank you so much for calling me and telling me, because my map went the same way. And then, so basically for people listening, there's two ways you can go up to Armidale. There's the New England Highway, which is like a relatively new highway. It's not like, new and there are sections that are a bit smaller. Or you can go up this like backwards way that is genuinely dirt roads.
Yeah.
Genuinely. And these boys, you were the first to drive up?
Yeah. Well, Guru beat us there. Thanks for the heads up, mate.
Yeah, thanks for that, Guru.
Yeah.
Just followed the directions.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sitting there on Saturday morning. They're telling me about all the potholes. I'm going, fuck, these two are full of carry on. The road was fine. What are they talking about?
Guru also, he did call us to give us a bit of a warning about there being a lot of kangaroos on the road. And he goes, boys, just keep it up. Heap of kangaroos on the road. I'm sitting there going, I'm thinking big drive to Armidale, 100, 150 roos and that. Didn't see one the entire way. Then we got there, I'm like, Guru, how many roos did you see? He goes, 3.
He's kangaroo for a reason.
I'm like, I went 15 k's under the speed then just because of all the roos that were going to be on the road. I'm like, anyway.
You two didn't see any kangaroos because you drove through fucking backyards to get there. You're kidding yourselves.
Now, let's get to the review. Storm 16, Eels 12. Wow. What a game. Really exciting game. I tell you what, though, Eels, you got to be disappointed in that performance. You got to be disappointed because the game was there for you to win. It was in your hands. They dominated most of the first half. Storm do what they always do is they hang in there. They understand that momentum's going to swing, field position's going to swing. So Storm did what they did. They hung in a game and they get the job done somehow, some way. They've been doing it for 20 years now. I've got to say for the Eels, because we have them as genuine premiership contenders, you go, it's disappointing because you would hope that they're past these kind of games now. You would hope that they're past these old bad habits. Now, I understand, look, it's one round. I'm not sitting here pretending like they can't sort it out. Like I was one of the only people riding them to the death last year, even when they were getting pumped in the middle of the year. But I think that if you want to take that step into that next tier of club, these are the games that you've got to kind of ice, especially with such an experienced spine that have been together quite a long time now. Obviously, I know Hodgson is new to the spine, but the other three have been together for a while. Guru, what do you think of this game, mate?
Mate, I personally thought that Parramatta were their own worst enemy. Trying to work out what they did with their interchanges and everything blew me away. Melbourne Storm used 10 interchanges. Parramatta Eels used 7. I was very surprised that game number 1 they ran out with Josh Hodgson playing 80 minutes. I thought that was strange. I mean, it was every opportunity they possibly could. They got Jacob Arthur a gig last year. Why wouldn't you run with a utility in this game? On top of that, Makatoa, who was in their best 17 last year, he didn't get on the field.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre. I couldn't. You had Jermaine Hopgood, who as good as Hopgood was, played 84 minutes. His ass is falling out. He gets caught a second late at marker on the last play of the game that cost them. Why are these guys out there playing 80 minutes? Why? I don't understand. And I personally think, and I believe this, I think that if Ryan Madison's there and they had him coming on through the middle, I probably think they win that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think Madison being there would have been a big difference because I do think that forward pack was just too much for Storm to handle for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And you're right, that last try was purely fatigue. That's all it was. It wasn't Hopgood's not a guy that just turns off for no reason that was purely 80 minutes he was working his ass off and he's got a quick play the ball he's got to turn around for.
And I could be wrong. It was Hopgood that was getting to second marker and was it Josh Hodgson that was the A defender? I'm pretty sure it was from memory.
I thought it was Hopgood getting to A. Anyway.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was Hodgson and Hopgood, two guys that I don't know why they both had to play 84 minutes straight. You had guys on the bench, use them.
I know. It was a strange
You also
decision.
had edge back rows on the bench. Move Cartwright to 13 for a little
and
bit.
wasn't it 5 interchanges for 70 minutes or something like that?
Yeah. It was outrageous.
Do you think that he's sitting there going, I'm just preparing for the season? I don't care about dropping points?
I have no idea. I cannot make any argument for it. It's Brad Arthur. He's not an idiot. He's obviously got some sort of...
There'd be a reason for it.
There's reason for it. I desperately want to know what it is because it makes no sense to me. And you're right. I think with the interchanges used, when you got a fresh Makatoa on the bench, why in the world was he picked? Were there HIAs during the game that just screwed with the rotations or something or gave... I don't know. I think you could argue that it lost him the game.
And when you have a look at the bench, the 4 guys that were there, I thought Makatoa would have been the one they trusted the most out of all of them. And he didn't get on the field.
Well, Jack Murchie is a bloke who's played edge back row his entire career. Now, he's a good frame, but he's been there as an edge. He came on and played as a middle. You've got Makatoa, who's a genuine middle forward.
I cannot work it out. And as I said at the start, I think Parramatta were their own worst enemy. When you have a look at the minutes that the front rowers played, RCG played 59 minutes. Junior Bolo played 68.
What?
That's outrageous. For game 1, going up against the Melbourne Storm, I can't find any logic in it.
Well, the logic that I could see is that you're extremely confident that you're going to be in the top 8, and you are just trying to build towards, like, you don't mind dropping points early on in the season to give players match fitness. That's the only logic that I could see. It's like you're trying to get these boys super match fit, so that by the time the end of the season rolls around, they're good to go.
Yeah, or they're dead and can't move. Like, no, seriously, it goes as every sort of what I would have thought coaching philosophy. Early in the season, you big boys, you build them into minutes and match fitness and get them going. Like, they've got 27 rounds. So they're going to be fit by the time they get to finals. And why play them that big minutes early on? Like, poor bastard.
And just before the comments explode, that's not my opinion. I'm just... that's the logic that he could be using.
And if you are using that logic, which once again, don't hunt Kempy down. If you are using that logic and you're not going to play Makatoa, have Jacob Arthur. Hey, have Assi there. What happens if one of the halves go down? Then what do you do?
It is an interesting conversation around... The Eels bench has been questioned for at least 12 months now. You know, we were questioning Jacob Arthur being on the bench because he could only really replace one player. You know, and Dylan Brown could have been that guy if he had to. And then you roll into this year, and once again, the bench does seem quite surprising. And it's hard because if you're Brad Arthur, you're sitting there going, well, people were having to go at me for putting my son on the bench, and now I don't, and people have gone on me because I... But I think they're two different arguments, though. I don't think anyone's questioning whether Jake should or shouldn't be there. It's more the rotation of the bench this game.
Yeah, and I feel like at the start of last year was when, you know, you had Jacob Arthur coming on and Dill Brown was going to centre. I just feel like he gets a little bit too cute with his interchanges. You've got a formula that works, Parramatta. Just stick to it.
And Makatoa, like, would have been so good through the middle.
He's a good footballer.
He's explosive.
Yeah.
He's explosive through the middle. So that's where you look at everything that happened that game and you're like, one that got away. Imagine Eels rolling into round 2, taking a Storm scalp round 1.
It's huge. Like, that's a team you're directly going to competing with for a home final at the end of the season.
Yeah. And even the confidence, though, like after a grand final loss.
We'll get to the Storm in a minute, but for all those reasons that I sort of probably took more out of it for the Eels than the Storm, because of these rotations and the fact that, you know, it was a game that they were in a position and probably should have won it and they didn't. And they've got, I mean, the Storm have players out too, but Para have a bunch out. I sort of thought, you know, there's only upside from here from Para. The Storm gritted their way to it, but I've got a lot of question marks around their side as well.
Yeah, I'm not... I mean, it sounds unfair because the Storm, like, I think the Storm, they're victims of their own... Any other club gets a gutsy win like that and you're sitting there going, what a gutsy win. What a gutsy win. You know, they hung in there. They didn't look great. They didn't look... But I think because of Storm, we're like, yeah, of course. Of course they get a gutsy win. But it's like, I do think they deserve respect for their ability to just hang in there somehow, even though their roster's not as strong as it has been, even though Munster's finger friggin' snapped off. I mean, he's to come back on like that's incredible.
I know that, like, sometimes Munster, like, he's a little bit of a rogue and whatnot, but, like, if you ever want to question his leadership qualities, look at that.
Oh, like, no one would associate Munster with toughness. The bloke had a compound fracture, round 1, straps it up, there's blood everywhere, goes back out there, and basically without him on the field, there's no way they can get back into that game.
Oh, without a doubt.
There's no way.
That play that he came up with off the scrum, like, he makes stuff look so easy, doesn't he?
So good. He's so good. With a compound fracture.
Do you think, and it might sound stupid, but because the Storm had that, 22, 23 year streak of not being beaten in round 1, had that not been on the line, being round 1 compound fracture, like, mate, they had a utility on the bench to slot straight into the halves. Do you reckon that played a factor in him going back out there? I'm like, no, I want to keep this streak.
No, I think it would have been because, like, basically speaking to people at the Storm and like Cam Smith and that, the way they see things is whether it's round 1 or a grand final, we have a set of standards that we always reach. So, for example, how often do we see if it was a grand final he would have played? If it was a grand final, he would have made that tackle or whatever. Storm are trying to instill a culture, and they have instilled a culture of, you never have to say that. If it was a grand final, he would have done this. Because they say, whatever game we play, we try to play as hard, as strong as we can. And that's how they get wins like that.
Which is why they've won 23 or whatever it is, round 1 to start the season, where other clubs would have gone, you know, Camp, round 1, like, just stay off, mate.
Yeah, just stay off. Just stay off. If we drop these points, we're going to play finals footy anyway. There's nothing to worry about.
Isn't that a mate? Like, that record now of 23 in a row, whatever it is, like, every single team they've come up against would have come into that season going, okay, we can start our season off flying here if we knock over Melbourne and we finish this record.
Yeah.
To be able, and like, obviously across 23 years, the team's has changed so much every single year, and for them to hold that record, I think it's incredible.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And the way they did it, the gutsy nature. And so that's why it's going to be such a polarising next few minutes, because although you have to give them so many raps for them getting the job done and just showing that they're the grittiest team in the competition, and they will probably always be that while Craig Bellamy is involved. In saying that, they weren't that impressive in my opinion. I was really, I guess, their forward pack doesn't really have the punch it needs at this stage. Now, in their defence, Christian Walsh, he's been out with an Achilles injury for a while. Kamikamitha is injured. So they may grow into it. But when you look at the punch that Bromwich and Kofusi could bring and did bring for their new club, I tell you what, if that Kofusi and Bromwich were playing for Storm, I think they have massive impact on that game. And look, I understand it's easy for me to say, and clubs need to make calls on players when they hit a certain age. I get that. And I'm not saying that it was the wrong call for Storm to move those guys on. I'm just saying, like, compared to what they have had of yesteryear, their forward pack just lacked a bit of punch that I'm used to seeing from the Storm.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think I said on Friday night, we were at the live show, I said that, you know, if Parramatta or Storm would have played Roosters or Penrith, I think they both would have got beat that night. Maybe I should have said if they would have played the Dolphins, they would have got beat.
Yeah, not the Roosters.
I don't think either team will be overly happy with that performance. I think Melbourne will be happy to get away with 2 points, but both have a lot more to improve on out of that.
Let's we'll go back to the Eels and just get through the Eels first. Josh Hodgson, how do we rate his performance?
I thought he did really well, to be honest with you. I wouldn't have played him for 80 minutes, and there was around about the 50-minute mark, I thought his ass was about to fall out the back, but then he just found a new level to go to again. I've been saying for a long time, I don't think he should have played 80 minutes, and I wouldn't have played him for 80 minutes, but he did a lot better than what I thought.
Timmy?
I thought Hodjo was good. Really crafty for that try for Junior Barlow. Again, I said for his first NRL game back to go the distance, shows that, you know, he hasn't missed too much of a step. The combinations he has with Moses and Dill Brown, they're only get better and better. I thought there were some really good signs. He was sort of, you know, even when he wasn't sort of getting to dummy half, when they were sort of parked on the edges there, he'd sit in the middle and sort of play that link man role for them, and I thought it was really effective. I was impressed. Yeah,
I thought he was mostly really good. There were just a few moments that I think were crucial that he, especially in the end, there was a point where, and we spoke about it on the live show, but there was a point where Mitchell Moses had set up for a field goal. Dylan Brown. Now, I don't know whether Dylan Brown called the overs call. And so basically for people listening, what an overs call is basically, you know, at the Broncos, we used to call it porkies or red. No, red was in defence. Porkies at the Broncos. So whoever called porkies, the 9 is supposed to pass on the ball, no matter what. So I don't know if Dill called that, and if he did, then you've got to put the onus on Dill, I guess, for making that call. But he passed it to Dylan Brown instead of passing it to Mitchell Moses. And that was a moment where I think, like, you saw the inexperience of them all working together, because I feel like by the end of the season, he would have passed that to Mitchell Moses, knowing that, you know, Mitchell Moses is the guy in that situation. Yep. He's the guy you just have to get it to and deal with the consequences of not doing a porkies call or an overs call later. Because then what happened is basically a few minutes later, put it this way, if you make that overs call, you better make the play. It's kind of like jamming in for a winger. You can jam in if you want, but if you miss that tackle, that's a failure. And so I think that the tiny touch of difference in Harry Grant being the best hooker in their game and having played all last year for the World Cup was when he made his overs call, won the game for him.
Yeah.
And so there was a few other service things with Hodgson. This is me being super critical of Hodgson. I'm not saying I think overall he had a great game. I'm just saying there were just a few little ironing out things. I also think I do think him and Mitchell Moses are going to take a little bit longer to gel, because we did see Hodgson attack quite regularly out of dummy half. I thought it was going to take him a while to grow into that, but he seems to be quite confident in that, and it worked. Like we saw Paolo score that great try, and that was all Hodgson set up. But it's going to take a little bit of time, because we have to remember, like, this team has been so dominated by Mitchell Moses for like 4 or 5 years. And I will say, like, Mitchell Moses, whether it was I'm not saying it was Josh Hodgson's fault at all, but it did seem that Mitch Moses just wasn't really in the match that much, and that's Mitchell Moses' responsibility. It's not Hodgson, but especially in the second half, like, you know, I'm trying to, and you know, maybe I was too busy taking my shirt off eating liver, but I don't recall him having a footprint on the game in that second half. You guys would have watched
I felt very similar. Yeah.
Do you think that's a concern? Like Mitchell Moses, he should be completely controlling the game.
So the one that worried me was there was a moment, I think it was about 5 minutes ago, it was 12 all. Trent Leary was coming out of his own end. He had a bad knock on. Parramatta had a scrum. They ran out. That was the moment where I just went, what is Moses doing? That set, like they need to all know exactly what they were doing and have an objective that whole set. To turn it like on first tackle to do that when it's 12 all with a few minutes to go, that was the huge worry for me. And it was from that moment on that I went, okay, if they lose this, so be it. They don't deserve it after that.
And so I guess if you're being super critical of Eels, you would hope that after all the progress they'd made, that was out of their game. These weird situations where they just don't seem to be able to ice games. Do you think Mitchell Moses is in a space now where, for his benefit and the club's, this deal needs to get done, and sooner rather than later? Because if they go out and lose another match or two, can you get up who they're playing in the next couple of weeks? If they
Brutal draw. Really tough.
So there's a world where they go 0-3. If he hasn't re-signed yet, all of a sudden it becomes a circus around the fact that he hasn't re-signed. It's creating drama. You know what I mean? Like, you know, all the narratives that we're so used to. Who have they got, Matty?
So the Eels have got, next week, they've got Cronulla, then Manly, then Panthers, then Roosters.
Just on their draw as well, to make it even harder, they play Manly off a bye, they play Penrith off a bye, and they play the Roosters off a bye. So they play 3 teams in a row that have 2 weeks to prepare for them, which I don't know how on earth that managed to happen in the draw, that you have to play Manly, who, I mean, they're looking like the form side at the moment.
They looked incredible.
But even before that, in pre-season, you have to play the Panthers and the Roosters, the 2 premiership heavyweights, back-to-back off buys. That's outrageous. In a 17-team comp, for any team to play 3 teams in a row off buys is crazy.
It's unfair. It is unfair.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to play 3 teams fresh off buys. So, like, I think for the Eels' sake, for Mitch Moses' sake, get the deal done, bro. Get it done. Because if it's not done in the next few weeks, he is going to get annihilated. If they struggle. If they go out and they win next week, you know, there's no dramas. But if they start losing, he's going to get hizzled.
Yeah, mate, I was driving to Armidale the other night, as you know, in the lead up to the game. I had the radio on. I had a post ready. I thought they're definitely going to announce this tonight. Mitch Moses is going to announce just before kickoff to get him up for it. Yeah. It was. I can't. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet.
What do you reckon, Timmy? Do you reckon that he needs to? Is that something, or just not worry about it?
Oh, sooner the better, of course. And I think just on back to the Hodgson and his combinations with Brown and Moses. I've sort of been quite vocal about how, as much of a superstar as he was at the Raiders and how integral he was to that, being such a dominant playmaking hooker, and we thought at Parramatta, particularly coming off his ACL injury with 2 star halves there, he would take a back seat, particularly early on, and just dish early ball, provide good service. He sort of went straight back to, I don't think he overplayed his hand, but with the nature of his relationship with his 2 star halves, I thought he probably overplayed his hand a little bit. It's going to take a lot of getting used to. Like, this is Josh Hodgson, who his entire career has been almost the key playmaker in the spine of his side, especially at the Raiders. And now that's not his role.
Yeah.
So it's going to take, I think, longer than we think for these 3 to get that combination right.
And they're coming off a Reed Marnie who was genuinely willing to just service.
Yeah.
Because look how good Reed Marnie is playing at the Dogs, and you're going, where has this been? You know, it's always been there. He just hasn't had the opportunity. It
wasn't his role.
Because he's such a role player. And so I do think this Hodgson, Moses, Brown thing, just keep an eye on it. And Gutho. Because, like, even Gutho wasn't, like, their spine, I didn't really see them that involved. Which is so, like, with the Eels, it's either the Gutho show, the Moses show, or the Brown show all the time. Whereas I'd have to say it was probably the Hodjo show. Yeah,
and I, like, with the way that Jermaine Hopker was offloading, I thought, geez, this is great for Parramatta. Yeah. This is unreal. But even off the back of that, their second phase footy was non-existent compared to what we've seen last year and the years leading up to it.
It's going to be interesting.
That's the problem, Kempy. It's always the Hodjo show, and I don't say that as if it's a good thing. He needs to learn to take a step back and say, you know what, Like, he doesn't need to role play to the extent that Marnie did it and never try and create it and never try and dart out dummy half, because it's what makes him such a special player. But he does need to take a back seat.
In that role. And we spoke about this last year when he signed. We said Hodgson on his day, one of the best hookers in the game, bar none. And I think we can all agree, he played a good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
He played fantastic. But like long term, I think that gelling is going to be... It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I personally, which I'm interested to hear your takes on this. I personally thought the gelling was better than what I expected, to be honest. I thought it would be worse. So I'm interested, by
it's
your
hard
takes
because we don't have enough evidence. It's hard to say whether Dylan Brown, Moses and Gutho just had quiet games. And they just had quiet games because they had quiet games last year as well. Or they had quiet games because they were struggling to get used to the flow of the ruck, positions on the field. So it's hard to say. It's just hard to say. Like now, if we're 5 games in and we haven't seen any Mitchell Moses show, Brown show, Gutho show, that's when you can start going, okay, maybe that gelling isn't happening as well as we thought.
And I think as well, like, without coming back to it again, they missed Ryan Madison so much. They just had nothing off the bench.
Yeah.
You could see the drop off, and as we all know, with halfbacks 5'8", like, you can only play as well as your forward pack allows you to.
I thought Junior was amazing and RCG.
He was for sure, but like, I think that they needed something extra.
Yeah. I thought, Guru, where Hodjo did gel well with them is that for any sort of non-major footy heads out there, your hooker, when you basically don't want them going from side to field to side of the field and getting to dummy half because, it's unsustainable. So essentially, like anywhere, if the ball goes anywhere near like the tram lines, either side of the field, there's dotted lines about, what are they, about 5 metres in?
Yeah.
They just say, whoever the centre or wing is there, get into dummy half and service there. When they were doing that and getting to that point, Hodjo was playing as the 13 essentially,
really good
and being the link man between Moses and Brown. And I think that was even that situation where he set up the try for Borlo. That's where I thought it was really smooth and effective. And that's a bit of what the role he played at times at the Raiders, where when Tommy Starling would come on after 20 minutes, Hodjo would go to lock it and be the link man between the halves. Really good there.
Yeah, I agree. When they got to the edges and he became that link man, I thought it was fantastic. That gelled like way better than I thought it would. I think I would have to go back and watch it again, but I would love to see like how many times was Mitch Moses screaming down a short side and he didn't get the ball. Maybe there were 0 times, or maybe there were a few times. I have to try to rewatch it.
That's right. I also think on that try, like, granted, it was Josh Hodgson that was there, but I personally think that Dill Brown or Mitch Moses, whoever was standing in that spot when Cameron Munster lost his mind for a split second, would have done the exact same thing. So I think that if it was Moses or Dill Brown there, we're probably talking about them a little bit differently because then they'd have a try assist on the board. That was strange by Munster, wasn't it?
You really don't want to give him a hard time because he came back onto the field and won a game with a compound fracture in his finger, but that was a howler, wasn't it?
Well, that's basically like they've made their defensive decision before, so they've recognise they've got short numbers, so they're just trying to shut the play down and basically pressure. They may have been given maybe before the game defensively, tactically they were told we just want to put pressure on Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, and so that's where you sometimes can see halves shooting out of line and getting to Mitchell Moses or to Dylan Brown, and it can work a lot of the time. But when you've got a guy like Crafty, like Hodgson, that identifies it, then that's when you play around 5-10 metres in, because usually you're trying to get to your half, isolate the edges there, have like big spaces between. But if you're constantly getting pressure from the outside, it's really hard for a half to do that. And then all of a sudden his game gets flustered. All of a sudden he doesn't adjust. Like, for example, I think it was 2020 grand final when Storm beat Penrith. Like the pressure, and I think also Queensland in that first game in one of the series, where you just saw every time Cleary got the ball, someone was hitting him straight away. And so that may have been why Munster was doing what he did, because he was trying to land as soon as Mitchell Moses got the ball, boom, hitting him. And so that he wants to make it so Moses, every time a ball is floating towards him, Moses is thinking, please don't be getting hit, please don't. And it just rattles the mind a bit. But it was a bad read. Like, it was, I'm not excusing the read at all. I'm just saying that's how those kind of things can happen sometimes. And it was, great side by Hodgson. So I thought Hodgson had a good game. I want to see more rugby league from the Eels to see whether this is an issue. They may come out next week and absolutely blitz the Sharks, and we go, you know what? It was just a quiet game from the spawn. That's simple.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously a major theme of today, that it is a small sample size.
Yeah, you just don't know.
You know what teams are looking like after 5 and 6 weeks, realistically.
Yeah, realistically.
And let's not overlook the fact that Papali'i and Sean Lane two of the most integral players to their
Yeah.
touch last year. They didn't have them. They had 2 new back rollers. So it's like, it's going to take time for these things to work.
Exactly. And Dylan Brown, what was his biggest weapon? It was Sean Lane. The amount of times he would just go to the line, hit Sean Lane short, go to the line, hit Sean Lane short. And then on the third or fourth one, that's when he'd run the ball. And he didn't really have that pairing with someone. So it's going to take a little bit of time for the Eels, I think. The disappointing thing for me, though, was if they came out and just got dominated through the middle and lost, I'd almost be more happy to go, you know what, it's going to take time, don't stress too much. It's the fact that they had the game in control and they just let it fall away with a Storm side that didn't really play that good to do it to them. And Cam Munster was off for what, 20 minutes? 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
So, yeah, disclaimer as well, guys. It's round 1. We understand that. It's a long season. We understand that our opinion can completely change next week when we see them play really well. Let's get to the Storm. So Cam Munster's performance is incredible. Harry Grant is absolutely phenomenal. That second half, so they're under the pump the whole first half, basically. They do an incredible job to stay in the Storm. Harry Grant comes out in the second half. I think that he changed the game. Like, he genuinely went, oh, Cam Munster's off. I'm going to take full ownership of this. Boom. Took control of the game, changed the momentum. All of a sudden, the Storm have got quick play of the balls. They've got heaps of space on the edges. And then, obviously, the match went up. Harry Grant is something special, like truly something special.
It's wild when you look at his stats, and, you know, when I thought back to his game the other night, I thought he was everywhere. He was electric. How many metres he ran for? 72.
Really?
They were an effective 72.
Oh.
And I think it's something that Harry Grant does better than anyone in the league right now, which Cameron Smith did better than anyone for a long time. It's that metre and a half he takes out of dummy half just to take the markers completely out of play.
And it keeps the A and B defenders honest.
Yep.
As soon as he steps out like that, you can't afford to just start screaming up towards your defender.
Well, above anything else, that's the hooker's job, to take the markers out of play, and that's exactly as you said. That's what made Cameron Smith so special. He was a freak at it.
Yeah, and we go back to 2 weeks ago, that World Club Challenge. That's why they won. That's why they beat Penrith, because James Roby was fantastic at it as well. And it sounds so simple, but when you've got a hooker that knows how to do it properly and does it properly for 80 minutes, it makes such a big difference.
Oh, massively. Like, sometimes when you're watching a game and you see teams, they're doing their set plays, so out the back, and you're like, there is no room on the edges. Like, these players are doing nothing. It's usually because their dummy half just hasn't really held back that ruck. Because if the dummy half just goes off the deck straight away and the defence are onto it, they just go boom, up, slide, easy defence.
If you engage the markers properly, you're essentially taking 1 to 2 players out of the defensive line every play.
Every single play. And if you've engaged the markers, then you've engaged the A. Because the A, if the markers miss, has to be there. What was the try? It was Jeremy Marshall-King. Got out, saw that Lodge was offside, engaged Lodge. What happened? The A didn't cover enough for Lodge. He, I think it was Butcher, went for the intercept and he just went straight through. And that's where, like, if you engage the marker, you're essentially engaging the A to stop things like that happening.
And if you're looking for an example of, you know, a hooker that did that perfectly on the weekend that's not a superstar, it's Jeremy Marshall-King.
He was incredible. He was so good.
And then you have the situation where, again, defining the best and the lesser hookers in the game. You know, you get a quick play of the ball, the markers are a bit scrambled, and you've got numbers out wide. It is just giving quick, early service straight off the deck, as opposed to taking those 2 steps and giving the defensive line time to react. Yeah. So it's like such a tricky position hooker that I think we all overlook. So you get to sit there and talk to Cam Smith about it each week, about that role. I mean, unbelievable.
The best thing, one of the best things he ever told me, I was like, mate, like, tell me why you were so good for so long. Like, tell me why. He didn't say I was so good. You know what? He's one of the most humble people I've ever met in my life. Like, every time I try to call him the GOAT, he's like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. He goes, you know why I went okay, Kempy? He said, because my physical attributes were never the strongest part of my game. He said, my mind was the strongest part of my game. So the more rugby league I played, the better I got. Whereas a lot of other players, they rely on their physical attributes to be good in the NRL. And I was like, that is genius. You're a genius, sir. And it's true. It's true.
Which is terrifying because he spent half his career with Cooper Cronk, who was that halfback as well.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, for like a perfect analogy in the NFL, it's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You put him in a skill test, all these blokes will slap him around. but it's between the ears that you can't compete with them. And Cam Smith was exactly the same. Like the Melbourne Storm didn't lose a ruck for 15 years.
I know. And
regardless of who the forward pack was, because of Smithy.
Yeah, and he was so good at it, you didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
Like you could be, the casual fan would watch a Storm game and they wouldn't even notice Cam Smith. And you're like, he is so deceptively controlling this ruck right now. It's like he's not even on the field. It's insane.
And I know that he would never say, but I think it's one of the great robberies of all time that he never got a Clive Churchill. Because in those grand finals, he dominated the ruck in every single game. Even the games they lost, the Sharkies game, he made 72 odd tackles that game.
It's amazing.
And kept the Melbourne Storm pack in the contest.
Yeah. He's incredible.
Yet if you said Cameron Smith's a running hooker, people would laugh at you.
All you got to go, 2017, Game 3, go watch that and tell me he's not a running hooker.
That game, that was the week that he came out and said, I didn't run enough last week. I'm going to do it. And I remember I was at Suncorp. I was sitting behind the up sky high in the nosebleeds and just watched him. And you could just see he would get the ball, he'd get it dummy half, and he would just tell someone to run it for feeder or woods, get them at marker, and then he would just play in a corridor for the rest of the set and just fuck around with them.
So good. It was one of
it was just him and Slater just following each other.
You could honestly, I reckon, you could make an argument 2017 is one of the greatest games a hooker's ever played. Like, he was phenomenal, 2017 Game 3. What do you got there, Manny?
Oh, no, I was just going to add on. I think as well, it's one of the best Origin comebacks of all time, I feel, in more ways than one. Obviously, he reckons he had a bad Game 2. He came out in Game 3, as you said. I think Munster debuted in 17. But at halftime of Game 2, 2017, the Blues are up 1-0 and they're up 16-6. Like, all they had to do was win that half and they would have won the series. And Queensland...
They could have lost the half and still won the series.
Yeah. Yeah, and Queensland, Dane Gagai scores a double, and I was in the sheds after that game working for the Blues. Mate, it was like a morgue in there.
Wow.
They were devastated. I've never seen, like, yeah, they knew they'd really cost themselves that game.
Good old Origin. It's going to be here soon. Back to Storm. Harry Grant, absolutely amazing. Jerome Hughes, pretty quiet for his standard. I thought that he was a little bit quiet. Maybe he's going to take a bit to grow into the role, as in not the role, sorry, the year. Is anyone else that stood out for you guys in the Storm side? Just
on Hughesy, I think sometimes with this team, like Munster was on and Harry Grant was on, they don't all tend to light it up every single game. All of them, there does tend to be a quieter party, quite usual. And I mean, you know, Jerome Hughes, for a quieter game, like he ran for 143 metres at halfback. You know, like still had a pretty good game. But mate, the one that stood out to me was Josh King. He played 81 minutes.
Best game for the club that he's had
by far and away,
by a mile.
And we were sitting here, you know, 18 months ago saying, geez, if Josh King's a guy that is being spoken about in rep football, it won't surprise us because of who Bellamy is. It's taken a little bit longer, but you could see the Bellamy effect starting to come through on him the other night, I thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. You could genuinely go, oh, where'd this guy come from? And you're like, no, he's just needed maybe an extra 12 months to find himself where he belongs in the Storm side. But he was outstanding. I thought was
good off the bench, that Alec McDonald. Didn't play huge minutes, but when he came on the field, he was really strong. Defence was good. He takes really good hit-ups. I think he's a guy, another one that in 2 or 3 years we're going to go, oh, fuck, okay, Bellamy's done it with another guy.
Because wasn't he a guy that got pulled from Queensland Cup?
Out of nowhere.
Like, literally out of nowhere. Bronson Garlick, congratulations on the debut. Had some decent darts out of dummy half as well. Anyone stood out for you, Timmy?
There's a couple there, mate, but like I've still got my reservations about Melbourne. I thought I wasn't overly convinced on their pack. We mentioned about how sort of Jerome Hughes, Cam Munster, Harry Grant, their first half, no one really made much of an impact. Harry Grant, he might have had one run at half time, and that was because I thought that they were losing the battle through the middle of the field, and this was the concerns with a different looking pack to previous years. King was outstanding. But again, just the fact that he had to play 80 minutes in it is, I have red flags around that. So, I mean, they came good in the second half, but against the best sides in the competition, and I mean, you can argue Parramatta are, but I don't think they were on the night. I just, as you said, as good as your spine is, if they don't have the platform to go forward in the middle, I don't know how effective they can be. And my bigger concern is I thought Nelson Solomona was tremendous. He played, I think, 53 minutes for, that's more than his game time, basically his entire career. In round one, obviously there was the extra 4 minutes of golden point. He had a charge down off Moses, I think it was. where he flew off the line and essentially saved them and then won them the game at the time. It was such an enormous play that I thought was completely missed by a lot of people. Like, he's so integral to this pack. If anything happens to a Solomona,
mate.
We talk about the impact of how influential like Ben Hunt is to the Dragons, Tommy Turbo is to Manly. We probably don't talk about it with forwards as much, but like if a Solomona is to get suspended or injured or anything, I'll have my big concerns about this Storm pack.
And they have got a couple of guys come back into the pack, like Tarek Sims, Eisenhuth, but they're not those guys.
No.
You got Kamakamiko, who can potentially be one of those guys, but Nelson is, especially like, and this is where I think Cheese leaves a massive hole. Just a momentum guy. Now it's sort of down to Nas. Everyone else will be solid, but when you need someone to break it open, it's going to always have to be Nas.
Yeah, it has to be Nas. He is truly like, I mean, he would at least be one of the most important forwards in a pack in the comp in regards to like most other top tier packs could lose a player. Like, for example, the Eels could lose, say, an RCG, and although, whoever's replacing him is it's not RCG, but I don't think the impact is as strong if they lose Nelson. Like, their go forward is quite strong.
Not even with the ball, that try that Cam Munster set up, who do you think was coming underneath him? It was the Sofa Solomon, and it was Penasini who overcommitted to it, and was it Mitch Moses or someone? It's like, what Munster did there to let the ball go, eyes were gone, you're like, it was incredible. But, of course you're going to overcommit when it was Sofa Solomon. Anyone else, look, I still think they scored because of what Munster did was incredible, but they didn't stand a chance with what Munster did, letting go of the ball there, and Big Nelson getting those defenders to commit.
And you saw it last year. Pappenhausen scored a number of tries off scrums when they had Nelson stand there, and I love that they use him like that. Like, I think so many other teams should be doing it. I think Parramatta should be using Junior similar to that because like they're more dangerous when they don't have the ball simply because you have to commit to them or you're in curry. And I'd love to see more teams do it.
We saw Borlo in this game. I know it's because of the poor Cameron Munster defensive read, but he got his one-on-one as a result of that. And it was like, I can't remember who he ran at, but it was like, good luck stopping that. If you can isolate a big Borlo out wide on the half, like, not a chance.
It was something that the Warriors did a bit last year where they'd use big AFB, where he'd just be running a lot. He was never going to get the ball, but you just have to have your eyes on him at all time because you have to two-man him.
Yeah.
And just create space elsewhere.
I thought Nick Meaney also had a fair game. Really safe, got through a bunch of work. He's so important. You need the guys like Nick Meaney in the squad because they're just so important to have this like NRL standard outside back that can fill in, do a job, do it quite well. He's not going to break the bank. He's probably on minimum, to be honest. But you can guarantee, a standard of play from him that it's hard to find, man. It's not easy to be a week in, week out NRL standard footy player, especially for most likely minimum in the NRL wage. The Storm, going forward, I will say, Munster being out's a huge loss, but this gives Jerome Hughes a chance to shine. Anything else on the Storm, boys?
I thought young Tonamapea had a good game as well. He did a couple of good things. I thought Will Warbrick too. He didn't get as many opportunities as what I thought he would, but I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to have a big season.
Yeah, be patient with Warbrick because in the trials he was incredible. I think there's a huge upside for this guy.
It's one of those games similar to Carl-Pierre yesterday for the Titans. The ball just didn't come his way in good ball. So just as you said, be patient because I think he'll score a number of tries this year.
Yep. And it may take him, 10 rounds to really find his confidence and where he needs to pop up, when he can go on for a scoot, when he can't go on for a scoot. I think he's going to be something special by the end of the year.
Good to see Christian Welsh back running around again.
Yeah, and I thought he was good. Again, the Achilles... It's not an easy comeback.
Yeah, for a front row, it's a
front rower. Injury. So I just want to give the Storm a massive congratulations, though. Like, that achievement that they continue to deliver, it is phenomenal. I say it every week ad nauseum. This is a world-class system that any business in any industry could learn something from. I understand we always look at ourselves like, we're little Australia and little NRL that's only on the eastern seaboard really of Australia. That doesn't change the fact that this is a world-class system. We're witnessing one of the greatest systems in Australian sport history, in my opinion. Even when they bring in guys that you would look at that squad at the moment, they've got an incredible spine, but they shouldn't be able to continue to do this, and they do it.
I've just sat there and said I was not really overly impressed by them, yet they still found a way to win in Golden Point against last year's grand finalists.
Away.
Away. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And if you would have gone back, to round 5 or 6 last year and said to me, who do you think's going to win the Dally M? I would have said Ryan Pappenhausen. He was incredible to start last season. We haven't even mentioned that he's missing.
He's missing. They're missing people. They're missing at least 3 or 4 starters. So massive congratulations to the Storm. What an incredible system. And the only reason why we say, they weren't that overly impressive is because we are comparing them to Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Brady, like when he doesn't win a Super Bowl, it's like, it's a bad year. Because Storm have set such a high standard that it's a compliment to say that we aren't impressed. It's a compliment because any other team, if Eels came out and did what Storm did, I would have said, how good, Eels have shown grit. They've learnt from last year. Yeah, they didn't play well, but they got the job done. But it's because we're talking about the Melbourne Storm here.
And I think you mentioned it earlier, but once again, if you take Kenny Bromwich and Felice and put them back in this side, I don't know if Parramatta scores 12.
Yeah.
Their defence was pretty good, even though they've lost their 2 edges who their entire defence has been built around for the last 10 years.
There's an argument to be made that Bromwich, especially Kaufusi, are the best wide-running defenders in the last 10 years.
Anyone you talk to that's played with them will swear by that.
I think that it's no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
Defensively speaking,
Defensively speaking, the last 10 to 15 years, put it this way, I would defensively, Kaufusi and Bromwich, I would put them up against any defence back row that's played the game. That's how good I think they are in defence. Yes, they may not, Kaufusi was jamming blokes yesterday, but yes, they may not have the huge highlight reel hits, but when you're talking about squeaky clean reads, squeaky clean wrestle, squeaky clean everything, they do it perfectly. All right, just before we get to the next review, Warriors vs Knights, Stan original documentary series Dawn of the Dolphins premiering today on Stan. A new history starts now. Unprecedented access to the master coach Wayne Bennett and how he is building the Dolphins in their inaugural season. A day after such a famous win, get around Stan tonight after work for Dawn of the Dolphins. I tell you what, I was already keen. As you know, we love a bit of rugby league. But after seeing what they did, mate, I'm going to nearly end this podcast early to get home to watch this documentary. I cannot wait to watch this documentary, The Dawn of the Dolphins. You reckon, Guru, you keen or what, mate?
I'm keen. I reckon Stan would have been doing backflips yesterday.
Oh, my God. The executive team, they reckon they had a massive popping champagne bottles and that up in a box in Suncorp.
How good was Wayne at the end of it? They're like, how was that? Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Fucking king.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. But he also was like, someone was like, absolutely incredible, Katoa. He was amazing. How good on a debut, gets the job done. Wayne goes, wasn't that great? Just did his job. And it's just like, it's so Wayne because he doesn't want the rookie to be in the headlines as the next superstar. And so that's why you should watch Stan documentary because you're going to get really good insights like that of Wayne Bennett's classics.
I love to. There was a journal, I'm not sure who it was, but they asked me a question and Wayne just went, you've come up from Sydney for this, have you?
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. And basically the guy, they had a back and forth and Wayne was like, mate, you didn't even text me to ask me. And so again, if you want to see, that's what he's doing in press conference for everyone to see. Imagine what you're going to see on the Stan documentary that's behind closed doors. And I've heard previews from, I've spoken to people that have watched previews and they reckon there's some pretty hectic stuff in there where you're going, we're talking that stuff that it's in there is like managers' contract negotiations about some of the biggest players in the game. And you get to see it happen.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit too scared to watch it. I'm scared there's going to be a segment that's like, screw the haters to say we can't cut it. Just clips of me speaking on Bloke. Got nothing.
They're actually editing that in now. They're editing that right now. You and Guru last week going blah, blah, blah. So Stan, guys, if you don't have Stan, make sure to download the app, get an account, Dawn of the Dolphins. I cannot wait. Warriors v the Knights. Actually, quickly, before we get to that, don't forget, celebrations. In every celebrations, New South Wales and Queensland, Bloke Lager is still on special. In New South Wales and Queensland, get yourself for a case for less than $56. Some stores are going as low as $53. Get onto the store locator on our website, find the nearest celebration. So you just go there, you'll have store locator like beer, find your local store. You put in your postcode, it'll show you the nearest store to you. It'll show you if it's celebrations. Get down there. And just a reminder, if they don't have a stack, they've probably sold out. So just ask politely, hi, may you please order in some Bloke. They'll have it on their computer, guys. Stores actually like when you come in and ask them to order something in or whatever, because it gives them an indication of what they should stock. You know, it's easier for them to know what their customer wants if you speak to them. So if they don't have any, just ask politely, hi, could you order some bloke in? And they'll do it. Again, special in every single celebration in New South Wales and Queensland, as low as $53. Now, let's get to the Warriors v the Knights. The Warriors, they got the job done, even after going down 6-0. Gutsy defensive effort in the final 15 minutes. What a win for the Warriors. Now, I just don't think it's getting enough appreciation. You take into consideration everything they've been through the last 2 years. You could erase that. You could pretend like that didn't happen. This is a club that had a complete clean out and a new rookie coach that has never coached before. And so obviously the story of the weekend is going to be the Dolphins. But I'd argue this is one of the stories of the weekend. I would argue that if this was a Queensland team or a New South Wales team that did this, there'd be headlines everywhere about this new coach that came in and got a win with a side that, you know, and it's no disrespect for the Warriors, but on paper, it's not a crazy side that you're going, oh yeah, they should kill it. You know, and this is they play different people, it's different situations. But like Serraldo, with a roster and some of the best recruitment going, unfortunately got beaten by a red-hot Manly side. But Webster, with a, you know, on paper, not as good roster, got the job done in round one. Like, it's, put it this way, if Serraldo had have won round one, headlines everywhere would have been like, incredible. And I understand the Knights aren't as good as Manly, but I think that the Warriors deserve a massive rap for this win.
New coach, new fullback, new 5'8", new front row forward, 2 new edges.
Crazy.
Make it work.
It's crazy. And also, the way they played. Look at the score, 20-12. It's not 34-30, 34-24, 20-12. They kept the Knights to 12 or below. Like,
and they win with that new setup and the headline from the match is KP wasn't concussed.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. Like, that's
poor old Warriors.
Yeah, that's not the headline. The headline isn't about KP and the concussion. The headline is Warriors with a complete rebuild side wins round one.
And they were down 6-0 after a minute.
Yeah. Like, Chance, you know, dropped that ball initially, bounces back and plays fantastic at fullback. We're talking about a fullback that couldn't even make the Raiders side. Actually, we don't talk about fullbacks around the Raiders, do we? Sorry, my bad.
What's a fullback?
Yeah, what is a fullback? You guys hate signing them.
Yeah, we'll have Jaden Campbell mid-season.
Yeah. I think it's incredible from the Warriors, and I think Webster deserves a massive rap. I think he's been flying under the radar. Do I think they're going to win a comp? No. Do I think that if you were to say, what's the best result and what's the first step towards creating a new club? It's getting a win on round one. You know what I mean? Like, what else could you ask for of a new coach with a new roster?
Yeah, mate, I think they did really well to win this one. You know, if you told me the Warriors are down 6-0 after a minute or so, I get very, very nervous that they're going to hang in that game, realistically. Mate, I thought Tohu Harris, you have a look through the history of this club, like your Kevin Campions, your Ruben Wickies, your Simon Mannerings, they've always got this guy that just embodies what the Warriors are. And that's Tohu Harris at the moment. He was incredible. 50 tackles, played the entire game. He's a freak.
He, again, if he was in a New South Wales or Queensland side, would be getting, like, even a Victorian side.
When he was in a Victorian side, he was getting wrapped galore.
He was the man. Yeah. Goes over the Warriors, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like, people don't appreciate this bloke. Didn't he have his ACL done 2 years ago? Yep. Comes back, like, and he does it every week. He was Dally M back rower only 2 years ago. Incredible.
We sat there back end of last year, back end of the season, and quite a regular topic was because of what Cam Murray was doing, Isaiah Yeo were doing, the best ball-playing locks in the NRL, and we were having these debates about, you know, tiering them and ranking them, and it was them too, and we spoke a lot about how far Jason Taumalo's ball-playing had come along as a lock, and again, probably just being out of the spotlight in New Zealand, Tohu Harris's ball-playing, how underrated is it? Like, it's outstanding. He set up a try or a line break with a beautiful little short ball on the weekend. I think it was to Mitch Barnett. But time and time again, his ball playing's outstanding. Now, it's not on a Yo or Murray level, but he's also a bigger body than them boys. Like, he's at times a front rower. So good.
He's so good. And we're guilty of it too.
Yep.
Like,
absolutely.
Whenever we talk about 13s, we never bring up Tohu Harris. He was a Dally M back rower literally 2 years ago.
And, like, I think he takes... I don't know how to word it, some of the shittier hit-ups of all the 13s in the
Oh,
the hit-ups you want
100%.
nothing to do with. Like what
Front
Blake
rower
Gordon
hit-ups.
used to do. Yeah, and he could quite easily grab his front rows and go, up you
Yeah.
go, yours. But no, he just takes it himself. He just does it all.
Yeah. Tohu Harris, he's honestly one of the most underappreciated players in the competition, bar none. Like, every week, ripping and tearing, doing everything he can for his team to win. The turmoil the club's been, some self-inflicted, some not self-inflicted. It's just amazing. And I think that for them to go out, and it's just to win 20-12, again, if it had been like 34-30, you don't want to see those kind of scores because you're like, oh man, the defence like it's just disgusting this game.
On top of it, 15 games last year, 15 the year before, 20 the year before, which was the 20-round season, 13 the season before that. Like, to come out at 31 years old and play 80 minutes as a middle, like he's had his fair share of injuries and big injuries.
Yeah,
like it's just even more remarkable.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. Who else stood out for you in the Warriors side?
Mate, I want to give my boy a little rap. Jackson Ford. I thought he was really good for the Warriors in this game. We sort of spoke from a Supercoach point of view where we thought the minutes would go, and I think we all nearly assumed that Niokore would probably be the 80-minute guy and not Ford. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went in with this game with the plan for Niokore to be the 80-minute guy, but Ford was so impressive that they went, we're just going to leave him there. To think, like, if you think about it over the last few years, if you said to me who's been the best back rower at the Warriors last year, I would say Josh Curran without a doubt. He played 19 minutes in this game.
It's honestly so. It sucks for Josh Curran, but it shows you like what they're managing to do at the Warriors.
This is, as much as it does suck for Josh Curran, this is where you want your football team to be.
Yeah.
You want your best performers over the last few years struggling to make this side because other guys are just jumping out of the ground. I thought Wade Egan was really good too, mate.
It's one of Wade Egan's best games.
Yeah.
And like Wade Egan's been someone for me where he's definitely NRL standard, and I think you're in the same boat. You're just waiting for him to take that little next step because you can see it in periods of his game. We go, okay, there it is, and hopefully this year's the year.
When he was coming through at the Panthers, he looked like a weapon.
Yeah.
He looked unbelievable, and then he sort of had he's had. I don't know if it's fair to say he's had a lull the last few years, but he probably hasn't kicked on to the point that I thought he was.
Just that next
of.
little step, I reckon.
Just that one step up.
Because you have it in him.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, and. You look at a guy like Croker, who actually looks like he's about to take that next step because he was outstanding on the weekend. But like last year, you could look at a Croker and you'd go, you don't even ask that next step of him. You go, mate, just make your tackles, good service. That's all we need from you. And again, I take that all back because he was incredible on the weekend. But Wade Egan's is a guy where you go, he has the next step in him. You can see it in patches. And I agree, mate. I agree.
I think it's probably something we talk about it all the time with halves and whatnot, but I think with hookers it's really important too. Just the maturity you get as you get older. We spoke about Cam Smith about having it all between his ears and whatnot. Wade Egan's 25, 26 now. He's getting older. I think he is sort of starting to come into his own a little bit. And I think it's great that the Warriors have just backed him. They've always had, whether it be Lussix or other guys just floating around that side. I love that they're just backing him in for big minutes.
Yeah, agreed. And it would have been, he was in a space where it would have been really easy to flirt with the idea of like, do we bring a young guy in but like the fact that you go, you know what, let's just put him there and keep him there and get some minutes under his belt to develop into the player that we need. Croker, again, another good example. What I really love about Manly is they went, you know what, let's put Croker there and just keep him there. And we saw the dividends on the weekend. Croker looked like a dummy half, like a genuine, like he'd been playing his whole life. Anyway, back to the Warriors. I think Montoya, he had one error, but outside of that, 204 metres, 4 tackle breaks. Like, he's such an interesting case because he came at the Bulldogs when he first debuted in that first year. He's such a big, strong, aggressive player. A lot of people going, this is the next big thing in outside backs, like that big, strong, and it's going to be Montoya. And then he kind of, was a victim of the Bulldogs struggling for a bit, and you're kind of like, he's never going to be able to put it together. It just doesn't seem to be working for him. Goes to the Warriors. I think he struggled a little bit with injury, but the back end of last year and his trial form, he's outstanding for them. He is so crucial to their go forward.
If Montoya can just promise me one error a game and that's it, unreal.
I'll cop it.
I will cop it every day of the week. He's like, and I'm not saying he's the same player, but he's in that Manu Vatuvei sort of mould.
Yeah.
He is just a really hard body to handle, but he's always got 2 or 3 errors in him.
And you're totally right. If he could just go, look, one a game, for everything else he delivers, you go, all right, whatever. Whereas, like, if he was a smaller winger, say like myself, you go, mate, you aren't allowed to make errors because you don't do what this bloke does. You're there to finish and make no errors. I agree with you, mate. You cop one error. One error, okay, sweet. If that's the price we have to pay for hyper aggression every time you run the ball, I'll pay it.
For sure. I thought the guy inside him was great too, Viliami. He's come back.
Bounce back, yeah, because last week...
Trial 1, he was great.
Yep.
Trial 2 was pretty average.
Yep.
I thought in this game he was sensational. He obviously set that try up for Cairns, which turned out to be the match winner. Defended well. I think he missed one tackle, made 6 or 7, but 150 metres at centre. Really good night.
Massive. And that's what's really impressive about right now is that we've got a guy, Andrew Webster, who is taking players like, if Braden Williami didn't even get a club next year, no one would. They'd be like, yeah, okay, he's done, and he just didn't push through. But he's taking guys like Jackson Ford, Williami, Marcelo Montoya, Charles Nickel-Kluckster. These are guys that couldn't make other NRL sides. Now they're coming and playing NRL and impacting games, and that's a sign of a good coach in a good system. I'm so impressed. Anyone impress you, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, Marcello, I thought he was a genuine spud at the Dogs for a while there. And then he went over to the Warriors and mate, he's like starting to run 200 metres a game for fun.
Yeah.
Like, credit to him. And I said maybe he was in an ordinary Doggies outfit and they said, often wingers and backline players in bad sides, they can just be made to look like it's their fault because they're so stripped of numbers and they have to make these ridiculous decisions.
Yeah.
He's right at home in the NRL, isn't he?
Well, very rarely do you see a winger play well in a poor team. Like, I'm trying to think of...
It doesn't happen.
It really just doesn't. I mean, maybe Nofoaluma for a year or two at the Tigers, but it's very rare that you find a winger, unless his game is just built around hit-ups, that's going to shine in a team that struggles.
And you sit there going, poor defensive right here, poor defensive there. It's like, well, no, he had no one on his inside and they had the 3-on-1 and they were shot ducks.
Yeah, it's always the last man that people blame. And you're like, mate, he had 3 people outside him.
It's not his fault.
Like, what is he supposed to do?
Yeah, and so possibly during his time, the Dogs a victim of that. So great to see him hit the ground running again this season. And look, it doesn't even pain me to say it because I love the bloke so much, but Chance Nickel-Klockstad, who, it was just such a Chance game. He's not a superstar. He's not a lead in attack in terms of, he didn't have a try assist, he didn't have a line break assist, but he ran for over 200 metres. He supported for a try. He's gives everything for them. So it was so good to see him come back and have a good performance for them. And obviously Metcalf will be back around 6 to 8-ish, but hopefully Chance can lock down a position and make it his own.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it's not alarming yet, but if Jackson Ford continues to play like this, if he continues week in, week out doing this, and he's played every game I've seen him play in a Warriors jersey, he's been one of their best. It's really, really alarming if he continues this for the Dragons. Like, why is a guy like that not playing like that at the Dragons, but he can go to the Warriors, who are notorious for import struggling, and there's been some that have gone and kill it, for Jackson Ford to come out and be amazing. Like 150 metre on the edge. So he made 150 metres, 3 tackle breaks, 25 tackles. Like, that would be up there with some of the most metres run by edge forwards. Like, it wouldn't be the most, but that's good numbers for edge forwards. And he's a rookie.
I hate to say it, but I said it last week. You say, he's looked good every time I've seen him play for the Warriors. He looked good every time he plays for the Dragons.
Wow.
He looks good every time he plays reserve grade for the Dragons. I don't know how they consistently underutilise everyone.
Because they've brought Murdoch Masilla and put him on an edge, and Jackson Ford's gone over there, and you're going, what? I hate to put the boot into the Dragons, but I'm sorry, it's there in front of us.
And Murdoch Masilla, he was actually decent in the trials, but with their edges in Sewer and Bird, he might struggle for minutes. Yeah. And then Ford's gone over and done that in 80 minutes.
And Ford is young. Murdoch is an ageing forward. I like the signing of Murdoch because it would be on under. So I'm not having to dig at Murdoch specifically. I'm having to dig at the Dragons. Well, not having to dig, but I'm commenting on the Dragons why would you get Murdoch Masilla was playing in trials on the edge. So clearly they're lacking for depth on the edge right now. There's no young guy coming through that they could have put in the trials. So how are you getting rid of Jackson Ford when you've got so little depth on the edge that you're trialling big fella like Murdoch, who is a front rower, it just...
Local junior as well, the Drags.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And just to be really clear, I'm not having a crack at Murdoch Masilla at all. I think he's a good signing for them because he at least he offers a bit of difference in that forward pack, a bit of flair. He can offload. He got a bit of footwork. I'm just more talking about roster management. Like, how are you getting rid of Jackson Ford?
I was just trying to find you some stats on Jackson Ford from Cup last year, but because he's changed clubs, it's not there. But I've clicked on 3 random games and he scored in all 3 of them.
Like, there's got to be something going on there. How are they going to re-sign him? And he would have been offered that much at the Warriors. That's what I'm not understanding.
Said it last week, but you think about like him and Tyrant Wishart came through the same age at the Dragons, both from Gerringong, both local juniors, both playing elsewhere, both doing really well.
It's surprising. I just want to know what I would love to, because the thing is, every time you see a decision that doesn't make sense to you, I promise you, clubs have reasons for it. Like, there's always a reason. They never make these. There's super smart people that have all this data, all this information that we aren't privy to. So there would be absolutely a reason why the Dragons.
The more wilder it seems, the more of a reason there is behind
100%,
it.
Absolutely. So I'm sure Dragons have a reason, but it's just when you see a guy go to the Warriors and play this well, and look, the jury's still out. If he struggles. Put it this way, if he goes out and he has a really inconsistent year, you go, oh, well, that's the reason. The Dragons could see that he struggled with consistency, and so they decided to, not re-sign him. But right now, it's looking like, damn, the Dragons could have really used a guy like that.
And it's all, and like respectfully to the Warriors, it's not like he's gone to the Roosters or Melbourne that they always get the best out of everyone.
Yeah.
The Warriors have a very hit and miss record.
Yeah.
But so far, he's looked unbelievable there.
Yeah, it's really surprising. Anyway, we'll focus back on the Warriors. It's just the Dragons situation, there's a lot of decisions that are happening there that I'm just not really grasping as to what's happening.
Jeez, they cop a pounding even when they have a bye.
Yeah, poor bloke. I'm like, the thing is, like, I'm sorry, Dragons fans, we have to talk about that. He's a Dragons junior, like, and he's playing really well at another club. Like, we have, I would do the same, did the exact same with Reece Walsh. When the Broncos let go of Reece Walsh, I sat on here and was like, I cannot believe that they did that. I cannot believe they didn't just start him. So it's not just going to be Dragons. We have to say it like it is. Who else? Mitchell Barnett. I thought he added a lot of grunt through the middle. A lot of line speed at times as well. Anyone else stood out for you, boys?
I think that just about covers it for them.
Good, mate.
Yeah.
Adam Fanua-Blake getting through a bunch of work as usual. 26 tackles, no misses, 135 metres, 40 post contact, 3 tackle breaks.
I thought, no shock to us at all, but geez, I really like the signing of Dylan Walker. That 14 jersey is more important now than what it ever has been before.
It's honestly like...
It's a starting position now. Like, it's not, but it might as well be.
Agreed.
It's more important than a few starting positions, in my opinion.
It's genuinely the new... It's like you're starting 14. And whenever you say, oh, what's your starting 13? And it used to be like whoever's a starting 13, that's your best roster. Now I honestly think it's just starting 14. Yeah. It really is. That's how important it is with this new fast-paced game. Anything else on the Warriors, boys?
All good, mate.
All good. On to the Knights. Now, let's get to the big headline from the game. So basically, Kalen Ponga was challenging for a ball, and someone's like hips and knees hit his head. Then he fell to the ground with his hands beside his side. Then he brought his hands up, holding his head whilst lying face down on the ground. About 2 to 3 seconds, you reckon? About 2 to 3 seconds. Then he got up, looked okay, ran around. Then was asked basically by the ref that he had to leave the field because the independent doctor for, what's the word? HIA. And basically the Knights and Caden were quite perplexed as to why he had to go off. And now it's basically created there is discussion around whether we should have an independent doctor, because obviously Ricky Stewart also came out and had some words to say about the independent doctor. I understand where the Knights are coming from, where in that scenario you would want a trainer to run out and trust the trainer and be like, look, Kalen clearly looks fine. Like, yes, he did get hit in the head, but clearly he's got fine. So I understand where they're coming from with that. But I'm also a bit surprised. Like, I watched it and I was like, well, yeah, that's the standard that's been set the last year or so. The independent doctor, he got hit in the head. He stayed down holding his head. And then, yes, he did get up quickly. Yes, nothing was wrong with him. But I wasn't that shocked that he got HIA'd. I wasn't that surprised at all.
Yeah, we obviously had the live show during this game, so I missed it live. But when I was driving home the next day, listening to the radio, some of the boys on the radio were talking about it, and I hadn't seen it myself yet, and they were perplexed at why he had to go off for a HIA. And then I saw it, and I was like, what are you talking about? He got whacked in the head. He was rolling on the floor, holding his head. As if they're not going to take him off in that instance.
Yeah,
I think there was a bit of a narrative built that he only got taken off because it was Kalen Ponga. I think that's bullshit. I think anyone would have got taken off in that situation.
I agree, because we were doing the live show, so I didn't see it either, and I saw the headlines. I was like, oh man, Kalen's got touched in the head and he's been taken off. But I went and watched it. I was like, look, there's a world where I wish that they just went, look, get the trainer on. Yep, all good, keep going. He looks fine. He's not, But I feel like the standard has kind of been set. Now, if your argument wants to be, where's the consistency? All throughout the week, other people got hit in the head and they didn't get taken off. I 100% agree with you. There is no consistency. Like, Kalen Ponga gets hit, stays down for a second or two, gets up, and he's fine, but he gets taken off. And then I think it was Cody Walker got hit. He doesn't get taken off. A bunch of other guys got hit, didn't get taken off. So if you want to have that argument, I agree with you. It's so inconsistent, and that's a concern. But I'm not as convinced that it's surprising that he got taken off. Timmy, what do you think?
I'm with you boys on it. Yeah, I thought there was far too much hysteria around it. Like, had KP have stayed on, obviously I have no issues with it. Like, he looked good to go and no worries. But I've seen a million softer knocks that blokes have been HA'd for, and there's been no hysteria around. So is it just because everything that happens to Kalen Ponga makes headlines and because he's such a big name in the game? And I suppose because I assume it'd have to be taken as an isolated incident, but as much as it is an independent doctor, is there this subconscious of, like, it's Kalen Ponga who has these noted head knocks, that probably shouldn't be taken into consideration, but I was not surprised that he went off at all.
Yeah, look, I understand where the Knights are coming from, because like, you've got your star player who's clearly fine. Yeah. He's playing rugby league. Like, why is he getting taken off in a crucial part of the match? So I understand their perspective.
It's so frustrating.
It's so frustrating because you're like, he's fine. Look at him. He's sweet. Yeah. He got up straight away. Yeah, he held his head, but that doesn't necessarily mean he had a concussion. So I understand where they're coming from, but I also don't understand, the thought process that, like, there's no way he should have been taken off. Like, with the standard that's been set over the last few years, like, that's at times a HIA. I guess we'll get into it now because there was also comments from Ricky Stewart. So basically, have you got the quote here, Matty, or no? Ricky Stewart. Could you please get the quote and read it out to us? But the gist of it was Ricky Stewart also had an issue with one of his players being taken off. Essentially called out the RLPA RLPA and NRL initially, and then he said the RLPA again, and he had an issue with the independent doctor. And basically he said the RLPA and NRL don't trust us as coaches. Do you ever think that I would send someone out? Can you read the quote, please, Matty?
The RLPA, the NRL, they don't trust the coaches. Do you think I'd let a player play if he had a concussion or is concussed? Blah, blah, blah about the players. But the RLPA, they don't trust coaches. All they want to do is come and talk to me about how much more time off the players are going to get. Oh, sorry, just went off. One moment. How much the players are going to get and how much more money. I didn't hear anybody from the RLPA come out and try and go to the NRL in regards to playing up here at 4:30 in the afternoon. We're very lucky it wasn't the humidity. It was yesterday because I think it would have been dangerous for the players' welfare.
So I respectfully disagree with that whole line of reasoning in regards to, like, if they really cared, why are we playing at 4:30? Like, the RLPA doesn't put the schedule together. Like, it's the NRL that does. And also, like, the RLPA do care about the players because that's what they're fighting for right now, is to get funds for people that get injured post-career. They're actually not fighting for more money. In regards to his comments on the independent doctor, I think that he has a point when you look at it from a perspective of, like, I disagree when he says, oh, the RLPA don't trust the coaches. The implication that like, oh, well, the RLPA is sitting there thinking the coaches are going to put the players back on, therefore we need the independent doctor. Whereas I don't really think that is the thought process. The reason why the independent doctor exists is not because people aren't trusted. It's because you want to remove conflicts of interest. When a decision is being made, subconsciously or consciously, and you've got the pressure of a game win or your job's on the line, or someone above you is putting pressure on you to make sure that you win the game, you aren't going to be thinking as clearly as someone that doesn't have an interest in the result of the game. So from that perspective, I respectfully disagree with Ricky Stewart. And I also disagree with, like, I think if we're being really like, look, from Ricky's perspective, when he's talking specifically about himself, yeah, he probably would never put someone back on. He feels he would never put someone back on with a HIA. But like, I think we can all be, if we're being fair dinkum here, we have seen the HIA system be gamed. Am I agree?
I
disagree?
think it would be stupid of the NRL to trust coaches to do it. I really
Like, we've seen it be gamed. Have you seen it be gamed?
Yeah.
We've all seen it be gamed. So I although for Ricky Stewart personally, he probably wouldn't put someone back on. We have seen it happen before. I'm not talking about the Raiders, but we've seen other teams.
I think we saw it on the weekend as well. You saw guys come off holding shoulders and getting HIA checks.
Yeah, so
I see it quite often.
That's where I'm like, I disagree. But in regards to the independent doctor, because of the Ponga situation, then Ricky Stewart had his comments in regards to it. I do think he has a point where the independent doctor basically is working off a different standard than a rugby league team. We said this last year when this all came in, when they're going to bring the independent doctor. I said the problem with the independent doctor is he's working from a different field. Like, he's working from a standard that is way different to rugby league standard. Now, Graham Annesley has tried to come out and say that there's no grey area. An independent doctor doesn't need to know the flow of the game, doesn't need to know about the impact. Essentially, it's black and white. The doctor can make the call. I disagree. I think that there is grey areas, because if the independent doctor had his way and was working from the normal person standard that we're hoping that he does, he would tell every player on the field to get off the field and not play, because the impact constantly, there is constantly impact with head. Like, your head is constantly being impacted rugby league. Even when you don't impact, like even when you don't have a head clash, just a tackle, the impact is jolting your brain. And so I do agree with the sentiment that we need to have an independent doctor that does have a feel for the game, because in situations like the Kalen Ponga one, if you had a feel for the game and you saw it happen, you'd be like, oh, he's clearly sweet. Like, we just move on for it. So although I disagree with some of the sentiment in the other parts of it, I do agree that the independent doctor, we predicted this would happen. There'd be blokes getting touched and just taken off the field, and it just affects the game too much. There has to be, and I understand the NRL needs to protect itself. I get all that from being sued in the future, and I understand that as a business. I get all that. But there has to be some onus of, like, they're going to get hit in the head. It's rugby league.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you just said. Have you got a form of resolution for it? Because I personally don't. So I'm only throwing it to you to see what your thoughts are.
Look, the problem is if you make them sign wages, I think, and law experts, let us know. Obviously, the Beak is no law expert. I think that you run a dangerous risk of, if you make them sign something saying that they are going to get brain damage or whatever it is before each season, you're basically admitting that they get it.
Yeah.
And so it opens you up to, what are you talking about? You didn't give me brain damage. You're literally admitting at the start of each season that rugby league gives us brain damage. Again, that's a full armchair analyst, guys. I'm not a lawyer, as you all know. So I think that may be the concern. So that would be my resolution, though. In a perfect world, at the start of each season, anyone that's 18 years or older, so I also think that we would have to move the debut age. Is it 18 and older anyway now? Yes, 18 and older, and you have to sign something at the start of each year saying you understand the risks and the long-term damages of playing rugby league. Now, all the players know this. But if you did that, then you could say, guys, like, these guys are all adults that have voluntarily made a decision to do this. They know the dangers. We've put it all in front of them. So in the future, you're not allowed to come back and say, oh, I got this injury or that injury, like in 20 years or whatever, because you signed it as a consenting adult. That's the only thing I can think of. Outside of that, I agree with you, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which I think that solves some problems, but with everything, you'd have other, like we were speaking to the live show the other night about, juniors playing games and, parents worried about stuff. Like, imagine the backlash, like the media would have a field day with that. And then you would see so many more junior kids not playing rugby league. Obviously there's no perfect solution, I don't think, but it's a tricky one to work out. Like, everyone's got an opinion on it, but finding the perfect solution is fucking tough.
Oh, I don't envy the NRL at all.
Yeah,
they are between a rock and a hard place. They're just doing their best.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it all to comment properly on it, especially as there are so many grey areas.
Didn't stop me.
Yeah. But it's like the independent doctors there, they review the footage, they make their decision. Like, when the player comes off the field and they're told to come off, Can the independent doctor give them a physical examination, and if they say, like, you're completely sweet, within 2 minutes you can go back on, rather than waiting that mandatory 15? Like, is that a solution, or would that help? I'm not sure.
Well, there were in the commentary box, or I think half-time analysts, I think it was Mal Meninga maybe, or Cooper Cronk, where they said they felt that the independent doctor, there should be one at each ground that can do exactly what you said, rather than just looking on a screen. And I agree. I think that
do the physical.
I think that the NRL, the best way to do it is just invest money, have a doctor at the ground, have a full system set up that's like smooth, as quick as anything, so that a guy like Kalen, he goes off for a minute or two, does the check, you can clearly see he's fine, boom, straight back out there.
And that's it. Like, mate, I think one of the hardest things to stomach is when you know they're good, but they have to wait the mandatory 15 minutes. Oh. Now, again, because I don't know enough about it, the concussion, like, it might be a symptom thing where they have to be symptom-free for 15 minutes or something, but I don't know. If there's any way of speeding up that process, and then, as I said, there's the independent doctor at the field giving the physical, maybe that can help the course a little bit.
I think the only argument against the quick putting them back on quickly is you can have delayed symptoms.
Yeah.
And so they're worried that, like, come off, sweet, and then, like, in 10 minutes you're like all
it must
woozy.
Be obviously a minimum 15 before they know you're cleared, and there won't be the delay. I don't know.
But so I get Ricky's frustration for sure. You're trying to win footy matches, and you've got a bloke that's getting tapped and he's getting taken off.
Ricky's just taking attention off the players. That's it.
But yeah, like I in regards to all the other stuff, I'd probably respectfully disagree. I don't think. I'm not shocked that Kalen was taken off, and I do think the RLPA does have the players' best interests at heart. Now, don't get me wrong, the RLPA aren't perfect. They are absolutely not perfect at all. They're human beings. But I do think they do care about the players, and they do want their well-being taken care of. That's currently what they're fighting for. But let's get back to the Knights. What are your thoughts on the Knights, Guru?
I still worry about the middle, mate. It's just some of those tries that they conceded. The one that Wade Egan scored from dummy half. It's one of the softer tries we will see this year. There was another one where I think it was SJ turned Maratane Corey under, and he ended up getting held up. But just their middle defence, you had Lachlan Fitzgibbon who chased SJ for so long for no reason. You had the inside defenders were slow on it. They're such a frustrating side because they've got it on paper. You look at their team and you go, you should be relevant, you should be successful. But it just feels like they're constantly underachieving Newcastle. And that was a game that I tipped them. I genuinely thought they were going to win that game. Their middles just don't seem to show up. Adam Elliott started off the bench. It's his first game. Obviously, he's coming back from injury. He obviously looked a little bit slow as well. I'm hoping that with more match fitness and more game under his belt, he will improve because I think they're going to desperately need him to.
Oh, massively. Timmy, what do you think about the Knights?
Yeah, similar enough to Guru in that, like the question mark last week, wasn't it, coming into the round and going to the trials? We just wanted to see a hard edge. We wanted to see attitude. Like, it sounds so basic and sounds so stupid, but running the ball hard, whacking indeed, just attitude. And once again, around a few of the tries scored, the Egan try, the Bunty try, just the soft underbelly was exposed again. I think the Knights had 4 more runs in the entire game, yet ran for 250 metres less. Now, I know that can be like a skewed stat with how many runs with the back line taken, the long kicks, that sort of stuff, but they just look so soft to me again. And I was just like, well, have they changed from last year on that game? Not really.
It's just the intensity. I don't feel intensity from them. Like, I'm not watching them going, holy shit. Like, and again, I'd understand if it wasn't every week. Like, you don't expect them to be like that every week. But I'm trying to think of a game over the last 12 months where I sat back and thought, the Newcastle Knights forward packs are they're crazy. They're madmen. I just don't see that intensity.
And round one, Kempy, like, you don't have to be fluent in attack, ball in hand, all that sort of thing, and look terrific in round one, but surely your attitude is like, shit, yes, we're busting to get out here.
Yeah.
Line speed, that's whack blokes like certain teams, like the Dolphins did.
Yeah.
It's round one, boys. Get up for it.
And in my opinion, the middle got embarrassed in trial 1. Got embarrassed in trial 2. I was thinking this game, surely they stand up here. Surely they stand up. They didn't. See who they play next week? David Clemmer and the West Tigers.
So
Tommy Clemmer's not going to be ready to rip and tear for that one.
That's a huge clash. I'm actually really excited about that clash.
Yeah.
When you get out to that one, Kempy, Leichhardt Oval.
Oh, yeah?
Watching that game yesterday, I was like, oh, get that. It looks so good on the hill, didn't
Mate,
it?
you'll be a rock star out there.
Oh, I'm sure we'll, mate.
Fucking sports. Oh my God, Supercoach, bloody hero, mate.
Yeah, if Guru comes with me, maybe.
Yeah, get mobbed.
That's if you dodge that Stan documentary you're going to get a feature on too.
Yeah, the Newey Knights, again, it's just that intensity. I don't know. I just want to see, give me one game of just super intensity. Even if you lose it, even if you complete at 60%. I just want to see super intensity where you're just shooting out of line trying to hurt blokes. Maybe it's because Adam O'Brien wants to play a much more technical game. I will say that there were many years where the Storm actually almost waited for you to come to them and then just caught you, wrestled you. Their line speed wasn't that crazy. There was many years where Storm were, they weren't known as a very aggressive side at all. So maybe that's Adam O'Brien's tact of like save your energy and not with the line speed maybe. I'm not sure. But I think in today's game, like in the current climate, when you look at the best, when Roosters went on the run last year, Penrith Panthers, Rabbitohs, like their line speed is great. Where you're going, they're literally nearly landing on the player as he gets the ball. I'm just not really seeing that from the Newey Knights. Positive is the time Kalen was on, 11 tackles, only 1 miss, a try assist. So, for the time we saw, not bad.
Yeah, there was a tackle that Chance made on Kalen that was an absolute cracker. I thought Kalen was going to score for all money, and I think if he did, Newcastle would have won that game. It was a huge tackle by Chance. I just repeat myself week after week, but they've got the cattle to be able to be successful. They just need to aim up in the middle.
Shout out to Jalen Brayley, 49 tackles, no misses. But yeah, the positives is I thought Kalen did have some good moments. Defensively, he didn't look like he got caught out that much at all. Didn't miss a bunch of tackles.
What about when he shot out from marker at Adam Fanua Blake? Poor bastard.
Ouch.
I respect KP for the way that he plays, but pick someone else to go, surely.
Bruh. Too tough for your own good. Lockie Miller, 181 metres, 11 tackle breaks. The tip we gave at the start of the year was that he'd probably be up there in tackle breaks and metres run for fullback. And, he did that, 11 tackle breaks. It was probably the most... Actually, I think that's the most of the round. I haven't seen anyone else with 11 tackle breaks. Defensively, made a couple of missed tackles, which, obviously need to fix up. Anything else on the Knights, boys? There's not really much else to say, unfortunately.
Mate.
Jeez, it's a desperate game next week. Knights, Tigers.
Oh,
very early, isn't it?
I love games in round 2 of two teams that lost in round 1. They're always crackers.
Mate, absolutely. Okay, now on to the next game. But before we get there, let's get some shout-outs. Bartlett's Tavern, Rockhampton. Dave was one of the original supporters of Bloke Lager in Queensland, and it's still going strong up there in Rocky. He actually definitely is one of the original supporters and was huge for us. So much so that when he ordered stock, it sold out in literally like a second, and he had to order it like so much, keep ordering stock over and over because of the support at Bartlett's Tavern. So Bartlett's Tavern in Rockhampton, get in there for some lager. Fleet Street Cellars, Daisy Hill, say hi to Charlene. Middleton Pub, say hi to Jason. Dicey's Liquor Barn, Gladstone, Jane will help you out. Normanby Hotel, oh, this one is dear to the heart. This one's dear to the heart. Many a night at the Normanby Hotel after games, carrying on like an absolute derrick. Normanby Hotel Brisbane, one of Brisbane's iconic venues, has just changed hand, is now with Ingham Myers brothers, Sam and Nick. They've done an unbelievable job of reinvigorating the Rockley Hotel and will see the Normanby back to its former glory. Grab a Bloke Lager and catch all the NRL games on the big screen in the beer garden. The Normanby is truly a glorious place, so get down there, honestly. I think my soul's still in there, at least a part of it. Big Fish Tavern in Caboolture, Gumdale Tavern, Celebrations Camp Hill, Crafty Fox Ale House, Stones Corner, and Henchman in Miami. Now, let's get to the match of the round, baby. Brought to you by Sportsbet, the best betting app in all the land. As we said at the top of the show, guys, you can now share a bet with your mates on Sportsbet. It's basically, if your mate puts on a multi and you want to ride it with them, you can, without having to manually put it in yourself, you can now share the bet with the tap of a button, and your mate can copy it straight into their bet slip. Share the bet, copy the bet with Sportsbet. So this is a match around for me personally, obviously, because the Broncos got the win. They were paying, what were they paying? About $4, I think?
Fours, yep.
$4, so plenty of value there. So if you got on that on Sportsbet, you would have been a winner. But yeah, Broncos 13, Panthers 12. This this is an interesting game because obviously it's an upset, for one, but I'd make an argument where Broncos' attack wasn't even that good. It was just their defence that was incredible. And then you go even deeper, is you're like, was Broncos' defence incredible, or was Penrith Panthers' attack just a bit stale? I'm not sure. The Broncos get the job done down in Penrith. Go to you first, Timmy. Is it alarm bells down in Penrith, or just going to, like we suggested last week, where the Penrith may just ease into this year because they've been so high for so long?
Mate, 3 unbelievable seasons in a row from Penrith. They had, nearly their entire side was involved in the World Cup, and not just in the World Cup, but deep into the World Cup, going all the way through to the final. They had the World Club Challenge, which was another big game that they sort of had to prepare for. There had to be a downer at some point, and I mean, as NRL speaking, it's only one game. Sure, they lost the World Club Challenge. They had change of personnel. I mean, it's a slower start than probably most anticipated, but it's absolutely not alarm bells. It's one game of footy that, they lost by a point to Brisbane, who at times last season were a top 4 team. We said up in Armidale on the weekend before the game, we're like, obviously Penrith should be red hot favourites, but Brisbane absolutely have the cattle to win this game, and they have. It's like the hysteria coming out was as if they got done by 30 points or something. It was 1 point.
Yep.
So, no, I don't think it's alarm bells, and as I said, it's off the mark poorly, but they'll be fine.
And I think people are underestimating, like, that $4 was probably a bit wide. Like, Broncos are super hard because they could have gone down there and got pumped by 40 and we all would have said, oh, yep, young side. But Broncos at their best, they're almost a title threat, almost. So I don't think they're a title threat yet, but they're not far off it, especially with another year in Ezra Mam. What do you think about the game, Guru?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you would have had the Brisbane Broncos against Penrith last year when Brisbane were at their best, you're not getting 4s. No way.
Yeah.
And, it's round 1. I think people are overreacting for Penrith a little bit. I think people are looking at the World Club Challenge in this game. They've played awfully and they've lost both games by 1 point. Let's settle down.
Yeah.
I also think there's a number of things. It's not very often I don't agree with Ivan Cleary's decisions, but I think there's a number of things that he can do to this side that will make a big difference very quickly. There's obviously reasons for everything that's been done, and maybe there's injuries or carrying whatever, but I thought that Sonny Luke playing those limited minutes on the weekend, I could not believe that it played out that way, and it didn't shock me in the slightest, though. It looked like a different footy side when he was on the field.
Yeah, the Sonny Luke, we'll get to the Panthers. The Sonny Luke situation, look, I can, having been in the system for quite a while, a lot of coaches, it seems obvious to everyone else, put on the rookie, get him in there. We know he's a gun. He's played New South Wales Cup. But there's a lot of times where they play really well in reserve grade, they get to first grade, and they just go to water. Or they make 2 or 3 errors, and they just don't seem to play that well. So it's building that trust with the head coach where to say, if you put me in the side, you put me on the field, I don't necessarily think I'll explode the game apart, but what I won't do is I won't let you down. And I do think that Ivan Cleary's thinking probably was, in such a tight match, in such a crucial time, Sonny Luke, a small attacking hooker, do I know whether he'll be able to handle those big forwards through the middle in the crunch time? Now, I think he proved that he probably could, but before he does that, you just never know. And I think that may be where Ivan was coming from. Now, I do think that, as you said, in hindsight, it was probably the wrong call because when he did come on, he looked incredible and they all of a sudden had a lot of momentum around the ruck. But I think that may have been Ivan's thinking.
Yeah, which is interesting because, once again, Ivan's forgotten more than I know about rugby league, no doubting that. But I just, for anyone that's watched Sonny Luke come through reserve grade and everything, there's no one I've spoken to that has watched him play anything that it made sense to. So that's what, yeah.
I was just saying, we're overlooking the fact that he missed both trials with injury. So round 1, probably just easing him back.
And that's what I'm saying. Maybe there's injury to it or whatever. But from what I've gathered, I think he was right to go for that World Club Challenge. They rested him for that. I mean, I think with the Panthers, it hasn't started perfectly. It's far from a train wreck. They play South Sydney on Thursday night. They then got a bye. I reckon you'll see them come out of this bye with a bit of a different looking squad and different minutes for guys and stuff.
How many minutes does Sonny Luke play this week?
I would say 55.
You reckon? Wow.
Mate, he's an 80-minute hooker in reserve grade the last few years. Their attack is just too clunky with Mitch Kenny at 9.
I will say an underappreciated factor going into this season is not only have they lost, all those big players, Kick Out, Api Coruscant, they lost both their assistant coaches as well.
Yep.
That's a big, because the assistant coach is like the link man between the head coach and the players. He's almost like, he never delivers the bad news. He delivers the good news, but also he's very he can get quite detailed in attacking structures and all that. And so, maybe it may take time for Penrith to adjust to that as well. Life without not just one assistant coach, 2 assistant coaches, and they lost Trent Barrett a couple of years before that.
And that's to compound that, obviously, losing Trent Barrett. So they had to replace him. They did. Then they had to replace him again. And knowing Penrith, they might have to replace him again next year, realistically, because everyone's going to come for them. But I think that if they can put him on for more minutes, and I would 100% still start with Mitch Kenny, but I just think you need to get Sonny Luke on there earlier. And I've still got a lot of question marks about that left edge. Luke Garner only played 50 minutes on the weekend. Zach Hosking was 18th man. I reckon they're going to come out of this bye and Hosting's going to be playing on the left edge personally.
Do they have a bye next week?
They've got South this week, and I reckon they'll give all these guys another chance because at the end of the day, they lost by 1 point.
Yeah.
But I reckon there's a good chance they come out of that bye with Sonny Luke being a 55, 60-minute guy and Hosking on the left edge.
Yep. And post-game, there was a little bit of a blow-up between Luai and Salmon. I mean, it's a nothing thing. I think, and most fans know this, but if you're in any industry where you're at the tippity top high performing, this is the kind of way you speak to each other. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm wrong in regards to you shouldn't speak to each other that way. And I'll be honest, myself personally, moving into business, Matty can attest to us. I'm quite brutal in regards to my feedback, and can be this isn't. And obviously, I'm getting better at the way I deliver it. But that's in top tier systems. When you expect 10 out of 10 from each other, that's just going to happen. I would be, if my footy team isn't speaking to each other like that after a loss, as in I don't want them arguing and bittering and pointing fingers, and it becoming an issue. But if my footy team isn't into each other about errors made, I'm filthy.
And the play that they were arguing over was a shocker. It was Jerome Luai. It was a pass out to Jamin Salmon, and it floated in between him and the winger and went to no one in a crucial moment. As if you wouldn't be filthy over that. As if you don't want to sort it out. If they're not having these conversations, what are they doing?
Do you think Penrith have built a dynasty, or building a dynasty, I should say, in recent years off the back of mistakes like that happening, going, it's cool, mate, we'll get it next time.
Yeah, don't worry, all good.
And blow-ups like that would happen every game at every club. It was just that it was caught on camera, which was mad.
I loved it.
To watch.
It was so good to watch.
It happens all the time.
And I'm sorry, tell me Freddie and Joey weren't handing out some of the greatest sprays of all time to their back rowers.
It's because we try to put this nice sheen on rugby league now for the wider audience, because everyone wants to be offended about everything.
Imagine a Joey spray.
Be glorious.
And mate, I believe that if Penrith would have won that game, which they came very close to, Jerome Luai almost scored a match winner there. Great defence by Brisbane. Do you reckon we see that clip?
No, of course not. Look, I understand the media have got to show it. I love seeing it, but it's nothing to worry about. It's if anything, Jerome and Salmon could have been like, bro, we're back-to-back premiers. Who gives a shit? Lost a game. Who cares? I like the fact that they're filthy at each other. That's how high their standards are. Yep. Back-to-back premiers, they lost by 1 point to a Broncos team that had everything to play for. We're talking about a Broncos team that's just come out at one of the, arguably the worst off-season of any club. Arguably. They've got everything to play for, and it was a 1 point loss. And so, I think that any high-functioning industry where you're at the tippity top and you are playing for keeps and everyone is super competitive, you're going to have discussions like that where, that's just the way you talk. You've got to get it done. Otherwise, if you pitter-patter around something and, that's fine, rah, your standards just drop to nothing.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Jamin Salmon, I think we forget, 18 months ago, he was a centre /5'8". He's now on the left edge as a back rower for the Penrith Panthers, as if he doesn't have things still to learn. And you want your 5'8" to tell you.
Yeah. Agreed. So I don't think that's anything to worry about. If anything, I really like the standards it sets. I will say I've been watching the documentary, the All the Way, with the Penrith Panthers. It's fantastic for one. So make sure you go check it out on 9 Now. It is absolutely fantastic. And what I love about it, though, I think that it's the first time you get an insight into how good of a coach Ivan is. The things that he says at the right time. He's very calm, very measured. More of a, he would do the X's and O's. There's no denying that, for sure. But just the presence of, the feel in the team, getting the boys up, I think it shines a real spotlight on his role and what happened there.
And also, like, you always expect a coach to be, number one in charge and having an eye over everything. But, and I assume off the back of your comment before, Kemp, you would have noticed this too, but just the faith he has in his assistant coaches just to take care of these things. And sometimes the greatest asset of a good leader is being able to release instead of having to be over the top and controlling everything. And I thought that was really evident with Ivan.
Yeah, really evident. So it's a great doco, and it just gives you, it's the first time you actually get to see Ivan. Like, he's a back-to-back premiership winning coach, and no one even talks about him as like one of the best coaches in the comp. It's incredible. But yeah, with the Penny Panthers, in regards to the edges, they're definitely lacking punch. I actually thought Liam Martin had quite a good game, but I think the Garner situation is going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Gets through his work to a degree, solid in defence, but I think that he could go looking for the ball a little bit more. Now, in his defence, if he's been told to sit down that edge and stay there, then that's unfair on him. But if he has been given a little bit of a licence to roam, I think that it would be it'd be good for him to really get involved in the middle there and get some ball in hand. Now, to be fair, he did have more runs than Martin, but I think Martin probably impacts the game more in defence. So, if you're not going to impact the game in defence, you've got to impact it in attack. And so I wonder, I think he'll be there next week, Garner. But I do think that he probably needs to get a little bit more involved.
And you did see in their World Club Challenge when he moved and you had Hoskins come in, he went looking for it. He had about 15 hit-ups.
Yes, 15 runs, 150 metres. Where you look at these stats, so 23 tackles. So he had 23 tackles and 10 runs, 97 metres, whereas Liam Martin had 9 runs for 75 metres, but he had 43 tackles. And so, I just think that... And he's in a new side, the premiership back-to-back. It's very hard to find your voice in that side.
100%.
Just to just roll in and be like, "Oi, give me the fucking ball now." It's very hard to do that.
Especially when the guy they're used to on that edge is, I was going to say, is the complete opposite to you, is the complete opposite to everyone, essentially. Viliami Kikau, he's such a unique footballer.
Yeah.
It's always going to take time.
Going to take time. But I think, when you're in that period of, taking time, you just got to try to get through a fair bit of work. So you just show that, I'm keen, I'm here. He would be keen, but it's just to show the coach, all right, I may not be getting as good ball as, say, Viliami Kikau did, but I'll get through, 15 to 20 hit-ups or something. Or I'll get through 10 hit-ups and 40 tackles.
I'm happy to give him the benefit of the doubt, Garner, early. I've seen a lot of him and a lot of success he's had at the Tigers in a poor club. The fact that he goes and he's a completely different back rower to what that Penrith system is used to. We speak about all these combinations and how it takes time to work each other out. That's a completely new system. That whole left edge changes by Luke Garner there. And, Luke Garner is not a creative back rower who's going to sweep like Kikau did or do any of that. His best asset is he's a hard line runner.
Yep.
And Penrith will work that out, and they'll work around him with that. And I really do hope we see it, and I'll back him to come good.
Yeah, I want to see him play some more footy. I think you probably give him the first month of first grade to really just put his stamp on games. And again, he doesn't have to be a world beater or whatever. But I do think Hoskins is probably putting pressure on him because Hoskins does get through quite a lot of work. Is Hoskins so he's 18th man. I wonder, is there a world where Hoskins squeezes onto the bench?
I reckon there definitely is, because the tough thing with being 18th man, which you would assume Hoskins will be every week, is that he's not playing footy. He's not playing New South Wales Cup then. So I reckon there's a good chance that they might put him on the bench for maybe a Jamin Salmon or something.
Because I was going to say, you've got Sonny Luke, Scotty Sorensen, Spencer Lanu. Salmon, he's a utility makeshift back row, whereas you've already got your 14 there. And so I wonder whether their bench is a bit too small, maybe.
I was really surprised they went Salmon over Hosking. Even I see Salmon coming on in Luke Garner's place on the edge. I don't think he's going to be as effective as him. And I get that he's there for utility value, but Luke Garner can also cover the back line. He was outstanding at times at centre for the Tigers.
Honestly, sometimes he was their best player at centre.
Yeah, he was great. Such a great defensive presence. So I think Hosking on the bench can come on and, instead of Salmon coming on with half hour to go, Hosking can come on and play 30 minutes there and give him the chance to win that spot, but I think that's a better setup.
And that's where I question, if the plan was the entire time for Garner to play 50 minutes, why wouldn't you have picked Hoskins? I don't reckon that was their plan going into it. I reckon they made that change on the fly.
Yeah, okay.
And put Salmon there. That's what has me worried.
Do you reckon, and it has you worried for Garner and maybe he wasn't impacting enough, so they thought Salmon might?
Yep. I reckon they wanted to just try something new, and salmon was the best option they had there.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I mean, that's a bit harsh on Garner, like one game.
Yeah.
But they also moved him in the World Club Challenge too, remember?
Scotty Sorensen failed HO in the weekend, so if he's not available, well, Hoskins pretty like for like can come in and play middle and edge, so we could see him this weekend regardless.
So hopefully Garner gets a few weeks. He didn't play bad by any stretch, It's just, I guess we're so used to seeing impact on the edge there that, they've rotated through, like, it's crazy to think now, but like Liam Martin was on the bench while Capewell was starting. Like Liam Martin.
Exactly right. And that's the beauty of this footy side. Same as Jerome Luai and Jamin Salmon could have waited until Monday to have that conversation. They want to get shit sorted. They're in the winning premierships business.
Absolutely. Anyone stand out for Penrith for you guys? Dylan Edwards obviously gets through 1,000 metres, 289 metres, far out, 7 tackle breaks, a try assist. He's so good.
The only one I wanted to sort of point out as well, and again, I can seem critical of Critter at times, but it's because I hold him in such high regard, and we know he can be one of the best players in the NRL. He's just starting to run a little bit of a fine line with going for these intercepts. Because he let through that try for really far through, shot out, and his eyes lit up. He thought he had it, and he was beaten by an unbelievable pass. But, that could have been the difference in the game because it was an easy one-on-one tackle if he held his position.
They had numbers.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I look at centre from a very defensive mindset. I think most people look at it as the attacking heroics. But for every intercept you score, everyone you miss, that balances it out for me. So... And you don't want to take it out of his game because he won a bloody grand final with an intercept. And he's had so many big moments with his intercept, and it's a great part of his game that he reads a game that well. Just got to be a little cautious on that.
And I think it's easy to say that after he misses one, but from talking to guys in that Penrith system, like he is so good at it that they back him to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out every time, and I get that 100%. But he comes up trumps with it more often than not.
That's the thing. I'm not convinced. It's because when it happens, it's the first highlight really out of that game because everyone loves an intercept. He's missed a few of them. It's not one.
I will say, from what I've seen from Critter this year, he has had errors creeping into his game that hasn't been there from yesteryear. He's still getting through a bunch of work, a bunch of tackle breaks. But like when you look at his stats, like great attacking, 6 tackle breaks, 143 metres, 9 tackles, 4 misses, an error, and then obviously you include the go for an intercept. So sometimes he's had so many big moments now. It's like sometimes you need to go, okay, let's take a step back and strip everything back again and then build back into those big moments. And look, I agree with Guru in regards to it's easy to say that now that he missed that one, but it still was a massive play. And then you go into the World Club Challenge, it was his error that was a massive error in a massive part of the game. So just got to just clean that little bit part of his game up and he'll be back to the Critter we know. He hasn't been playing poorly. I mean, World Club Challenge, he didn't have the best game. I won't deny that. On the weekend, though, he's just... I don't know whether it's lack of concentration. I don't know what it is. Maybe everything that's been happening in the off-season for him in regards to being in the media is a lot for him as a young fella. He'll come good, though. He'll come good.
And I think the off-field stuff has had a pretty big impact on Critter. From what I've gathered, without a doubt.
Well, because he cares. He actually he cares about the club.
He cares about that community. He cares about that club. Yep. Cares about it all. And I think he's been portrayed in a really unfair way.
Yeah, and he hasn't done anything wrong. And So I think that he'll come good. He'll come good. It's just a matter
Absolutely will.
Yeah, just a matter of just cleaning up those little things. And just sometimes you just need to take a step back, refocus, and almost build again. Okay, all right, yeah, I can make those huge plays, intercepts, and big game plays, but how about I just focus on getting through a bunch of work, getting my tackles done, and then later on in the season, I'll look towards those big plays when all the foundation's good. And look, Critter's a much better player than me and achieved way more than me. That's just outside looking in.
Achieved a bit more than us too, just
obviously haven't seen my chemicals, mate.
But yeah, all in all, nothing to worry about with the Penrith Panthers. Not yet. Look, do they not look as good as the side last year? For sure. There's absolutely no denying Api Coruscant and Viliami Kikau are massively missed. I think, personally, the best way going forward in this season for the Penrith Panthers, though, is to basically just ease into the year, get to the finals in the top 8, and then make you run towards the end of the year. I just can't see a world where they go a whole nother season with like losing 3 games. Like I just can't see how they could physically do that.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that, you know, I understand the World Club Challenge as a trial, but like that's a game that the Penrith Panthers took very seriously. You know, I thought that their pack lost that game. Their pack definitely lost against the Broncos the other night. I thought not very often you see them lose 2 in a row like that.
Yeah, it might be an energy thing. You know, like they've had such a big few years. It's just going to I think it's just going to take them time to warm back into the contest because, you know, Fisher, Harris, Leota, they both went away for the World Cup and they're their core. Like they are their core.
I also think a lot of it, without coming back to it too much, comes back to what we were talking about before about just how important your 9 is around the ruck. And when you do get Sonny Luke on there like he did in the last 25 minutes the other night, I think you'll start to see the forward pack get on the front foot once again.
Now, onto the Brizzy Broncos. What a win. What a win. Herbie Farnworth was absolutely outstanding. Haas, incredible. Paddy Carrigan, incredible. You know, I thought Ezra Mam's defence was outstanding, like absolutely outstanding. I mean, I thought he was outstanding, period. Like the try that I think he set up was just crazy footwork. Where he steps Nathan Cleary, boom, away. I thought Catewell looked way more fit again. Like I think that because he needed a shoulder reconstruction. I'm pretty sure it was last year. He had a shoulder injury. He needed a clean out or something. Yep. He looks like back to his the physicality that he could bring to games. As I said, Paddy Carrigan was absolutely phenomenal. You know, Jordan Reiki got through a bunch of work. Good on him. 39 tackles, 85 metres, no errors. You know, you have to give credit where, like, when they do what you want him to do, 4 one-on-one tackles. That's great from Jordan Ricky. Like, you can build so much on that game. Get through your work, do your job, and everything will come after that. Billy Walters, I thought, was good. What a win. What an incredible win. I will say, I guess there was 2. Corey Oates did some incredible carries, but those 2 errors in the crucial part of the game, like when you look at Oates and Selwyn Cobbo made 7 errors all up. Just too much. You're letting down your forwards when you do stuff like that. Katoni Staggs, great in defence. His energy in defence was outstanding. In attack, though, only 4 runs. I really hope he can ease his way into getting like minimum 10 a game. Because you look across, Herbie Farnworth, 13 runs. You know, but to be fair, Herbie Farnworth only made 8 tackles. You know, Staggs doubled it. But outside of that, what a performance. What a team performance by the Broncos. Their defence was absolutely outstanding.
So I loved watching Ezra Mam.
So good.
He just brought energy. He was whacking blokes. You just mentioned then how he stepped Nathan Cleary. He's one of the better defensive players in the competition. He left him for dead.
Yeah.
He didn't get near him.
Yeah,
it was incredible. He's a freak. And it wasn't off a set play. It was off an offload on last tackle that Billy Walters probably got caught with the ball when he shouldn't have.
I think it was fourth tackle.
Fourth, wasn't it? Okay. And Ezra just made that work. I was very impressed with Ezra, man. I love watching him play. And this, you know, there was always the chance that his second year he doesn't come back quite as well as what we hoped. And mate, all signs so far, he looks like he's going to be better than what he was last year.
Yeah, and you're right. Like there's a world where you come in second year, you've played NRL now, so you think you've made it. He's come back even hungrier. He looks hungrier than he was last year. He looks more confident. Like, some of the shots he was pulling off on bigger boys. Like, Ezra Mam's not a big guy. He's not a big guy. He was jamming blokes. Timmy, what do you think about the Broncos?
Yeah, I love that, you know, it was a lot of the, probably not the bigger names in the side that stepped up. You know, some of the blokes that were the most impressive were Ezra Mam, who, you know, will be a superstar one day, I think, but at this stage, very, very early in his career. Man was terrific. As you said, Billy Walters had some really good creative moments out of dummy half. Herbie Farnworth was outstanding, so it wasn't necessarily the big names doing a lot of the damage. So no one had a clue what to expect from the Broncos in round 1, and they brought that attitude, particularly in defence, Kempy, as you said, that through that, particularly the middle stage of last season, where when they were down and out with numbers, issues, there was, you know, the, I suppose, semi-infamous win against the Raiders when they had no one and they just like got up for everything. It was that attitude at their best last year. And as a footy fan, it was great to see. It was great to see for the club. So, great signs.
Yeah. The only thing with Ezra, like, sometimes when you look at stats, they can be misleading because, like, he missed 7 tackles, but obviously you don't want him missing 7 tackles. If you could bring that down to like 4 or whatever, but sometimes you'll trade missed tackles for energy.
Yep.
Like sometimes you'll go, I would rather him get crazy line speed and jam someone and get bounced off, because then they stop anyway, and miss a tackle. Sometimes a missed tackle can be as simple as you rush out of the line and you force the player to go back inside, and then the defensive cleans up in the middle. But I want to give a shout out. It won't be spoken about at all in regards to the highlights or whatever. Adam Reynolds, 27 tackles, only 1 miss. Adam Reynolds is not known for his defence. If anything, the knock on Reynolds is he can get injured and little nigglies here and there, even though when you look at his record, he's averaging more than 20 games a year. 27 tackles, only 1 miss. That's outstanding.
Well, he was in huge doubt for round 1.
Yeah. Paddy Carrigan, 50 tackles, 1 miss. Paddy Carrigan is a god amongst men. A god amongst men.
I thought Payne Arce and Pat Carrigan were just on another planet.
Another planet.
Unbelievable.
Like they were probably the best front row pairing in the like I know he played 13, but he plays like a front rower in the comp on the weekend, I reckon.
Oh, I think for sure.
Like they were outstanding.
When you consider the guys they went up against and got the better of, definitely.
Good point.
Payne Haas, 207 metres, 19 runs, 84 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, 27 tackles, 0 misses.
24 kick metres.
24 kick metres.
Just get it in there, mate.
And zero errors. Like, what a knock. What a knock. So now, I guess, for the Broncos, it's about backing it up. It's about doing it for the whole season. You know, it's all well and good knocking off the premiers, but if you come out next week and get dusted, it means literally nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add another positive to it, that was without Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
Like, he had him in, and someone Coburn moves back to the wing, which I think at the moment he's a better winger than what he is fullback. There's only upside to the Broncos at the moment.
I think that I will say, though, for the Broncos, they did get lucky with a few calls. Like that Sonny Luke one with the play of the ball was outrageous that was a penalty. Outrageous. And then Selwyn Cobbo obviously knocked the ball on at the end there. Jerome Luai was offside. So if they want to keep winning games, they can't afford to have these big errors. Like, as I said, Selwyn Cobbo, 4 errors. Corey Oates, 3 errors. A lot of other top-tier teams are putting you to the sword doing that. Yep. So if they can just clean that up, if the outside backs can just clean up the error rate, because last year, I think, was it Tony Staggs, Selwyn Cobbo and Corey Oates were like in the top 10 of errors or something like that. That's just something they can't afford to do. Adam Reynolds, 629 kicking metres. Just, what a knock. Nathan Cleary, 347. Like, that's amazing from Reynolds. We're talking about a guy in the twilight of his career, and he's out kicking Nathan Cleary, one of the best to do it. It's amazing. Seriously.
I cannot wait for this Friday night, Broncos Cowboys, the game of chess between Adam Reynolds and Chatty Townsend. They're 2 very similar teams. You've obviously got your 2 strike fullbacks. Your halfbacks are very similar. Stacked forward packs, they're unreal.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this game.
There's going to be a cracker. Absolute cracker. Herbie Farnworth. Jeez, like, here you go. Last week we're going, okay, maybe he's not the superstar showstopper, but he gets 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 every week. And then he comes out against the Penrith Panthers and becomes a superstar. And you're like, okay, hang on a sec. Let's pump the brakes. Did we make a huge... I mean, we definitely made an error in not being able to keep him, but it's gone from me being happy that, like, okay, Herbie Farnworth, he's been so good for us for so long. Go get your money, mate. He played so well that I'm all of a sudden going, is there a world where we consider, moving other people around to keep Herbie? Did we make a mistake in not doing that? He was incredible.
Herbie's a weird footballer in that I watch him play and he kills it, and then I come back in on Monday and I sit there and go, he's good, but he's not like a superstar. And then you watch him in the weekend again, you go, okay, maybe he is. Yeah. Then I get to Monday and go, he's good, but I feel like I'm in this constant...
I think it's because, like, you don't see, I don't know, like, mad footwork with a big fend to a try, but he does it anyway, though. He just...
Yeah. I can't remember the last time Staggs and him were on the field, and I thought Staggs was better than him.
Ding up on Critter, didn't miss a tackle. Yep. Like one of the best centres in the NRL.
Yeah. 8 tackles, 0 misses as well. Far out. And so it's like, as I said, it's gone from happy for him because he's been so good to, shit, have we missed a trick here in not moving things around to try to keep him? Should have he been one of our priority backs to sign? Now, Look, I know our other backs are signed a long-term deal, so you can't just see you later. I don't know. Is there a world where at the end of this year we're going, he's our best back?
Quite possibly. He was right up there with it last year.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
So good.
Which is like, then you go, Broncos just lost their best back.
He's by far and away your most consistent back. I
Oh,
think.
for sure. Absolutely. He's so good. He's going to be so good for the Dolphins. So good for the Dolphins. And I think that, to your point last week, Timmy, where you said you can actually see him taking that next step into superstar, I think I agree. I think he genuinely might become a superstar. He may go from really good Mr. Consistent, so 8 out of 10 every week, to game breaker.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did on the weekend. We don't win that game if Herbie Farnworth isn't playing.
Yeah. That's what you love to see. He's doing it against the top teams too. He's not beating up on the lower sides.
Yep. I mean, when he was playing for England, he did it against Australia. Was it Australia or New Zealand? Anyway, the top tier teams, Herbie Farnworth had his best game. Look, really good signs for the Broncos. As I said, want to give Jordan Ricky a rap. Got through his work, did his job, tough as nails on the edge there. Didn't back down, wasn't overawed by anything. No errors as well, which we love to see. So, what a win by the Brizzy Broncos. Anything else?
No, I think that just about covers it for me.
Now, let's get to our next game, boys. Manly versus the Doggies. Before we do, though, some shout-outs. Store shout-outs. Seaview Cellars in Bamaris. Vincent is stocked up with both midi and lager. This is all Victoria, guys. Seaview Cellars, Bamaris. Vincent stocked up with midi and lager. Steve's Liquor, Springvale South. Manager Stephen is stocked up with lager and a special at $59.95 a case and is running a soccer jersey promotion. As you guys know, if you buy a 6-pack or a case of Bloke beer, you have a chance to win a Bloke soccer jersey. And also in Victoria, obviously it's a smaller area for us, so the chances of you winning that jersey are really high. So get into Steve's Liquor in Springvale South. Then we've got Grape and Grain in Moorabool. Owner Paul is stocked up with both midi and lager. Steve's Liquor Highton. Manager Wayne is stocked up with both midi and lager and is also running a party promotion shirt. So again, you buy a case, you win a chance to win a shirt. Then we've got Celebrations in St Kilda. Manager Matt is stocked up with both the midi and the lager and is also running a shirt promo. So Victorians, get amongst it. Get in there for a chance to win a shirt. But let's get to the game. Manly versus the Doggies. What we'll do is we'll screenshot the odds, the Sportsbet odds, when we do the tipping at the end of the show, so that we can look back and go, what was the value? What were the odds?
Manly were $1.75.
And didn't we say that was pretty good?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And which was funny because Manly hadn't won a round one for a while. Anyway, Manly defeat the Dogs 31-6. Now, Manly were definitely dominant, but I do think the Dogs were in the game until pretty much Kyle Flanagan got sent in the bin. The headline from this game, in my opinion, is there's 2 headlines. Manly, wow. Second headline is, what a terrible call against the Doggies for that 10 in the bin. There is not a world, a universe, a multiverse, a dimension that is 10 in the bin. You are kidding me. Like, are we watching the same video? And it's in slow-mo as well. Like, what are we doing? Like, when you watch it in slow-mo, you think that Kyle Flanagan had as much time to think as the slow-mo. When it happens like that, Tom Trbojevic went past him. The ball went behind him. Tom Trbojevic is almost slowing up. It is only natural for Flanagan to put his hands out to brace. What is he supposed to do? Just keep running into Tom Trbojevic? He barely touched him. Look, if you want to give a penalty, fine. 10 in the bin. We are getting way too liberal with this 10 in the bin. It used to be reserved for... You had to kill someone. Literally a person, honestly, for 10 in the bin, it used to mean something. Now it's like every game, we're just 10 in the bin, 10 in the bin. In my opinion, a professional foul is where you can see a clear intent. He intended to foul the person to stop a try. You cannot tell me that was clear intent from Kyle Flanagan. Terrible call.
I personally don't think if it was turbo, it's not a sin bin.
You reckon?
I think it's that superstar sort of value. I reckon if it was Lachlan Croker, for example, I don't reckon he gets a bin for it.
Well, yeah, we were in the car, me and Matty, on the way, or the van, I should say, on the way back from Armidale, and we're listening to this part of it on the radio. And how's the reaction from the commentators going, he hasn't hardly even touched him. They were absolutely seething. Obviously went back and watched the video live after. Holy dooly, it was soft.
What a bad call.
It can be. It's like, I'm glad it's only taken, half an episode into the season to bring it up again, but if only there was, not that this would have been deserving of it, but 5 minutes in bin.
It wouldn't have been,
it wouldn't have been 5 minutes in bin, but at least then it would have been 5 minutes less than what he got.
Oh,
just bring it in.
Hey, that's the thing. I am really forgiving of referees when they make calls on the fly because things happen so quickly. They happen so quickly, and we can't. We let players make errors all day. Refs are going to make errors. They're going to make errors. So when it happens on the fly, I just go, mate, this is rugby league. You're going to get some calls. You're not going to get some calls. Eventually, it comes around. When you watch a video replay 10 times over and you send someone to... That's unforgivable. It's not good enough. It is not good enough. It's a bad call. I don't think there's anyone that was sitting there going, oh, that deserves 10 in the bin. It's so surprising to me. Anyway, even though that happened, the Dogs definitely didn't deserve to win. That wasn't the reason they lost. I think they lost because Manly were outstanding and the Dogs looked rudderless. They looked really rudderless. We'll talk about Dogs first. Matty Burton seemed... I'm convinced now that Matty Burton needs an extremely dominant 7. I think there was a world or an idea that maybe Matty Burton could become like the leader where he directs people around the park, he gets everywhere where he needs to go. I think it's become evident between two things. When he was at Penrith Panthers, I think they tried a similar situation where Luai was the 6 and he was 7 when he came in, or at least they thought Burton would be the guy that lead him around. It never really worked. So seeing how he plays at centre, where he's just free to do what he wants to do. Every time he gets the ball, he's free to be Matty Burton. Add that onto the fact that he doesn't seem to be as good at organising. And I think that on the weekend it showed that there's even some people, and I don't agree with it, but I can see where they're coming from, where they go, Matty Burton's a centre. Now, I still think he's a 6, but he's only going to be unlocked if they just allow him to play freely like he does in the centre position, because I don't think he needs to be the guy ordering the troops around getting field position. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think, it'd be great to see Matty Burton play with a Chad Reynolds, one of these guys. And, I obviously categorise Kyle Flanagan as being in that product of player, just not at that class. Yes, in that class. But he, as you said last week, and I agree, you can be successful with Flano, but he needs to nail that shit every week.
Every week, every second of every game.
Yep. Didn't on the weekend.
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no. And I think it did have an impact on Burton. But I also just thought, mate, you have a look at the way the Dolphins play. We'll talk about them soon. But, they just got all their fundamentals right. Canterbury were all over the place. And Reid Marnie gave them so much direction, but no one was going with him.
Mate, I think this is what typified their performance. That double pass to kick out, to kick. I can't remember when I've ever seen anything like that. It must have been a set play that they've been working on, surely.
Either that or he's missed the count or something. I can't make sense of it. Why would you go 2-ball to a left edge back rower who doesn't have a kick in him, but he's a right footer anyway? That ball was never going anywhere but into the grandstand.
And Burton is one of the best kickers long kickers in the competition. And so that's where I'm that organising stuff, just don't take that off his mind. It's like Munster. It's exactly like Munster. I don't want Munster worried about any of that stuff. Keep his mind free to just play footy in front of him. And that's where Matty Burton's at his best. Look what he did in Origin. Look what he did for Australia when he played in the centres. And so I know there are some people that go, no, I think he's a better centre. I still think that he's 100% high-quality 6. He's going to grow into the role. But he needs, unfortunately, Flano either needs to improve. And I know he was off the field for 10 minutes, so maybe it's a bit harsh. But unfortunately with Flano, and we've been his biggest supporters, but the clock's ticking at the moment. It has to come good soon, because otherwise Burton is just going to continue to not be able to do what he needs to do.
The tough thing is, though, that if you're not going Flano, who are you going? You got the young bloke, Carl, who played New South Wales Cup on the weekend. The reports where he absolutely brained it. I went back and watched the highlights the other day. He played really well, but as you said to me on the weekend, he doesn't solve that problem.
Yeah, he's not. He's another than Matty Burton.
And the halfback was Josh Reynolds. He also doesn't solve that problem, so they don't...
Market maybe, go into the market for a good structured 7.
But it makes you wonder how much money does this side have to be able to, like, it's easy, like...
Well, Gus reckons they got enough to sign a marquee.
Which is wild.
But I will say, it's like funny, and I know we speak about it pretty much every week. It's the weekly Chadwick update. But I tell you what, the Bulldogs would kill to sign Chad Townsend. If you said to like right now, if you said to the Dogs, you can sign Chad Townsend for $900K a year, they'd go, boom, we'll do it right now. They would literally do it in a second. 2 years ago, you would have been laughed out of a room from a lot of good footy pundits, and this is from I think Chaddy's incredible. On $700K, that was overs. It just, again, if you've been in the half position for a long period in the NRL, you are good. Because you get chewed up and spat out so quickly in NRL if you're a halfback and you're not good.
And I mean, without coming back to them again, the Dolphins, just what Sean O'Sullivan did yesterday.
He was incredible.
That's all you need to do.
SOS, baby.
Just drop your kicks in the right spot.
He saved our souls.
Just didn't that age poorly.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, though. Like, again, Sean Sullivan, he's been in a few systems, been around for a while. He was outstanding. So, unfortunately for Flano, the pressure is mounting. I mean, look, the poor kid's been dealing with pressure for years now, but he needs to... Either it needs to be Serraldo that says, Flano, I need you to make all the decisions getting us around the park, or Flano just needs to step up and do it. I'm not sure which one it is, mate, because maybe he's been told to just play second fiddle to Burton and Burton gets to make all the calls. But I just don't know if Burton's that player. It doesn't seem to suit him. He seems to be that free-flowing guy that just makes magic work when he needs to.
And wasn't it evident, like, that last pass that Burton threw that DC took the intercept off? That was just confidence completely shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, but also it was like the pace at which they were playing.
It was slow. It was
slow.
Yeah, it was a nothing pass. Nothing ever was going to come of it. Yeah.
And that was my concern. Is like the intensity wasn't there. Getting to like all the little details just weren't there, unfortunately for the Bulldogs. And look, to be fair, in last week we did say the Dogs are going to take a while to warm into this season, but in the areas where I thought they'd be quite strong, they were. I thought Matty Burton was going to be. Look, I had my worry watching him in the trial that he seemed a bit flat, a bit tired. And I still have my worry that he's had such a big few years that he is a bit tired, a bit flat. But I am getting closer to being convinced that he's more of the Munster type than the organising type.
Yeah, well, you had some mail that he was a bit crook in the trials, didn't you? Yeah.
In the second trial game, it was a bit of a, essentially, get the legs moving around. So in the second trial... Yeah, look, it was a horror show for Matty Burton in that game. I'm happy to forgive it just in the sense that, A, we know his class, but he had a few big mistakes early in the game and he just tried so hard to get on top of it and make amends for it that he just couldn't get into any rhythm in that game. He had new blokes around him and they just could not settle the doggies into any sort of rhythm. So, look... It won't be that bad again. He's way too good a footballer. But the one thing I will say about doggies and Tigers fans, we speak about it way too often. Well, not too often because it's so important, but it is these combinations. And, they were two of the newest rosters in the competition, the Tigers and the Dogs. So it takes time. It takes time. It's all right. It's not the end of the world that they've both started poorly. Then again, it makes the Dolphins look even more unbelievable that they, with 17 completely new blokes, put that together. You're right, though, and that's it. If Flano doesn't step up, they will give Oluwapu an opportunity to come up, especially if he continues doing what he did on the weekend. But it is 258. So, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if that does happen, does it become this sort of almost Canberra Raiders type structure where you've got Reid Manu who has a running game, he's an organiser, he gives great service. Does he play more of a role in getting the side around the park with two boring 5'8"s? Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's hope Flano lifts. He's that number 7 that can organise the side and take pressure off Birdo. Let Birdo do it. Birdo does best, and that is run the football.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a crook old start for them, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah.
With Mitch Moses seemingly doesn't have a contract right now, if you're Canterbury, do you throw the kitchen sink at Mitch?
They already have.
They already.
Do you lift it now? What do you...
No, the doggies could have had Mitch Moses.
Really?
They could have had Mitch Moses, and they've
So Mitch Moses would have been willing to leave the Eels?
I believe so. And he was open to it.
Okay.
He was very open to it and going to the Dogs. I don't say he was willing to sign on the dotted line, but he was very open to the move. Now, the Doggies have done classic Gus Gould. 5-year plans, he looks to the future, he's done it for years, and we see what's happened at Penrith now. He's gone, all right, do we get, how old's Mitch Moses, 28 or so? 27, 28.
Yeah.
Do we get Mitch Moses now and pay him big money and hinder the rest of our roster, and he comes in and be big for us this year, maybe next year? They're going, let's get Carl Oluwapu, who should, on all reports, be a future superstar. They're backing him to come in, and we want to be peaking, not this year, not even necessarily 2024, but he's thinking down the track. And the money they save on Carl allowed to build the roster across the board, and they've put their faith in the youth as opposed to going for the older, more seasoned talent.
The only concern I have with that is the fact that he's not a 7, he's another 6. And so, maybe there is a world where they're going, let's go the Raiders route, where Marnie, and look, Marnie did kind of play that role on the weekend. Like, he was creating havoc around the ruck. But it's going to take time with the Doggies. Like, I think that people just need to be patient. It's going to take time. The only problem is like, then when you lose a few games, you lose confidence. And when it's supposed to click, it doesn't click. Not because you don't have the roster that knows each other, because everyone's confidence is down. And all of a sudden, you don't believe in yourself.
And when we're looking, as we said, as they're looking to the future and to be, a force, again, the Doggies in a couple of years' time, maybe they do see that organiser in Matt Burton. Maybe he's not there yet, but between Serraldo, Gus Gould, all these great footy minds, they've seen enough to say, he can become that. He's just not there at the moment.
Yeah, look, they know way more about footy than me, but I just don't see it. Not that, and that's not a knock on Matty Burton. He just seems like a free spirit. He reminds me of the way Munster plays. There's these magical moments that, how many times have we watched over the last 2 years with Matty Burton where you're like, how did he make that line break? He's not that big. He's not that strong. He's not that fast, but he just did it.
Yeah.
Who's that remind you of? Cam Munster. He's not that big. He's not that strong. He's not that fast, but he just does it. And I just think Matty Burton needs to be free. Like for example, his massive bomb. You can't force that. You can't expect, if you're doing every single kick, you're going to be tempted to constantly rely on that massive bomb. The massive bomb comes when you've got someone else doing all the kicking, and then all of a sudden you get heaps of time and space, boom, you put the bomb up. And so, look, happy to be proven wrong, but I would way rather see an unrestricted, free, Dally M Centre type player of Matty Burton just living the dream out there on the edge, just tearing teams apart, than him organising, in my opinion. But
I agree.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
I'll say one more thing on that, and we go back to the platform set by the forward pack, and the Doggies just lost all their middles. Like, Manly ran for 400 metres more in total. They had 150 more post-contact metres. So I know that's not the be-all and end-all, but there wasn't much of a platform to work off.
But it felt to me, and obviously those stats for the whole game, I reckon Manly ran a lot more of those in the second half.
Yep.
And I thought Manly made a lot of errors in the first half that kept Canterbury in the game, and Canterbury still weren't able to execute off the back of it. Like, there was plays towards the back half, and Canterbury did have good ball. They were making it up.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. I thought Manly were good. I didn't think they were fantastic, to be honest with you. I thought they still made a lot of errors, a lot of silly errors, handed a lot of ball back. But Canterbury just weren't even in the ballpark.
Yeah, I thought they started all right. Doggies. I didn't think they were that bad, first 20. So, yeah, with the Dogs, look, the positive is Reid Marnie was absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Far out, he's dangerous out of... As a huge Reid Marnie fan, I almost feel guilty that I hadn't seen... I didn't think that he would turn into... all this extra part of his game, as we were saying earlier, where was this hiding? It was hiding in the fact that he was playing a role. It just says to Reid's character. Think about when you've got this much talent and this much ability with creativity around the ruck, and you've constantly got to run it every single week, squash that all down, and just hand good service. Must have killed him. But he's such a role player in a team that he just said, nah, whatever is best for the team. And I think that, goes even deeper, where maybe that's why he felt so, put off by being lowballed by the Eels, where he was like, mate, I have shut my mouth, gotten through all the tough work, changed my game, given service and done everything you've asked for, and then you lowball me? So that may speak to how he was like, you know what? I'm out of here, man. I'm going to go somewhere where I can fully spread my wings and fly. And look, you could say, well, he's not going to be playing for premierships in the next year or two. But at the same time, like, sometimes just the enjoyment of playing rugby league the way you're supposed to or the way you want to is more than not more than a premiership, but more enjoyable each week.
So what I was thinking when I was watching Reed, I was just thinking, fuck, the next 10 years of Origin, once Ben Hunt is retired.
Is he the Matty Ballin of this generation?
I still think they'll go with him and Harry Grant. I think they'll do a similar thing to what they're doing with Ben
That's what I'm saying. Is Reed Marnie the Matty Ballin of this generation?
Yeah, for the next probably year or 2 years. But then how many years do you reckon Ben Hunt's got left? 2?
1,000.
I hope not. Good God.
1,000. He's never retired.
Yeah, there's going to be a 6-7 year period, unless another hooker pops up, where I think they will go Reed and Harry Grant. And with his running game that he showed the other day, when they were on the back foot the entire time, they're going to dominate.
Yeah.
Hunt's going to retire from the NRL, but they'll just bring him back for Origin each year to kill us.
100%. 100%. And he will do it. He'll do some fucking dozer.
He absolutely will.
That's a good point, Guru. You're right. Like, Queensland's hookers are set for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
As long as they both stay injury-free. And it's almost scary because, like, before this year, we would have said, bring Reed Marnie in, get through all the dog work, get him off, and then Harry Grant brings on creativity. Now you've got Reed Marnie doing creativity and the dog work, and then Harry Grant coming on doing the same thing.
And as you said, if they're both fit, great. But even if one of them's not, you can play one of them for 80. They'll be okay.
I know. It's so good. It's so good. The positive is for the doggies, Reed Marnie was absolutely outstanding. Anything else on the dogs that stood out for you? Or Alamotti, Tanner, Preston made debuts. Didn't look overall. Got through their work okay.
Yeah, I just want to make note of Maxi King's effort to ground the ball on half-time with what would have been the most ridiculous try from Manly. He came from nowhere, the big fella, and just dove out, got the hand, put it down. That would have been the biggest dagger on half-time. Didn't change, the outcome of the game by any means, but it was such a special effort, I thought.
What
King.
was that, 15 seconds? That was
Fox tried to
unbelievable.
offload to like no one.
Look, going to take time. As we said before the game, guys, and we all tipped Manly, it's going to take time. So just be patient, Doggies fans. The good thing is you've got the roster now. For how many years were we sitting there going, they just don't have the roster? You got the roster. Be patient. Look where the Panthers are now. Serraldo was a part of that. Gus Gould was a part of that. Just be patient, Doggies fan. It's going to come. I will be shocked if in 2 years' time they aren't fighting in the 8. I'll be shocked.
Yeah, and no matter how poor Saturday was, or even if it was worse than what it was, you're in a better spot now than when you were this time last year, by far and away.
By a mile. Let's get on to Manly. Wow. I thought they were absolutely outstanding. Yes, they had a few errors that it stung the game in regards to, like, if they had completed a higher percentage, or basically if they had had just a few less errors in key times, it would have been almost the perfect performance. I thought their energy was there. I thought their continuity was there. Just the mongrel, their forward pack. Like, the fact that Olakau'atu took it personally that Kikau was a superstar. Like, Olakau'atu was offended that Kikau was this big superstar. He was hunting him constantly. And there was a moment at the end of the game where I go, this Manly forward pack might be building into something special. Kikau takes a normal run. Olakau'atu comes screaming in, jams him. Then I think Kikau stands up and he either drops the ball and he pushes Josh Aloiai. But before he pushes Josh Aloiai, Olakau'atu is patting Aloiai on the back, going, fuck yeah, let's, like, just pumping each other up. The game's won. They're 30 in front, and he's G'ing up a shot on Kikau. And it's like, when you've got dogs in your forward pack that are getting pumped in the 75th minute, up 30 jamming blokes, that's when you're going, something special building here.
Yeah, and over the last 20-odd years when Manly's been at their best, their forward pack has always just had a siege mentality. And that's what it felt like on the weekend once again. And, we spoke last week about how Anthony Seibold, he can sell papers till the cows come home. They haven't been in the media at all. And that's how the old Manly side was.
Yeah.
They
were very, like, almost anti-media.
They avoided it like the plague. And that's the same as what this Manly side's done, but they've come out and been the best team in pre-season. They've killed it in round 1. And it was even like, I thought Lockie Croker looked really good. I thought Brad Parker, his defence was incredible.
Croker was friggin' phenomenal.
Like it wasn't just the stars that killed it. It was
So the disrespect that you sound surprised that Brad Parker's defence is unbelievable. When will this bloke get the recognition he deserves? He's one of the elite centres of the
When will he get a blue tick on Instagram?
Yeah.
It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. Another moment for me that was like, wow, this team unity that seems to have grown out of a tough time. So DCE chased a kick and he was ahead of everyone. And basically, I think one of the Bulldogs players dived on it. He was about a metre out from his line. And this would have been like 10 minutes to go. So DCE usually, like he had every right to just lay on the tackle. DCE didn't even look behind himself. He bounced straight back up and then had a little look over his shoulder. And guess what the line speed was from his forward pack? It was fucking off their line. The scoot made about a metre. And for DCE to know that his forward pack was already there, ready to fucking go. How often do you see a player, like when they chase a kick and they're way ahead of the line, they'll lay on it and they'll look around to see if anyone's there to do the tackle. He didn't even turn his back. He literally bounced straight back up, and then you just saw the Manly Seal 4-pack come screaming out and jamming the scooter. And that's evidence of like a team bond, a gelling. That's hard to emulate. It's hard to create. And that's where I look at Manly. I go, if they can stay fit. I mean, Tom Trbojevic was in second gear the whole game. He like didn't even want to. Like that's terrifying. Like he could have made a break and he just pulled up, which is a mixture of two things. You're like, okay, I hope his hammy's all right. But at the same time, once he does kid his straps, wow.
I love seeing that, Kempy, the management of Tommy Turbo, that conscious approach of no, like we can't let you just go out there and go hell for leather like you have in the past. We need to manage you. And wasn't it evident that when he had space there? And he had, granted, it was Fox was one of the chasing pack coming after him, but straight away he just went, no, I'm not stretching out. I don't need to. And he pulled up, and it was because obviously a concerted effort, a conscious effort, I should say. But I also loved that they took him off early in the game.
I love that.
When they had like that, such a great way of thinking. And I've always been very critical of coaches in the past. You know, whether it be the week before finals and they're going for Dally M votes on players or trying to get a bigger lead in a bigger winning margin or whatever, and it just achieves nothing. When they pulled Tommy off with, was it about 15, 20 to go?
Against his will too, which shows strong coaching.
Exactly right. And of course Tommy doesn't want to come off, but they did, and then unfortunately, obviously, Lockie Croker had the concussion, so he had to go back on and finish the game. But why not do that when possible in the first few rounds when they get out to a lead? Just take him off. Don't risk him.
There's no point.
I thought it was great coaching.
Great coaching, and it's strong coaching. Yeah. He's a new coach. He's a young coach. He's gone through everything he went through at the Brisbane Broncos. Tom Trbojevic, arguably on his day, literally the greatest player ever. Like, that's how good this guy is at fullback. And the strength to go, Tommy might be a bit pissed at me because he's got to sit at the sideline and he's literally walking back up and down because he wants to get back out there. But I'm making a strong decision for what's best for the team. I thought it was fantastic.
Tell you what, I thought Kale Weeks that came on, fuck, he had some nice touches.
He's so silky. So silky.
He's got a heap of talent. And he was playing out of position for most of the time he was on the field too. He jumped into 9 for Croker and he looked fantastic.
Ethan Bullymore, fuck, his power through to the middle. He is just explosive.
Leg speed,
so much leg speed, so hard to handle. He was great off the bench.
Tell you who could be a game changer for Manly. I've been saying for years, buy Paseka a mirror so we can realise how big he is.
Yeah.
I really hope that the weekend was a turning point for him.
Well, there was a period, I think it was 2 years ago, he had like a turning point, and when they went to the prelim.
He's had a few turning points.
Yeah, and then he regresses. Then he regresses back to the...
I know, the other day he felt a little bit different to me,
I hope so.
He was good. He was so good.
Oh, beast. I mean, he was Nelson Asafa Solomona-like. That's how good he was. Let's talk about it, my boy, Hamolo Olakau'atu. Smoky for Origin, surely. Like, he may not have... When you look at his stats, they don't wow you. You don't go, oh, my God. But when you actually watch the game and see his impact in, like, his aggressiveness, I understand that the New South Wales side is stacked. So making the starting side is going to be quite hard. But, I mean, Olakau'atu off the bench through the middle, super aggressive. I don't mind it. I'm not saying that I would make that call yet, but I think he should be in conversations if he keeps this up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that his stats on the weekend don't wow you. He's a guy that quite often when you get to the end of the round that you have a look and they are pretty damn impressive, but it is his aggression. He doesn't just do a job. He wants to hurt every single time. That's his mindset.
Knocks, like, I reckon he's got the most knockouts while running the ball of any player currently.
For sure.
He knocks people out all the time.
Yeah. And he'll also, we said it a few weeks ago, he doesn't hide away from work either.
No.
He's the biggest, strongest guy on the field. He could edge away from a lot of defensive work. He doesn't.
He's in his, fourth, fifth year of fucking footy? He came from basketball.
Yeah. It's
125 metres, 57 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, 0 misses. Matter of fact, him and Josh Allier were the only forwards in that Manly forward pack to not miss a tackle.
Well, if you go back to the start of, I think it was the start of last season, or maybe it was the year before, when Sua'ali'i made his first trial with the New South Wales Cup for the Bears. They were playing against Manly, and he broke his arm in that game. It wasn't that long ago that he was in reserve grade as a second rower. And now we're talking about him as an origin, smoky sort of guy.
And the one stat that always, even on weeks where maybe the stats don't show how good he is in his aggression and whatnot, the one that nearly always crops up, there's only 3 this week, but it's tackle breaks for him. So just going through a few from last year in random games, his better ones, 6 tackle breaks, 12 tackle breaks, 6, 7, 8, 8, 6, 9. Like, when he's on, he's nearly always on, to be honest.
Yeah.
People cannot tackle him.
I don't even think we're close to his ceiling too. No. As I said, he's relatively new into rugby league. Like, I am super excited for his future. And he's 22, 23?
He's young.
He's still pretty young.
And he's also a guy that...
24. That's young.
Like, he can play 80 minutes, but I often wonder with him, would he be better if he played 60?
And just let him go skits?
Let him go nuts for 60 minutes. Because as much as we compliment him for how much work he gets through, I think it can be a bit of a negative on his attack sometimes, that he does get through so much work, and he puts. Whereas if you just put him on there for 60 and let him go nuts, I reckon he could be even more effective.
Shout out to Kohler. Another, he's just flying under the radar. Like, he just continues to develop as a centre. Him defensively, his tackle where he drives through the middle, it's honestly like poetry to watch.
Yeah.
He just has so much explosiveness through his hips and his legs. He just, I don't know who, it was one of the bigger players that he literally jammed through the middle. Like, I don't know which one it was, but it was one of the big, maybe Kickout, I think. Just straight through the guts every single time.
It might not be groundbreaking call, but like, his ceiling is best centre in the NRL. He, with his speed and how good he is defensively, he could be the best centre in the NRL in a couple of years' time.
Well, he can be like peak Jimmy Roberts, when Jimmy Roberts was absolutely tearing teams apart.
But a way better defender.
Exactly, I was about to say. But defensively, he's one of the better defensive centres in the competition.
Almost like, Josh Morris.
Yeah,
defensively,
for sure.
Speed.
I would say that he's impressed me more defensively since coming to the NRL than attacking.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And so what's crazy is, with a guy that quick, we haven't even seen him really be unlocked out there yet.
Yeah. And you also haven't seen him play a stack of footy in a Manly side with Turbo as well.
True.
He sort of came into his best at the back end of last season once Turbo was already out of the side. So, and I think you could see at the back end of last year, I've said it before, DCE is one of those halfbacks that when you earn his trust, you get a lot of ball off him. And you could see at the back end of last year, Kohler starting to get a heap of pill off him. So I reckon him and Olakau'atu on that edge, they're going to combine for a number of tries over the years, I think.
Speaking of DCE, what a game. Like, what a game. And what's I liked about it was, my only knock on DCE is sometimes he can overplay. Like, he touches it too much and he doesn't allow his half to impact the game at all. But Cooper Johns is almost the perfect foil for DCE, because he's just a really good solid half, good ball playing, squares defence. Like, a lot of the tries, if you go back and look who the guy was squaring the lineup. It was Cooper Johns. And his stats aren't impressive at all, but Cooper Johns was a big part of them getting extra space on the edges. DCE was absolutely outstanding. I think it's just incredible. When people are hitting 31, 32, 33, 34 years old now, they're playing some of their best footy. Whereas back in the day, you're done at 30. You're done.
Was it his first career Hattie? Do we know?
First career Hattie.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a look from the weekend, DCE had 68 touches of the ball. Cooper Johns still had 42.
That's what I'm saying.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah. And so you got Cooper Johns, who's really good at just laying it. Like, DCE is still the guy putting, field position, all that kind of stuff. But when you need a good structured half to just get to the line and square the defence up to create space for Tommy, there's a world where Cooper keeps that spot for maybe the year. Like, if they keep playing like that and putting those scores on, why would you move Cooper out of that position? You'd be crazy, wouldn't you?
It'd be really interesting if Manly didn't have a bye this week.
Yeah.
That's the shit team for Cooper.
Yeah, true.
If they didn't have a bye this week and then he had another opportunity to show what he can do and he
Are you putting Schuster back in?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Matty? You putting Schuster back in?
It's tough, but yeah, I am. The whole plan's been Schuster as 6, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'd be so tempted to move him to an edge and keep Cooper Johns in that 6 role.
Could you play him at 13 potentially, Schuster? Would you consider that or?
And Alloy off the bench as a front row rotation? Yeah. I just think it's tough on Cooper. Player of the preseason. Comes out. They win by 31-6. And then, I mean, Schuster's incredible.
And to your point, if they do that, then you can fit in Weeks in the team at 14. You can fit in Cooper in the team. You can fit in Schuster in the teams. You can fit in more people.
Yeah, true. They can play more roles as well.
In saying that, I know it's easy to say play Schuster at 13 and play him on an edge. You know, if reports are true, he's lost 10 to 12 kilos.
He's still big enough, though. He's fucking massive.
Yeah, okay.
He would still be a good 98 kilos, I'd say.
Yeah, but I mean, he has had an entire preseason. He took the World Cup off, getting ready for 5'8".
Yeah, I don't know. He's a fucking big boy, bro. But yeah, maybe physically he's not prepared to play on the edge. Look, I think they'll put him at 6. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I think, damn, that's unfair.
It's a better conversation than what we thought it'd be. Though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And if they didn't have a bye this week,
and he does it again,
would be able to come out and do it again. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought Sean Kepi had some impact off the bench too. But yeah, outside of that, and also our boy Gordon Chan Kum Tong, he's on the 22nd. He's the 18th man. So they must have got him into the top 30 somehow.
Well, he'll play this week if Lockie's
true.
So.
Our boy, how good. So yeah, Manly looking red hot. I want to see them against a top tier side, but you cannot take away from the fact that they were arguably one of the better sides of the weekend. I'm excited for Manly. I think they're in for a big year.
I thought the back rower, Kelmer, come over from the Tigers, didn't do a stack in the game, but there was one touch he had where he put Ruben Garrick over for a try.
Hands. Such soft hands.
It was very Schuster-like.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, when let's say Cooper Johns kills it, then you've got a back row that you've got to choose between Olakau'atu, Kelmer, Tuolangi, and Schuster. Like, the depth that they're creating, I'm excited for Manly. I really am. I think their only concern, like, long term is like DC is so pivotal to them. Who do you get to replace him? Who's coming through that can fit that role? But I mean, that's down the line. Okay, let's get to the match of the round. Cowboys absolutely destroy the Raiders 19-18. A shellacking. They was never in it. Raiders were never in it, mate. No, I joke. Cowboys defeat the Raiders 19-18. I'm telling you this right now. That first 30 minutes from the Cowboys, I was like, these guys will not be beaten all year long. They were phenomenal. Raiders weren't even that bad. The Cowboys were just unbelievable in that first 30 minutes. There was one play especially where I go, you know why if you ever needed an example of why keeping a spine together is so important, this is it. Basically, you know the try where he grubbers back in for Drinkwater? That was on the fly. All he did was, I think there's a quick play of the ball. You saw Drinkwater and Chad Townsend run past each other. Townsend just goes like that, literally just taps Drinkwater on the shoulder. Drinkwater stops, runs to the other side of the ruck, boom, ready to go. That's all it took. If you haven't played together much, there's no way you set that up. That was a pinpoint, incredible try by Drinkwater, and all it took was that. Like, that's amazing. Amazing stuff.
When we reiterate, it takes time for combinations to come together, it's that.
100%. Because Drinkwater knew immediately what was happening. Just a quick tap. And that play, that's not just a grubber in behind the line normal. That was a grubber back across the ruck. Scotty Drinkwater needed to time his run perfectly because the fullback and everyone kind of had it covered. It just landed in the perfect no man's land for Drinkwater to swoop through and get it. So it's a mixed bag for the Cowboys. If you look at the first half or the first 30, you go, wow. But then you look at the way they allowed the Raiders back into the game, you go, that's not too good. But I will take it as a big win for the Cowboys because the Raiders were outstanding in that second half and showed a lot of grit. And I was going, this is typical Raiders. Just when you think you've got them down and out, they fight back. The one of the great moments of the game was Tomoko. So he makes a big hit, gets the ball. Then there's a kick return, and Tuolangi makes a big hit. They get the ball back. But yeah, what do you think of this game, Guru?
Yeah, I thought that, as you spoke about that Scott Drinkwater try and how combination are important. Even the one that he scored off Reece Robson, putting that kick in, I love watching Drinky play. He's such a talented guy. He's just alive on everything, and he's always just going at it. And you see him, he'll make an effort on one play, will go through the line, and then he sprints back around to make sure he's there on the next play. I love that about Drinky, and I thought the Cowboys, their first 30 minutes was unbelievable, and I thought it was going to get really ugly. If I was a Canberra fan, I'd be excited by how they got their way back into this one. I don't know how many teams would have been able to do that up there. They're still missing Josh Sua'ali'i. They didn't have a fullback. They had HIA dramas and everything. I thought it was an incredible effort.
Yeah, Raiders, they do what Raiders do. They just, when you think they're tenacious. Out, they just fight their way back in. Somehow, some way, they're back in the match.
And it's ugly, but they do it.
They just do it. And they just...
like Tim.
Yeah, one of your better ones, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Timmy, what do you think about the game, mate?
Yeah, it was gritty as hell from the Raiders, wasn't it? Watching that first half, part of you was saying, geez, this there could be a scoreline put on here, but in the back of your mind, you're going, you know what? The Raiders have built resilience in the last 4 to 5 years that we can work our way out of a situation like this, and we did, and got within a whisker of winning the game. Took a lot out of it, to be honest. As I think Guru pointed out a few different things there to suggest that we can only improve on the performance. And it's had big Josh Sua'ali'i back in there as well. First game of the season, they scheduled it too early, the humidity.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things going against us. So yeah, I thought it was really good. It was a really good second half performance. Let's be straight. The first half was pretty ordinary. I think Jamal Fogarty's looking excellent, and I think there are times in the game where they probably went left to Jackie White a bit too much. I would like to see, and I've wanted this for a long time, but with Jack being such a focal point of their attack and the fact that they're lacking a strike fullback at the moment, they're lacking a strike number 9. A lot of the attack comes off Jack White, and I just love to see Ricky Stewart get them two linking up more and Jack playing both sides of the ruck. I've said it a million times before, but I want to see him playing the Cody Walker at the Bunnies role, where he swings both sides and plays as a 5'8", not a left edge, right edge. I mean, it's not going to happen because it would happen by now, but get Jack playing second receiver off Jamal Fogarty more. It annoys me that they just play that strict left side.
It's almost like a waste of such a weapon.
It's absolutely a waste. And we've got Seb Chris at fullback now, Danny Levi starting 9. I don't think there's a lot of points in our back line, so they need to get creative and go against the norm a little bit, and that's by getting Jack playing both sides of the ruck. He's fit as hell, he can do it.
And you see how damaging he can be when he gets the ball a little bit wider, or, if you had a 7 giving him the ball, 2 plays wider, he gets the one-on-one tackles then. He gets space to move.
And Jamal is such a great organiser. He's a great first receiver. I just think it becomes a much more balanced side by doing it. It's more threatening across the park.
I will say, Raiders, what a performance, because they went up to North Queensland against, a lot of people think they'll make the grand final, the Cowboys, or be a premiership contender. The Cowboys completed at 87%. And they only lost 19-18 to premiership contenders at home in the heat. That's a fair effort.
It's a fantastic loss.
Even that first, let's say the first 20 minutes where the Raiders kept making mistakes, turning ball over, giving shit penalties away. We defended our line a lot.
Yep.
We were just waiting for them to crack. It was
and it wasn't like Cowboys weren't throwing good attack.
No, not at all.
Your wingers were making huge plays, knocking balls down, constantly. The Cowboys were throwing really good attack at yous. It's the closest thing you can get to a win without winning.
Yeah,
it seriously is. Up in North Queensland, all the way from Canberra.
Even was it, a few tries off kicks as well.
I think two.
Both drinkies.
And the drinky one was, especially the Chad Townsend one, it's like, how do you defend that?
Yeah.
It's just like a pin-perfect kick.
That's what they needed to penetrate that defence.
Yeah, exactly. So from a Raiders perspective, outside of the first 20 minutes, there's a lot to, if you completed 85%, you probably win the game. That's how close it was.
Just on the Raiders, just to hear your take. They had to go to North Queensland this week. Tough loss. brutal for their forward pack. They have to go back to Queensland this week to play the Dolphins on a high. I reckon it's a bit of a danger game for the Canberra Raiders there.
All of a sudden, it's a hell of a danger game.
It's a hell of a danger game now.
2 days ago it wasn't, but now you're going, oh, Jesus Christ.
Like, the Dolphins at 250, I reckon that's appealing.
Dolphins paying 250.
Yeah.
It's funny because like
it's their first game at Redcliffe as well.
Oh wow!
It's going to be a lot of emotion in that.
And
too.
again, that travel with the Raiders, it's a big travel all the way up to Townsville. Hot, humid game. It's it's not like they're playing Penrith Panthers or the Storm, so it might be hard to get up for compared to those two games. Even though you should be able to get up to everyone, I understand that.
I will say, looking forward to that game. It'll be 2 games where I think they'll both play pretty simple brands of footy. It'll be who wins through the middle, whose pack turns up on the day. And I think that probably plays into the Raiders' hands a little bit because when the Raiders' pack is on, they're one of the best in the competition. So, I mean, if the Dolphins come out and start, they have the same line speed and they're whacking like they did last week, and they can back that up, maybe not. But I do think it's a better matchup, even just like style-wise for the Raiders.
God, it's an awful time to be playing this Dolphin side, isn't it?
Well, it's just
you beg them to have them in round 6 onwards.
It's incredible what they've achieved, but we'll get to that. But yeah, it's amazing the way they've been able to turn around sentiment. Yeah. It's gone from all of a sudden. We'll get to it. Yeah, so Raiders, look, plenty of positives from this game. You also had a bloke. Oh no, you didn't go. Didn't you? Yeah, you had someone head knock as well in a key time.
Sebastian Chris had to come.
Sebastian Chris. So you lost your fullback as well. That's important. So yeah, look, a lot to take out of that game. Wasn't a win, but there's a lot to take out of that game. Now onto the Cowboys. The great Chadwick Townsend with the boot from the gods just pulls it out of nowhere. 87% completion rate. Look, just like we were saying about the Raiders, I thought outside of, the second half letting up a little bit, I thought that was a great performance from the Cowboys. A year ago, it wasn't like 6-all against the Dogs or some shit? 6-4. An absolute schmozzle. And then they get a tenacious Raiders that come back hard as anything, and the Cowboys managed to hold them off and get the win. Cowboys are looking red hot. Oh, I loved that first 20 to 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes was the best footy we saw all weekend, bar none. It was absolutely top-tier stuff, and it took a courageous Raiders side to hold out. They really should have been up 24 points. Like, that's how good the footy they were playing.
Going into half-time, was it 16-4, 16-6, something? You're like, geez, we've got out of that well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the Cowboys were phenomenal. I really like what I'm seeing there.
Tell you how I knew Cowboys footy was back when I looked at the team stats and went, Peter Hiku was quiet. Nope, 160 metres, 19 tackles, 4 tackle breaks. He just does it every week.
Every week, and he never gets any raps. He's so underrated, it's crazy. So underrated. 19 tackles as well. Like, gets through...
One missed.
Gets through so much work, bro. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Val Holmes, he was good again. Ruben Cotter, let me read you these stats. 19 runs, 216 metres, 65 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, 35 tackles, only 1 miss. Absolutely phenomenal from the, I was going to say big fella. He's a hooker. This is a hooker in the front row. It's amazing what he does week in, week out. If he embodies this new style of rugby league of just quick leg speed, aggressive line speed, he is absolutely phenomenal, Ruben Cotter.
Just had a look, round 13, Jermaine Hopgood versus Ruben Cotter.
Oh, stop
Super
it.
Bowl there just caught.
You might pass out. You might pass out watching that. Are you going to betray your boy Cotter for the new flame, or are you going to be loyal to your boy?
I think I'll stay loyal at the moment.
Oh, okay. So you hate Hopgood.
Pick your favourite child. Go.
Yeah, the Cowboys, as I said, in a perfect world, they don't let the Raiders back into the game. I thought they looked phenomenal. Timmy, what do you reckon?
I think in 4 or 5 weeks' time, we might be getting to the Cowboys wrap-up each week and being a bit like Penrith last year, but they're by no means anywhere on the level of Penrith Panthers last year. I mean, they just won by a point, but they're just such a well-balanced roster that, barring injuries, I can see us going what else is there to say about the Cowboys? They just rarely have any player turn in a poor performance or have any bad errors or anything. They're so consistent. Like that, they said that to have that see how fluid they were in attack in that to start the game. In a round where it was a traditional round one in a lot of aspects, look at Melbourne and Parramatta in particular that were just so clunky. Their attacks were so far off. The Cowboys come out and went, it's like they hadn't missed a beat, how well the ball movement was.
Yep.
They're in for a big year.
Reece Robson, another massive knock. A try assist, 80 run metres, 4 tackle breaks, a line break, 49 tackles, only 1 miss. Unbelievable. No errors.
If you wanted to go with one hooker for New South Wales this year,
You're probably going with him.
he's slowly becoming the best option, I reckon.
Yeah. That's what I think it was last week I was saying maybe. Anyway, in one of the thousand shows I do.
Yeah.
You're probably... The live show, I think, we're talking about how, like Damien Cook is durable. Don't deny it. Appy Coruscant, they're both durable. But the physicality that Reece Robson can play with, if you're looking for a Jackie Whiten at 14 or a Nico Hines or whatever, probably Jackie Whiten has that 14 position locked. You're probably going Reece Robson, aren't you?
I'd say as well, this probably seems obvious, but given what works in his favour, Robson, is that the Blues lost last year. I feel like after last year's defeat and after having lost 2 in 3, Freddie's going to just be like, all right, unless your name's Teddy or Cleary, we're having a clean slate. I reckon that works in Robson's favour.
And also because mid-series last year, Freddie made changes to that hooking role. He brought in Appy, then he put Appy to starting. So, maybe he is the smoky that's going to make it this year.
I thought it was interesting, and we mentioned it at the live show, but on Thursday night when Harry Grant put on the show, Andrew Johns was talking about how good he is and how it kills him that he's a Queenslander, and then he said, but we've got Appy, we've got Cook, and we've got Reece Robson.
Interesting.
For him to throw that name in there for a guy that hasn't debuted, but to name the other 2 hookers, very interesting. So he must be on the radar, and Freddie was sitting on the panel with him and didn't bat an eyelid.
Well, he was on the extended squad last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, last game.
Yeah.
Another, he's just so good you bloody never hear about it. Jason Taumalolo, 16 runs, 201 metres, 53 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 18 tackles.
You're almost disappointed with that.
Yeah, bro, why isn't 300? Give us 300 metres.
Crazy.
Very exciting fan. Cowboys look way better than they looked this time last year. This time last year, they weren't even close to this team. I think they're in for a big year.
How fun are they to watch as well?
Oh, mate. Scotty Drinkwater at the back, playing like a touch footy player. Then you got Dearden. How strong is Dearden in contact? He was just slipping through tackles left, right and centre. It looked like he was absolutely covered. He had 5 tackle breaks. He had the most tackle breaks of any player on the field. Tom Dearden.
Wow.
Any Cowboy on the field. I'm not sure about the Raiders. I'll just check real quickly.
Dearden's just, I hate to say it, but he's got that feeling of just a real Queensland origin player. That he's always going to be solid, but when you need him, he'll deliver something.
Yeah.
And I know he hasn't played on the biggest stages in the world, but whenever he has, he's done it every single time. I just get that vibe from him that he's going to be a real pain in our ass for a long time.
I agree, mate. He definitely that battler that just seems to take another level whenever the game gets intense.
Our guy's got more talent, but it doesn't matter.
Just going to be a battler. Cowboys, very, very exciting. Very exciting. Now, on to the next game. Before we get to the next game, though, guys, as we said at the start of the show, Sportsbet, brand new partner. So make sure, if you're going to have a punt, do it responsibly. Obviously, 18 and over. But if you're going to do it with Sportsbet, because they're supporting us, so support them. And they've also got a new share a bet feature. Basically, your mate puts on a multi, you can ride it with them. And you just basically press a button and it copies their bet. So thanks to Sportsbet for partnering with the show. Make sure to get on board because they're supporting us. Let's get to the next game. Rabbitohs versus the Sharkies. Rabbitohs 27, defeat the Sharkies 18. This game, first 20, I was going, wow, Sharkies look red hot here. And then a mixture of missed tackles, errors, and all of a sudden it went from, wow, this is a really good opening for the Sharkies to really disappointing for the Sharkies. Really disappointing. Rabbitohs, on the other hand, I thought they were fantastic, especially losing to Tola, essentially the first run?
First run, yeah.
First run, lose to Tola. He's like the heart of their pack now, well, him and Thomas Burgess. What do you think of this game, Guru?
Yeah, I thought there's sort of 2 ways to look at it. I think for the Sharkies, obviously, no Hines. One way to look at it. I also thought they had a couple of tough calls Against them, there was a Katoa try that I probably thought was a try that was called a forward pass. That shit happens.
That was nonsense, that call. That was,
you agree?
Yeah, that was a terrible call.
Guess who came in screaming forward pass this morning? Like a wild fucking guess. Anyway, but then there's the other side of the coin where you look at South Sydney.
64% completion rate by the Sharkies.
Who lost to Toller on the first hit up, and then you lost Jai Arrow during the game as well.
Yeah, Jai Arrow went off pretty early too. Yeah.
So to do what they did, and they had Blake Tav on the bench, so they didn't have a 4-forward bench. You had Cheekham, who was already starting on an edge, which he's not used to. So for South Sydney to go to Shark Park and do that, and normally you'd be sitting here going, oh, okay, well, Walker and Latrell must have carved it up. The left side pretty much took the night off. They didn't have to do anything. It was all Ilias and Campbell Graham. I thought Ilias was tremendous in this game.
Best game of Ilias' career.
Yeah.
He was so good. I didn't think he had it in him. I thought he was more of a structured 7 that was going to lay a really good platform. He was the guy. He was the main man. He was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Our boy Campbell Graham, what a beast. He just keeps getting better and better and better. Timmy, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, if the Bunnies can ride edge, if Ilias can produce like 50% of that week in, week out, and they become like the left edge is probably the best attacking edge in the NRL. How good are they going to be if they can balance that out with the right side as well and just throw options everywhere? And as you mentioned, to lose those middle forwards, and they'd already lost Hame Sele, Sleeva Havili at Shark Park, who had a 4-forward bench. They lost Jack Williams to HIA, but they had middles coming out their woo-ha. It was an incredible win.
Yeah, a great win.
It's going to be coming into the Panthers this week now. Assuming that every chance to lose to Tola, Jai Arrow, really light on middles. Big test for Shaq Mitchell, Davey Moali. Tough task.
Shaq was outstanding on the weekend. I thought he came on and was really good. Campbell Graham, as we said, was outstanding.
Just on Campbell Graham, he was on the Matty Johns show last night. I sort of said to him, was it a plan to go to the right side? And he sort of went, no, we just came in, we wanted to attack the middle and then go to whichever edge was making sense. So in my mind, I sort of thought, this must have been a game plan for Ilias to take over, and they've obviously identified something with the Cronulla left edge. To hear that it wasn't that way, and it was just Ilias being confident and obviously calling for the ball over Cody Walker consistently. And there was times last year where I felt like there was games where Ilias would get the ball and you could see Cody Walker in the background sort of being like, what the fuck, I needed that ball. It was the opposite the other night. You could see Cody was starting on the left and then jumping on the inside of Ilias and playing off the back of him. They look like I wouldn't say a new footy side, but it adds another dynamic to them. If Ilias is that confident to ball play like that, it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you have to worry about Cody Walker and Ilias coming at you, that's a scary, scary prospect. If they can keep all their forwards on the field and injury free, like they should be there around business time. With Ilias taking this step up, I can't see why would they not be. Latrell Mitchell looks like he's zoned in, focused, ready to go. I mean, Isaiah Tass, I think his defence is outstanding. But he's like underrated too. He gets through a bunch of work, Isaiah Tass. I think Luke Thompson, there was 1 or 2 errors that he made that weren't the best, but his ball running is outstanding. We spoke about a couple of years ago, maybe 12 months ago, where were the meters going to come from with the outside backs? The Rabbitohs, we felt like if you compare that to the Penrith Panthers, they've got guys that can get 200 metres a game easily, like week in, week out. All of a sudden, fast forward 12 months, you've got Isaiah Tuss running for 174 metres, Campbell Graham running for 198, and Thompson running for 177. And so Alex Johnston, who isn't a noted meter eater, he's a finisher. Now, all of a sudden, their backline looks balanced and ready to go to maybe challenge for a premiership.
Thompson, 9 tackle busts in 12 runs.
It's crazy. He was his ball running was outstanding. Just those 1 or 2 errors that he's got to fix up. They reckon he had 5 years off footy, and then got a call in. So he's only going to get better. I mean, Lockie Ilias, 4 tackle breaks. The little fella. And
we had that tackle that he made on Mulatalo was incredible from Ilias. That's
also he also made an unreal one on Teague Wilton, I think.
Yep.
They isolated him, Ilias 1-on-1 with Teague, and it was like he was in for all money, and just whacked him and goes, nah, not
just
on my
chopped
watch.
him. Yeah.
Burgess came on, 173. I mean, their forwards were just outstanding. I mean, the whole Rabbitohs team was outstanding. It was a great performance. They're looking good. Moali, I thought, had some good moments. That shot from Graham, holy heck.
Especially in those games like this where you lose a front rower to a HIA, you lose a state of origin rep like Jairo. Cam Murray, it's just
goes all day, bro.
He can just go forever.
Yeah. Yep. It's amazing. Keon Kolamatangi, 152 metres. Like, it was just a great performance by the Rabbitohs and a reason why they're a premier side.
I loved when Campbell Graham scored that second try, the energy that the entire South Sydney team showed and the way that they gave it to the crowd and everything. You just tell they're in for a big year.
I love it. You can tell they're so bonded. They're so ready. It's going to be a big year for Rabbitohs. I can't wait. As long as they stay injury-free. Now, onto the Sharkies. The biggest concern for me from the Sharkies isn't talent, isn't that they still can definitely contend for a premiership. It's only one game. The biggest concern, 64% completion rate, but this one's even worse, 52 missed tackles.
Oof.
Compared to the Rabbitohs 23. And that's really un-Craig Fitzgibbon-like. Like, he'd be, if he had hair, he'd be pulling it out. Like, 52 missed tackles for a team that, didn't they go from the worst defensive side to the best last year?
The best goal line defence in the comp or something like that. Yeah.
You know, so that's a bit of a concern. I know it's only round one, but we only can judge what we can judge, guys, what's in front of us. And it was really, outside of that first 20, really disappointing. And some may say, well, they were missing Nico Hines. Nico Hines doesn't make tackles for you. Nico Hines doesn't complete sets for you. So
Braden Trindle was not their issue.
Yeah, Trindle was good.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can sort that out. The good thing is like these are really identifiable problems that can be sorted out literally within 5 days. Like they could do a 5-day turnaround, come out next week and be the Sharkies that we know.
Yeah.
But definitely disappointing round
And
one.
when you talk about those missed tackles, what did you say, 52 of them?
52.
19 of them came from the left edge of Talakai, Moylan and Wilton.
Oh.
Wow. So you got to look at that and go, then they need to fix that up ASAP. Because if they don't fix it up, it's going to be video sessions every week when you're playing the Sharkies. They're just going to be coming there all the time.
Yep.
What do you guys think of the Sharkies?
Yeah, I thought we obviously mentioned that tackle that Ilias made on Mulatalo where he knocked the ball loose. And I said last week, I love Mulatalo. I love that, when he scores a try, he's already smiling, he's already carrying on. It's great. But I love that he got his pants pulled down on that play. That try saver he made on Moses Thompson. If it wasn't for Ilias, that would have been the try saver of the month.
Yeah,
it just happened to be in the same game as Ilias. So credit to him on that play. A good little bounce back. I thought the try that Katoa scored just on halftime, that was vintage Sharkies. When they get it right, you can't defend them.
You literally, they're so silky, so smooth. Timmy, what do you think of Sharkies?
I had highlighted that try in halftime as well because you were going, no Nico Hines there. Trindle came in, scored that try. I was like, oof, jeez, they can move a ball, these boys. I thought Trindle's great. Like, he's such an elite. Like, I think he's just starting NRL half. He's just stuck behind two absolute guns. And Nico's obviously got his injury issues at the moment. Matty Moylan, a big history of injury. So he'll get his opportunities this season and a great bloke to call upon. Look, far from clinical, round one, the Sharkies, but there are enough signs there to say that with Nico Hines coming back, I wouldn't be too concerned.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned, Sharkies fans. Definitely disappointed, for sure. You don't want to, if you're a premiership contender, you don't want to be rolling that out round one. But it's round one. It's such a long season. You're not even going to remember. When it gets to round 15, 16, you're not even going to remember what round one was like. So they'll bounce back. They'll be fine. They've got identifiable problems that if they complete at an 80% completion rate, I mean, the game, 27-18, you have to say that the game's going to be way tighter if they completed 20% more.
There's so many points in them.
So many points. The fact that it's 27-18 and they had 64% completion and 50 missed tackles, 52, that I guess that can be considered a glass half full kind of looking at it. But, they'll bounce back. Just disappointing. Just disappointing. Now, on to the incredible match of the round, the real match of the round. Dolphins defeat the Roosters 28-18. One of the great moments in rugby league. One of the great moments in rugby league for Wayne Bennett to do this again, with a side that I think, if I recall, I obviously tipped the Roosters. I think I said 12 to 16 points. and I said that I feel like the Dolphins will fight in it and keep it, I guess, rough and rugged, but eventually the Roosters class will be a bit too much. I mean, if you didn't know that was the Dolphins' first game and the Roosters rower, you would think the Dolphins were the Roosters and the Roosters were the Dolphins,
Yep.
which is shocking to say. Like, I don't know where I sit with the Roosters at the moment because, yes, the Roosters notoriously slow starters. Yes, they build into years for sure. But, like, it feels like they've been trying to find the way they play footy for a few years now. And it still feels like they don't feel any closer to finding their style of rugby league. And it's the start of the year and they have relatively the same, Cheese is obviously an addition. But outside of that, Keary, Tedesco, Walker have all played quite a bit of footy together. But back to the Dolphins. What an incredible achievement to play the Roosters. The Roosters are basically favourites to win the comp outside of Penrith, but before going to this game, favourites to win the comp. Dolphins come out in their first ever game and play like that with the roster that they had. It was absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the great moments in rugby league. It should never be forgotten. And also, it should be appreciated for how hard that is to do. To beat the Roosters in your first ever NRL game. Kafusi was absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best defence I've ever seen from a wide running forward. I mean, the thing as well is like, you spread it across the board, like nearly every single player was incredible for the Dolphins. Sean O'Sullivan looks like he'd been playing NRL for bloody 5 years. He was... Then you got Katoa, who has an error or two early on, finds a way to bounce back, and he does. Like, the mental fortitude of a rookie, a teenager, debuting for a new club, Suncorp Stadium, against the scary Roosters pack, the mental fortitude, you can almost guarantee that he's going to be a great player because his ability to bounce back after tough errors. What an achievement. What do you think of the game, Guru?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I obviously had the Roosters winning. I probably had them winning by a little bit more than what you did. Not as much as Tim did, obviously. And can be... I've got a little wager to put on the table here. Uh-huh. I've managed to organise. It's on its way down to Sydney now to get one of the Finns who's in the crowd to us. And I think if the Dolphins beat the Raiders this week, maybe you fin up next week. What do you reckon?
Yes, Timmy, don't be a coward, bro. Far out.
Yeah, I'll do it, and then I'll also punch a finny of a bloke tin out of the fin when I'm done, like old mate did in the crowd.
Okay, how good. I like that. Is that how confident, the Raiders get the win?
No, not at all. I just feel like I deserve it. No, we have a lot of opinions on this show, and, we get some right, we get some wrong. Some we get very wrong. And mate, I was so critical on the Dolphins all pre-season, and, mate, sometimes you just got to cop your medicine. I was well off the money with this one. They played tremendous footy. It's such a credit to them. Why ever doubt the master coach, Wayne Bennett, who's done this for, 30 years. Such a credit to the whole organisation and every player out there to come out and do what they did against the Roosters. So, while you never like being that badly wrong, it was for the sake of the game. See the Roosters get towed, and the Dolphins, who, I was worried coming into the competitions as a new side, and I didn't want to see them get beat up. I was just giving my honest thoughts. To see them come out and do what they did was like, this is great for rugby league.
Has there ever been a better situation to be completely wrong about, though?
Exactly.
I'm actually stoked we were.
Oh, yeah. Mate, 100%.
It's the best.
It's the best. Like, think about before this game, in all honesty, it felt like the Dolphins had almost limped into the competition. Whereas, 17th team, but the buzz around it wasn't really there. Maybe internally and maybe in Queensland there was a lot of buzz, but there wasn't that much buzz in New South Wales. There really wasn't. It was kind of like, yeah, cool, we need to expand. That's great. Redcliffe are a club that's been around forever. They got great backing. It's good for the game. Now, all of a sudden, the Dolphins become everyone's second team. They become the fan favourite. Everyone's talking about get your fins up. Finny's this, Finny's that. Put it this way. Here's an epitome of how things can change. There was a video that they put up. Arguably worst video on the internet. Now, if it was put up in irony, it's the best video on the internet. They put up a video of the boys going, get your fins up, and then some guy, is he someone? Apologies.
I have no idea.
Apologies if he is someone.
They're calling him Dwayne Bennett on Twitter.
The what?
Dwayne Bennett.
Dwayne Bennett. Anyway, some guy is like, get your fins up. I don't know. And like you can see the boys behind him like, we've got to do this because we're contractually obligated.
Poor old Eddie Lee just going, why am I here?
On? But that video, all of a sudden, and it's said in irony, but becomes a cool, funny thing. Everyone in the comments, fins up. And it becomes, the video is a laugh, but it becomes, you know what? How good. Let's get on board these boys. Let's get on board the Dolphins crew. This is a good, fun thing. And again, that's just 80 minutes of rugby league that have turned it, something into, oh my God, into something like, you know what? Let's get on board that.
Tell you what stood out to me with this team, that they are, us Aussies, we love an underdog. When you have a look at that Dolphins back line, it's incredible. Hamiso was not a first-choice fullback last year. Jermaine Osako was not a consistent first grader. Tessie New was not a consistent first grader. Branko Lee was not a consistent first grader. Ewan Aitken is the only one in their entire backline that was playing first grade last year, and he was playing back row, not centre.
And was that the Warriors too, so it's not like he's,
Yep. Then you've got Isaiah Katoa, who was playing SG ball last year. Then you got Sean O'Sullivan, another guy who's just a journeyman. Like, to have a backline like that and compete with any Roosters side ever, let alone this one, is an incredible effort.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with what they did. I'll tell you, the guy I'm really stoked for is Jeremy Marshall-King.
He was outstanding.
Oh, mate, do you remember the start of last year when he came out and said, I want to be a top 5 hooker, and he got absolutely fucking pizzled?
Yeah, and we were like, don't you want your hooker to say that?
Why wouldn't you want it? Find me an NRL player that doesn't want to be best in their position.
No.
It's so... Oh, that frustrated me so much. And I was so happy to see him have such a big game yesterday. I thought he was incredible. And Felice Kafusi, you have a look through the history of Wayne Bennett teams, whether it be Bo Scott, whether it be Gordon Tallis, whether it, all these guys he's had for so long in his times, these absolute hitmen. And I reckon during this week, Wayne Bennett's pulled Felice Kafusi aside and said, hey, Isaiah Katoa's making his debut next year. You need to be his bodyguard.
Yep.
He's gone, yep, this is my mission.
Tony Carroll outside Darren Lockyer.
Perfect.
Dan Kemp on the wing with Darren Lockyer. Lane used to pull me aside and said, Kempy, I need you to protect Lockie. So I'd come screaming in. That's why I used to jam in all the time. Because I'm trying to protect Lockie.
Kempy,
that's great.
Did you ever put a shot on in the NRL?
Yeah, of course, mate. I don't think that game was filmed though.
Tried to fight Isaac Luke once, mate.
I was playing when all the games weren't filmed. You didn't get to watch it.
Back when the 2 o'clock game wasn't on TV or anything.
Sorry, mate. You won't be able to find any footage of it. Games weren't filmed. No, I didn't put any shots on. Who are you kidding? Are you serious? I was lucky to get the tackle done. I was just hanging on for me dear life, Timmy. Doing my best. But I still protect Lockie because they knew there was a staunch winger out there ready to fucking throw down.
My favourite part of Friday night was hearing you answer a question from someone where they asked you the try that you scored where it was thrown at your feet and you had to soccer it.
Oh, yeah.
Fella said to Kempy, goes, was that a set play? And I thought, fuck, I hope Kempy says yes. God, I hope Kempy says, yeah, Lockie threw it at my feet because I was a handy soccer player.
Set play. I mean, look, to be fair, I have joked about it being a set play before, so maybe
fair enough to it. Yeah,
maybe he was confirming whether it was a set play or not. But like it's like because it's a spiral pass, it looks set because it just goes straight to my foot. Me making Lockie look good like I always did, seriously. Never got any of the credit for his career. But back to the Dolphins, amazing. And like a guy like Kafusi, in the Queensland side for the last decade or however long it's been, let's just say 5 years, his position has never been questioned. But he also never gets hyped up. But games like this is where you get to see why his position has never been questioned. You look at the Storm, and for how many years did the big, your Kikias, your Olakawatus, all of these big, rangy back rows have come through, and you go, why was it that Storm, until obviously recently as he got older, they never budged, never went into the market, never brought anyone through? Like, he was a stalwart on that edge. Yesterday's game, is the reason why he was a stalwart on the edge. His defence is absolutely incredible, and people don't appreciate the only way you have good edge defense is if you have a good edge defender, because he's the one that dictates how much space you have, whether you have to shoot off the line, whether you have to slide. Everything hinges on the forward defender. Everything. Like, no matter what you say, the forward defender is the key to edge defence. And that's why Kaufusi is one of the best defensive edges we've ever seen.
And just circling back to it, and I know that you gave a reason potentially why, but in that game where you saw Cam Munster shoot up I've never seen Cam Munster do that before. First game without those two edge defenders there.
Yeah, I mean, getting used to new combinations.
Like
sure.
they are the voices that are normally on those edges that are communicating everything. I remember, I've told the story before, I remember, and it's funny, they've ended up here together. When Branko Lee joined the Melbourne Storm, he essentially said to me, I arrived there with no idea what to do in defence. And then all I was told was, listen to what Felice says. And it was sweet.
Yeah, mate. He's incredible, Kaufusi. Sean O'Sullivan, outstanding. Katoa, great bounce back. Their forward pack matched it with the Roosters' forward pack. So, I mean, what else is there to say? It's amazing. It's an incredible feat. What else is there to say?
Sean O'Sullivan's one stood out for me was just, again, a halfback's job is essentially getting their back rower one-on-one with the half. His work pronunciation, Lemmy Lou, is that what we're going with at the moment?
I think so, yeah.
Lemmy Lou, to get him one-on-one with Sammy Walker was superb from Sean O'Sullivan.
The moment that I loved was Isaiah Katoa. I've spoken about him for a long time, but he got absolutely whacked by Sua'ali'i at one point. That would have killed him. And then he had off the kickoff where he tried to trap the ball and he screwed that up. They got the ball back. But then later in the game when he sort of got into it, that try that he set up for Jermaine Osako where it was last tackle and he ran. But what I loved is that he didn't run into the line. He ran the perfect distance, just 3 or 4 metres to get on the outside of his man, and then he handed the ball off. And you see, so many young halves in that situation in their first game would have gone too deep in the line, would have held the ball for too long, would have gone for the giant cutout ball. It's just what Isaiah's capable of doing. And I don't think he'd be able to explain to you how he did that in that moment or how he understood exactly when to release it, but his timing was perfect.
Yeah, and there's all little bits of class from him as well. I think it was in the first half. So Tedesco defending up in the line. Isaiah Katoa looks up, boom, chip into the corner. He gets a repeat set from about 25, 30 metres out. The confidence to do that. We've got halves that have been in the game for 5, 6 years that wouldn't have identified or had the confidence to go, Teddy's in the line, I better chip over the top and get a repeat set. I mean, the signs are all there for him. The signs are all there. He's going to take time to develop, so be patient with him. Don't put too much pressure on him. But, I mean, for your first game, yes, he had those error or two, but for your first game to have those big moments and big impacts, it's pretty good.
And I love that he had the big errors because he showed that he can bounce back from them.
Which you need.
100% you need it in first grade. So full credit to him. And also credit to Wayne Bennett. I mean, I didn't see a world where Anthony Milford wasn't in the round one side for a Wayne Bennett coach side. He's made that big decision. They've come out and won it. He's set a standard early.
Yeah. Yeah, as you said, Jeremy Marshall King was outstanding. 40 tackles, 2 try assists, line break. What a knock. Anyone else stood out for you, Timmy?
The GOAT, Marky Nichols, another day.
Try time, baby.
Another bit of meat. It was a big game. He's a big game player. It wasn't just a barge over either. It was like that late bit of footwork at the line. He's a nimble fella, old nosy. So
174 metres.
Mate, he was outstanding.
So good.
3 of those metres was for the try too, so it's not like he stat padded that at all.
And we haven't even mentioned Kenny Bromwich. This is Kenny Bromwich's stats. 17 runs, 139 metres, 44 post contact, 34 tackles, 0 misses, 0 errors. We haven't even spoken about Kenny Bromwich. And he's putting out performances like that against a crazy Roosters side on paper. What a game of rugby league. So good for the club. So good for Hamiso. We haven't even spoken about Hamiso. Where did that come from? The one thing we said about Hamiso is we don't feel like he gets involved enough. He was in everything yesterday. And all of a sudden you go, I can see him being a long-term fullback. And it's shame on me for ever doubting the great Wayne Bennett and whether, he's picked correctly as a fullback. I thought Hamiso was outstanding.
Yeah. Shout out to Branko Lee as well. I thought, for a guy that has struggled defensively over the years, I thought he really held his own in this game. Obviously marking up against Sua'ali'i in this one. I thought he really held his own. I know he scored that try, but it was obviously off a kick and everything. I thought he could wrap all these guys.
You're a Branko believer through and through, aren't you?
I always have been.
Yeah.
And he's rocks and diamonds in different moments, 100%. But he's a premiership winning centre at the Melbourne Storm. He's played Origin. And I thought he did a really good job yesterday.
Now, onto the Roosters. Roosters are tough. As we spoke about earlier, where I just don't see the direction. Like, when they play, I'm not seeing a style of footy, and then their completion rates was like, terrible. And I just wonder, yes, we all know that they can put a run together and win a comp, but you can't rely on that every single year. And unfortunately for the Roosters, and look, to be fair, they've struggled massively with injury, like being so unlucky, but they really haven't had any success since their back-to-back premierships, which is the way the salary cap should work. And I know that sounds ironic because you look at their team on paper, but I don't know. I'm getting, it's only round one, and that, if there's one team that can turn it all around, but I did expect a little bit better from Roosters in round one. I don't mind if they're clunky, but to be as clunky as they were, and look, I remember there was a time, I think it was last year, where I said it looks a little bit unsure as to who the guy is actually leading them around the park. And I still get that feeling with them, like, is Keary the guy? Is Teddy the guy? Because it seems like Teddy sometimes, but then or is Sam Walker the guy? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It's so weird because at the back end of last season, I feel like they had it sorted. Then that South Sydney game arrived, and that just threw everything out, and they obviously lost that game and bowed out. But you're right. It felt like once again it was just all over the place, and it wasn't ideal. Obviously, Victor Radley got injured. Brandon Smith had to go for a HIA at some point, but the classy players you've got between Sam Walker, Luke Keary, and Tedesco, they should have been better than what they were. Yeah,
I'm surprised. I got to say Radley, and I've already said it, but he had just got to chill. Yeah, his body's not going to last a full career if he keeps trying to shot blokes and that. And I love the way he plays. It's such a throwback. It's so incredible. But he's just, I want to see him on the field. I don't want to see him getting hurt like that. It kills me. I love him as a player.
Because he re-signed the other day for 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
Like, we've spent the last 3 years saying this.
I know. And then boom, first game back. And look, maybe it was just unlucky, but he was trying to pull a shot off. A good, honest shot. And unfortunately, it went wrong because of footwork, and then he's got a head knock again. It's like, fuck. I don't know. Maybe that's he's only got one mode, and that's the only mode he's got, and fair enough. Timmy, what do you reckon the Roosters?
Yeah, I mean, without dwelling on it too much, what they've done for this injury curse in the last 2 or 3 years, Matty Lodge was on top of that as well. Lodge got 35 minutes out. He's gone for a while. Radley, Cheese had his early HIA. Far out, they've had a tough trot.
Oh, mate.
It wouldn't have made a difference in this game because the Dolphins were so much better. And, mate, we spoke about it countlessly throughout the preseason about, Cheese coming in, another aggressive ball-running player there. Where's the direction going to come from? What is the Roosters' shape? We didn't know. We questioned it. They were headless chooks. They were all over the place, and there was no direction in this side. So, look, Joey Manu hopefully comes back in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Superstar, but I don't think he's going to help that either because it's just another head running around. So, a lot of question marks for the Roosters coming out of this.
Yeah. I think that, look, round one, if there's any team that can turn around, they can, but I think they'll be extremely disappointed with that.
And talk about just ambushed. They would have probably rightly so been going on pretty confident, but the line speed of the Dolphins, the intensity that they had this game, they just ambushed and blew them out of the water. So.
Yep. Now, on to the Titans versus Tigers. Titans get the job done 22-10. Only negative is Kieran Foran is out with an injury. But I thought the Titans were good to keep the Tigers to 10 points. I thought it was a really good, solid win. They always looked like they were in control. Tino had a big game. Seeing AJ Brimson in open space was absolutely phenomenal. I thought, what was the one critic we had of the Titans was their defence. And I think that although the Tigers weren't the best, I thought the Titans played some good, solid footy.
The thing I loved about the Titans in yesterday's game was that, shout out to him, Bo Fermor. He obviously got injured during the week. So, all the work they did in the trials of, guys on edges and whatever sides they were on and everything, they had to change that. They moved Fafita over to the left. Foz then went down injured and they just went ahead with the job and just got it done. I love to see that. Yeah, you had to bring Jaden Campbell on. You had to bring, Brimo into the 6th spot, and they just adapted and dealt with it, which I love to see. I don't know, I'm sure you boys are too, but Bo Fermor, I am devastated.
I know
for him.
Poor bloke. He was ready to have a massive year.
Huge year.
Now, I want to give a rap for Fafita. I thought Fafita was outstanding. He was one of their best. 206 metres, only 4 tackle breaks. And I say only as in he's running straight and hard.
Yep.
He's mixing his game up. He's not just crabbing across the field looking, tackle breaks. He's just mixing his game up. And I love it. He's getting involved. Like, how many runs do you have? 17 runs. You're kidding. How good is that? Like, David Fafita, 17 runs. He does this week in, week out. He can be everything we thought he was going to be. I love it. I think that Fafita's in for a massive, massive year. Brimo was outstanding, as he always is. I mean, when isn't Brimo outstanding? Campbell came on and showed his danger. I want to give a shout out to Moe Fotuaika. I thought he was really good off the bench. Come off the bench, 164 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, 0 misses. Great off the bench. Tino does what he always does. Just a real good solid win. Again, we talk about direction. Sam Verrills was great at 9. He showed you what it's like to have just a good, solid 9 that gets you around a park and delivers on what he needs to deliver on. Anything stood out for you, Timmy?
Nothing majorly. When Fafita ran that line outside Foz, you just
so horny.
This could be so horny.
Yeah.
You just went, this could be everything we've ever wished. And look, that spot was obviously going to be Beau Fermor. It's like, this is what this combination, the potential is through the roof. Foz, Hammy, I think it is. God, I hope it's not bad.
I think it's his PCL.
PCL?
I think. Can you check that, please, Matty?
Okay, so hopefully nothing too serious. And you just don't want Hammies with Foz because they just recur. But yeah, Fafita was terrific. Phil Sammy had a big game.
Yep.
It was enormous. We knew that left edge was going to be big with Foz there, but they just looked tremendous.
Yep.
So, God, I hope he's back sooner rather than later. We should... Toby Sexton probably comes in to replace him.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Big opportunity for him to say, I'm still here, boys.
Yep.
Looks like PCL, yeah.
PCL.
Okay.
Now, quickly on to the West Tigers. Super disappointing. Super disappointing. I thought Adam Dewey was probably their best player. Looked a bit rudderless, directionless. I'm just not getting as excited as I thought. I'm really surprised at Api Coruscant. Like, what's going on with that?
He's the face of the club. Just put him on the field. Like don't get cute with it. Just put him on the field.
I just don't understand. You got your captain on the bench. And also as a club, you can't afford to have an Origin hooker off the bench. Like, what is doing? Even if he was unfit, get him on for the start and then bring him off, give him a breather, bring him back on. I don't understand.
You don't like the approach. I know Mitch Kenny is a slightly different player.
They can't afford to. We're talking about the Tigers here, not the Penrith Panthers.
Game 1, they're trying to make a statement. They're trying to turn over a new leaf.
I'd have started him as well, but like the first 20 minutes, we've seen the success it had at Penrith in Origin of him coming off 20 minutes in, then playing 60 minutes straight, and he gets a tiring pack and he tears them to shreds through the middle. You don't necessarily want him being an 80-minute player anyway. I wasn't too against him coming off the bench. I just thought he should have played 60 and not 46 minutes.
No, I think he needs to start. Like, I just don't think the Tigers are in a position to... They just need the best team on the park to start and get points.
And play 80?
Potentially. Like, what I would try to do is see where the game led us. And if we need him out there 80 to get the job done, we leave him out there for 80.
You let Appy decide that.
Exactly. You don't bring him on when the game's already over.
I feel like late last year, they might be making this up, but I was sort of in team Appy 80 at the Tigers, and you two were saying, no, you don't need him playing 80 minutes. No?
Is that Appy at the Tigers?
I don't recall that.
Appy, maybe
there wouldn't have been a world
Reed
where I would
Marnie?
have said keep Appy on the bench for the first
I think it was Reed
game of the
Marnie.
Reed Marnie, maybe.
Yeah, see, Reed Marnie, I would always start Reed Marnie, but if I can get him off at the 65 to 70th minute mark, I would get him off.
Reed Marnie.
Because I don't want him getting bashed up.
When Appy came on the field, it was 12-0.
I know.
The game was done. I'm sorry, you're not the Panthers. You need to have your best players on the field to start.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Even with the Reed Marnie situation, I would always start Reed Marnie. Start him. You keep him on there for 60 minutes, 70 minutes. If you need him to be on there for 80 to get the job done, you get him to do the job done.
And if we're in round 21 and Appy's played 60 minutes the entire season, you're trying to just manage him and you bring him off the bench, then fine. But round 1,
no, it's bizarre.
You're trying to change the entire culture of this club. You're at Leichhardt Oval. Get on the right foot. I'm sorry, like Jake Simkin, you've made it evident over the last 2 to 3 years you don't think he's the guy for the future. Why not start with the guy that you're building your club around?
And it's too much pressure on Simpkin. Like, get him to come off the bench and come in with the stings out of the game so he can get some confidence together.
It's so frustrating.
It makes no... Yeah, it's very, very surprising if I'm being honest. Brent Naden ran for 200 metres, so that's a massive knock, to be honest. Adam Dewey was good. Luke Brooks nearly ran for 200 metres, but again, it's about the direction and all a bit rudderless. Yeah, quite a disappointing first game, to be honest, from the Tigers. I thought they'd be a little bit better.
About poor Sean Bloor. Same old story. 18 minutes off for the HIA.
Can't cut.
I don't know when Bateman's due back. Very differing stories coming out of the West Tigers as per, but I hope he gets another opportunity, Sean Bloor.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, hope he does.
Tell you who looked really good that we spoke about a lot in the trials, Brent Naden.
Mate, he's a good footy player. He really is. I've always been surprised at how he hasn't kicked on the way we, hope he would kick on.
200 metres, 6 tackle breaks in a losing side. That's unreal. At centre.
That's centre.
Great.
It's great. So hopefully Tigers can bounce back because that was quite disappointing.
Kempy, I can't believe you haven't touched on it, mate. Alex Twal, 68 minutes, 45 tackles. Guess how many misses?
0. I don't need to touch on it, mate. The fans know. The community know. Twal doesn't miss tackles, mate. He doesn't miss them. Another little shout, though. I want to give a little Smokey shout. Titans. Jojo for feeder, Smokey for wing. Queensland.
Origin. Mm.
I really like Jojo for feeder. And if Corey Oates keeps dropping the ball... I love Oatesy. I love him. He does some of the toughest carries you can ever see. That drop ball.
Who were your wingers last year?
Sua'ali'i and Selwyn Cobbo.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So if one of them gets injured, there's a world where Jojo Fafita jumps everyone, I reckon. Like, again, it's smoky chat, guys. Yeah. It's not definite chat.
Xavier Coates in that line too somewhere.
Xavier Coates has been a bit quiet for me lately. He obviously got injured, but he just didn't kick on. Hasn't kicked on the way I thought he would at the Storm.
Especially going to Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, but he has been injured, so there is an excuse for that. Anyway, Tigers, chat done?
All done.
Hopefully they can bounce back. Now let's get quickly to our tips next week. Brought to you by Sportsbet, guys. Partners of Bloke in a Bar. Make sure to, I'd say download their app, but I guarantee all of you have their bloody app. But yeah, you can share a bet with your mate. So they've got a new feature. You just press one button, it copies your mate's bet. But anyway, let's get into tips next week. Penrith Panthers versus the Rabbitohs. Penrith paying $1.54. Rabbitohs paying $2.50. What do you got here, boys?
I'm going to take the Panthers in this one with a few middles missing for South Sydney.
Yeah, real shame about the Bunnies middles missing, so got to go Panthers.
I am going to go Panthers, but I don't mind the $2.50 for the Rabbitohs. I know they're missing a few forwards, though. Anyway, Para Eels, Sharkies.
I'm going to take the Sharkies in this one. I think there's value at $2.60. Big value there.
I like Sharkies as outsiders too.
I like Sharkies at $2.60. I really do.
Yeah.
It just depends if Hines is back.
I'm taking. That price says to me Hines isn't playing, and I'm still going to take that.
Still going to take him?
Yep.
In which case, get on early because if Nico does come in, that crashes.
Crashes. I'm going to go the Eels. Eels to get the win. You going Sharkies?
Yeah, I'll go Sharkies.
Okay. Who are you going, Matty?
Yeah, I'll go Cronulla as well.
And who are you going, Penrith?
I'll go South. I'll go South.
Broncos, Cowboys. Broncos are favourites. Broncos at home. Who we got, boys?
I'm going to go the Cowboys, but I think I'd be avoiding this game. I think I'll sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, I know they were great last week and beat Penrith, but Cowboys as outsiders surprises me for sure. I'm going the Cowboys.
I'm going Broncos, baby.
I'll go Cowboys.
Roosters, Warriors. Warriors $4 is almost...
I think it's value considering Roosters could have pretty much their whole forward pack out.
Yeah. I like $4. Get in early, son, on Sportsbet. Wow.
Yeah. Give me the line there every day of the week. I'll say the Roosters, but that value is very hard to ignore for the Warriors.
Yeah, straight tip, Roosters.
Yeah, straight tip, Roosters, but value-wise.
Yeah, same here.
$4. Fuck. Dolphins, Raiders.
Oh, I love seeing Timmy in a fin, so I'm going the Dolphins. $3.
Raiders.
Dolphins paying $3. Bit of value there, but straight tip, going Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going Raiders.
Storm, Doggies.
Melbourne for me.
Storm.
Tigers, Knights. Tigers are favourites, $1.60. There's value there for me with the Newey Knights.
Yeah, there's value there, but fuck it. I'm going to tip the Knights again. for the 4th week in a row.
Because I'm going to be at Leichhardt Oval and I want to ride them, I'm going the Tigers.
Okay.
I'm going Newcastle.
Going Knights.
Ooh, 390s at 235.
Dragons, Titans.
This is interesting. I'm going to...
Dragons round 1, eh?
Dragons round 1. Jack Bird sounds like he'll play 13. Benny Hunt will be... I don't know. I'm going to take the Dragons at home.
I'm going to go the Titans. If Foz was there, I'd be a lot happier about it, but I'll go Titans.
Yeah, I got a feeling about the Dragons this week. I'm going Dragons.
Yeah, I'm going Dragons. At home, no Foz. I think Dragons get the job done. That's all brought to you by Sportsbet, guys. New partners of Bloke in a Bar. Support them. They support us, guys. Also, show done and dusted. Make sure you can actually join Beers and Break Evens.
Yeah, our Beers and Break Evens Supercoach group. The code for that is 353745. Kempy, we've got $5,000 up for grab there, courtesy of Blue Wealth Property. $5,500 if you're an NRL club member.
Well, seriously, if you listen to Bloke and you aren't a part of the Beers and Break Even Supercoach group, I don't know what you're doing.
You're kidding yourself.
$5,000 prize. Okay, that's us done and dusted, guys. As usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.
This show is brought to you by Sportsbet. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.